Hello all and welcome to the director's commentary of the history of Angry Birds Plush, aka the classic set documentary. I am your host, of course, Maximus Overdrive, the director and producer of this 2-hour, 10-minute, and 21-second documentary dedicated to Commonwealth Angry Birds plushies. Yes, this is a thing. And yes, this director's commentary is a thing. This is kind of something I've always wanted to do with this particular video. I mean, after all, this was years in the making, right? And well, this used to be something I used to see on DVDs as a bonus feature, and maybe you found this on the Classic Set Documentary DVD if, well, we ever make something like that, but I just wanted to go through this video with you all, and maybe we'll look at some cut content, elaborate on why certain editing decisions were made, and overall go over some details that maybe weren't mentioned in the video, right? This will be a director's commentary if you've never seen such a thing. This will be quite cool. I think we're going to have some fun. So, let's start. It's 2 hours and 10 minutes, so I guess we should get a move on. Angry Bird plush toys. We all at least had one as a kid. And indeed we did. Well, I find it hard to believe you managed to escape them. They were quite literally everywhere. Wally World? Ha. Child's Play. Toys R Us? That's a given. Shady mall vendors. Got that covered. It is crazy when you think about it. You look back on these times, and part of this video, what I did with this is I just put photo after photo after photo from my years of archival. I just wanted these photos to kind of be a time machine of sorts. These photos are a glimpse into the nostalgic past, right? Just a window into a time that we all wish we could go back to. It's just the coolest thing to see all these photos compiled here. And of course, these Angry Bird plushies, they were everywhere. And that was kind of the point of this beginning section, just to drive this point home, right? You couldn't have missed these things. I don't care who you are. If you're just some random dude on the internet, you have seen these things. Unless, of course, you're happen to be younger than most of these plush toys. I mean, after all, they are almost 15 years old. This video is coming out for the 15th anniversary of the Angry Birds franchise itself, which of course happened to be December 11, 2009. If this video happened to come out next year, I would probably couch it as the 15th anniversary of the plushies themselves, but making it an anniversary video of the franchise itself, that felt just a little bit more apt, right? Boarding in on your flight. Slightly Giant Red is absurd. Okay. Cable cars. Look at that later. In Singapore. Cable cars in Singapore. On the streets what an event Moscow. That was. Look at how beautiful Moscow is. Outer space, the ISS. I believe my point is clear. For many, these plush toys hold
what a beautiful retail display box, or as we called them, the PDQ, right?
The most iconic
I got that from an eBay seller and fellow plush collector, My Pepper Trash Angry Bird Plush Museum, goes by a couple different names. He got it off someone who was selling it in California years back. It was like a $300 item or something like that for me, which I was happy to pay. I trust Trash, he's a good collector. I knew he'd ship it all well and dandy. He got it from another collector in California who was selling it off for, I believe, a couple $1,000s, but it came with a whole lot more. It wasn't just the box itself. And even me, what I paid, I didn't pay $300 for just cardboard. It came with a bunch of first edition plushies, K10 I believe they were. They were all backpack clips, mostly red, some Chucks, Bomb. I think it might have been a Chuck. A red Chuck, blue. Yeah, I think that was it. Those are the only plushies that were made for K10. And it had some 5-inch plushies as well. There was the darker fur red, which is quite infamous now after this video. No one talked about that before, but I brought it up here. You can even see it in this shot over in the corner over here. That replaced the Luke Skywalker that typically sits there on my shelf. This PDQ though is so cool. I mean, just look at that #1 app. You got the old render of red on there with the damaged helmet pig and all that. That old logo, the burst, the sunrise. They call it the AV burst in the artwork. That's how the file is labeled. What a cool box, and it's cool to orient all the plushies like that. Always wanted to put them in there.
There they are.
Make them look all nice and pretty.
There they are.
On the website,
social media pages.
Social media.
There they
you couldn't avoid it. In an era of social media,
these plush toys were a core part of what made the franchise.
Of course, there had to be plastered on there.
Serving as a huge source of revenue for Rovio, generating around $400 million
a curious shot that
was.
$400 million. Can you imagine? How many plush toys would that have to be?
High quality, yet never set you back more than $20.
What a perfect red. Squeeze Me, first gen, the second gen hang tag.
Toy company with loads of experience with gaming franchise in the past. But
I love these shots. All these shots are shot on my Canon R50 with my 2470 millimeter adjustable lens.
Story about Rovio.
Expensive
It's not a
camera
story
equipment,
about
but
Angry Birds the game.
hey, you know, gotta do these
Although we'll
plushies
talk
justice,
about
right?
them extensively,
4K
our
30.
focus today is
These
on the
videos are actually
well-known
rendered out to 4K
New-York-based
60, but
Commonwealth Toy Novelty, and the people
got some
really behind these
got some
plush
time
toys.
interpolation
And while we're at it,
techniques
let's
that are
recap the entire history
that are
of the
involved here with
characters
that
in
one.
the classic game. Get cozy in your nest piece,
Looks so crispy,
because
though.
we're going down quite the rabbit hole. Cue the cat.
Cue the cat, indeed. So for this particular video, I thought I'd make a bespoke intro to commemorate how cool this thing was. This, of course, being the greatest video I've ever made. I'm not sure it'll ever be topped. I don't want to say, you know, never, particularly, but this video will never be topped. And in this scene, you can see, of course, front and center, this is my all-time dream in real life. I mean, I've accomplished one of my dreams, which is to acquire every single Angry Bird plush that exists and to archive it all on my YouTube channel. But my other goal in life is to acquire this car that you see right here. This is a 2011, 2010, could be as well. They made it for 2 model years. BMW M3 GTS. This is a car they only made about 135 of. It was only sold in Europe, and this is the dream for me. Fire orange, comes with a naturally aspirated 4.4 liter V8, roll cage, all that. It's every day in life I work towards this thing. It's the ultimate goal, ultimate dream. And of course you can see a little silhouette of me in there. Act like I'm driving. I got my hand on the wheel. That's a fun little edit I did there. You can even see the wheels turning on this little PNG. Most of the edits I do in these videos are all just PNG animations. And in the background, you can see all sorts of references to significant pieces of Angry Bird history and or my history of my YouTube channel, my interests. Got Randy Moss in there, my favorite football player of all time. Yeah, Toy Story. I'm a Toy Story guy as well, even though I never talk about it on the channel. And the buildings in the background, you got the Rovio HQ, the Fujiwara Tofu Shop. You got the Jacob Cave Javits Convention Center. I believe there were some other Angry Bird related stories. You can see Peckish back there. And the skyline itself, that is the New York City skyline. Because, of course, we're talking about Commonwealth Toy in this video. And, you know, they're headquartered up in Manhattan. And you can even see this shot, too. This is Commonwealth's HQ. 1440 Broadway. And even in this shot, you can see Grayson down there. That's my cat. And then you can see my sadly deceased kitty mystery, right? Hiding behind this Mercedes S-Class over here. So this is the Commonwealth HQ, 1440 Broadway. If you happen to be in New York, walk by it, just know there's some Commonwealth shenanigans going on up there. Of course, you can see my car, and you get my name plastered on the plate. Oh my god, he's real. That's the tagline. So for each one of these chapters in the video, I've segmented this video into 25 chapters. I tried to make it a round number because we like multiples of 5, right? From humble beginnings. What a nice little name for this chapter. I tried to make the little chapter cards reminiscent of the episode cards from the Angry Birds game. Thought that made sense. From humble beginnings. Quite cool. You can see Yako Isolo, the Yako Isolo bird.
Was founded
Anyways,
by 3 students from the Aalto University of Science and Technology in Helsinki, Finland.
some cool shots in
After
here.
success in a mobile
Always like to
game
credit
development
the
competition
original
and the
creator
recommendation
of
a familiar
the
face,
video,
they decided to
the
form
source of
their
the
own
photos.
mobile game
Though a
company.
lot of the photos you'll see in this video of all the stores and all that, I've acquired all these photos throughout my years of research on these particular plush toys, and a lot of them, I mean, either the source doesn't exist anymore. I would try and reverse image search it, just nothing comes up anymore. Just happened to be a time and a place where I found these photos. Maybe the original websites weren't archived in the Wayback Machine. The photos weren't archived there. But a lot of them are sourced directly from Flickr. So if you look in the description of the actual History of Angry Bird Plush video, you can find my Flickr page and you just go to my favorites and you can see all the photos that were sourced from Flickr. If I went through this video and actually credited each individual photographer, that would probably take way too long for me to do. I didn't really feel like doing that in the same way I like to do it with crediting people for their YouTube videos that I use. And like you just saw here with the Aalto University, I gave them a little credit in the top corner. I'll always do that in all my videos for YouTube videos.
Students from the Aalto
And to some extent, social media, websites, articles.
at the recommendation of
But for a lot of these photos, they're found on the internet some way or another. And it's been probably well six to 10 years of photo archival that's just
They
being
decided to
put into
form
this
their
one
own
video.
mobile game company,
Always had the
initially
idea that I'd
named
make a video
Waylo,
like this, right?
located in Espoo, Finland.
Some cool footage here of the
The
old
startup
Rovio
company was small,
office here.
and at first the three founders did most of the work developing
I don't know
the
if you know what editing,
games. By
what
2005,
game
after
design
receiving
software
a
that
small
is. Let me know.
investment,
That's quite
the
cool.
company expanded to 25 people and renamed itself Rovio.
Ah, yes. Rovio Mobile.
At
Your
this point,
trusted
their
partner.
goal was just to stay afloat, sustaining by doing projects for other companies
like
such as Electronic
Nokia
Arts,
Engage
but
and
nothing garnered them enough
Java
independent
games.
commercial success
Need for
to
Speed.
sustain
Shout out to
revenue.
Need for Speed.
Fortunately for them, the gaming landscape has
Steve
had to
Jobs.
shake up in 2007.
The
with
iPhone,
release
of course,
the, iPhone, along
the
with
device
the Apple
that
App Store. This solved distribution
brought upon
problems, but Rovio
just
yet to
infinite
release a game that could
entrepreneurial
top the
opportunities.
charts.
And
Acknowledging the
allowed
competitiveness
Rovio
of
to
the
finally
application
realize their
market,
potential, right?
Rovio
They made some
developed
cool
the necessary
games. You should try out some of
criteria.
their
Their next game had to
early
be
attempts before
fast-paced,
Angry Birds, of
appealing
course.
to any and all audiences, and pending success, need to be translatable to other platforms.
I'd like to point out that a lot of the assets in this video, including this presentation background here, which I believe is supposed to be an early depiction of Piggy Island. You can see kind of that surf and turf, Bad Piggies kind of style of tree here with this volcano type structure in the middle, which you could picture that being kind of the Mighty Eagle Cave up top. I don't know if this is exactly what that's supposed to be. I don't think it actually has a canonical explanation. See this little island off to the side here, but this particular background was used for countless Rovio presentations and PowerPoints back in kind of that Rovio mobile days, kind of 2010, 2011 era. And we actually had the original artwork archived within Commonwealth. They gave me this hard drive that had all sorts of goodies on it. Of course, pictures from the factory from back then, and of course, tons of assets that Rovio provided for them directly, including presentations, and managed to extract the original background for here and use it. Why not? It's kind of cool, and it's fitting.
And of course, it needed an app icon that could stand out from the rest. Despite their efforts by early 2009,
and you'll also see throughout the video I created this little timeline at the bottom. Just kind of a nice little
Rovio
visual
found itself on the
quirk
brink of
I put in this video.
bankruptcy. Allow me to introduce you to Rovio CEO Michael
Just make it look a little bit more fancy, right? And then for each one of these significant figures that I introduce, I like to put a little name tag for them. Michael Head is pronounced Michael Head. Quite literally, if you want to be literal about it. Finnish man, Mr. Rovio himself, publishing aficionado. What a guy. What a guy.
Cousin of Nicholas Head, who was among the three founders.
And then, of course, we have Nicholas Head, Nickelhead, same thing. That's what I call him. Also Finnish man, Rovio founder, cooler cousin, debatably.
Michael was appointed as CEO in 2005, and despite concerns regarding the long-term prospects of the company, felt it was the right thing for him to do.
Right, so by 2009 we had already made some 50 games. Most of those were done as work for hire, but about 15 of them were our own games that we published. And we had done games that ranged, pretty much through all the genres. And up to that date, actually, funnily enough, our most successful game was a horror game series. But then when we came to 2009, we realized that we needed to change directions radically. And,
Of course they did.
And
They were quite the failure up to that point.
Everything we knew about making games, and we changed our strategy as well. From coming from a company that was serving all the different mobile gaming platforms, we chose to go to the iPhone.
And what a smart decision, and throughout this video I've included clips here to give you better context for what exactly the mentality was at the time. These are contemporary clips from around 2011 to 2012 generally, of these huge figureheads of Rovio, these top dogs basically, the CEO, CMO, the original founder, of course, being Nicholas Head. These guys, I want you to actually hear what they're saying out of their mouth, hear their particular words. I can only explain things so well from my perspective. You hearing what they have to say, I think that really reinforces the message that I'm trying to hit home in this video, right?
All along,
I think it's important to
they
hear
had
from
developed the
their
perfect
perspective
game to
and
stay in
directly from
business.
them.
Given they were already
That's a
51
cool
games
vintage
in and
Rovio
facing
mobile
a dire
sign.
situation,
That was a nice little find on
there was no
Flickr.
better time to identify what exactly that would be.
So again, go to my favorites tab
One
on Flickr, and
afternoon
you can
in late
find the
March in their office
original
overlooking
creator
a
for
courtyard
all
in
these
downtown
cool
Helsinki,
photos.
game designer Jaakko Iisalo.
There's Jaakko Iisalo, right? You got his little document here showing the George, the original Redbird, right, and his original concept for Angry Birds itself. This certainly isn't the original photo from 2009 where he's showing his coworkers, oh, look at this idea I have. This is surely a reenactment of the circumstance. Kind of a cool photo, though. Good find. Jaakko Iisalo. Jaakko Iisalo. It's not an L. This is not an L. It's a capital I. A lot of people will mistake that for an L. Also, Finnish man is basically Angry Birds. Kind of a weirdo. Yeah, if you look at a bunch of pictures of Jaakko Iisalo from around 2009, 2010, you'll find some funny photos. He looked like he's quite the comical guy. He's like the class clown, basically. The clown of the office. And of course, you would come up with an idea like this. This is so Jaakko Iisalo. What beautiful artwork he's got here. Of course, the background, I mean, these trees were basically copy and pasted right into the game, right? The design here didn't change all that much. Really, the background, just basically the colors were the only thing that changed from this to the final version. Really, the birds didn't really change all that much, to be honest with you. Of course, this purple bird, I mean, kind of looks like a plum, right?
Oops. While the picture gave them no clue,
that's probably the only one that's different, but you can see the blues, red,
and the team elected
two different versions of red.
People saw this picture and it was just magical, said Nicholas.
It was magical. We look back on that as Genesis, basically.
No feet and can't fly. And they're really angry.
They are really angry.
To think about why they are so angry. For such simple characters, they made us think so much. There was some magic to it. After 8 months and over 100,000
yes, but no one ever asked how the Angry Bird is, right?
The project was ready to hit the scene. It would be called Angry Birds, debuting on the App Store on December 11th, 2009.
Of course, I gotta hit the play button here. This is a recreation of the start screen. Hit the play button. Actually, looks like you're pressing it. It looks kind of cool. Nice little
game that could appeal to everyone.
Nice little animation there.
So they made the premise incredible.
All these animations are done through keyframing within Adobe Premiere Pro. That is my editing software. This is the first video I ever employed After Effects for, though. I use Adobe Premiere Pro 2023 as well as After Effects 2023. They work for me. I could probably get a cracked version of Premiere Pro and After Effects from 2012, kind of that era, but I don't know. I'm more than happy to pay the subscription fee. For as much as I hate it, I wish you could just buy a license for it and just own the software, but of course we don't live in those days. They have to scam everyone somehow, but I'm perfectly fine with it because the YouTube ad revenue annually happens to cover the costs on that one. And I think it's well worth it, just to have the, not the latest version. I'm happy with the way 2023 works. I didn't bother to update for 2024. I don't think I'm going to. I have a rhythm that works for me, a bunch of presets that I like, so.
Birds with unique abilities.
So I had to learn After Effects specifically for this video. I'd never used it before, really. I think I used it once. I experimented around with it, but I never ended up actually using it, using something I animated within there for this video. The reason why you want to have Premiere Pro and After Effects, at least from my perspective, would be because Premiere Pro, everything you put into there, it rasterizes instantly. So if I wanted to use a PDF or an SVG, that's going to rasterize instantly. It's going to look all crusty if I try and zoom in on it. You see, that's like that pixelated look that you'll see. And of course, I'm trying to go for the best visual fidelity in my video. I render at 4K 60. This video itself was 150 gigabytes worth of storage. It almost killed my PC trying to export it. Luckily, I had no issues there. Had to do a couple different exports to weed out some issues here and there, which you can really only see if you actually render up to 4K. But with After Effects, you can use SVGs and PDFs and all that kind of stuff, vector assets, and you can essentially have them continually rasterized so you don't lose that image fidelity, which is something I wanted to do for this video because I wanted to do some pretty cool animations. Go show off the video editing prowess that I've acquired over the years, as well as the knowledge for these particular Angry Bird plushies that we're talking about here. And also, at this point, let me
Structures
play.
containing green pigs using a slingshot.
This is where I
aiming
talk
with your
about the
finger on
Angry Birds
touchscreen.
game itself,
If a
which
level
you
is
can
deemed complete
argue
once
is
all
the
the
most
pigs
bland
are,
section of the
quote-unquote,
video, because
popped,
we all
that's
know how
all
Angry
part
Birds
of the
works, right?
equation.
I don't need
A
to
casual
explain it to you,
player can
really.
get through levels
But
quickly
of
with
course,
less stars
I feel the
rewarded.
need to explain
The
it to
more
you.
dedicated players
Because
can
I feel
strive
as
for
if
perfection
you
on
need to
each
know
and every
how
level.
these, how the game itself became to be in order to understand how the plushies came to be. You just need that context right before. I feel like it's important to have that fresh in the mind, and a lot of people may not know the minutia of all these little details. I'm not going into, super intricate detail here with how everything became to be. It's kind of a summary, basically, a 10-minute summary at that, but I'd like to think it's relatively brief considering the length of the video. This section could have easily been half the video, like it was when I first tried to do something like this. That video ended up being about 20 minutes long, and really, I think the section about the creation of the game itself took up more than half of that video, but here, I'll spare you 10 minutes. I love this sound. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
The result was a game that allowed users to play either a couple of seconds or a couple of hours.
It really
Catering
is
to
such
the
a great
full
game.
spectrum of early mobile gamers.
It's simple, but it works for me. I find myself going back to specifically Angry Birds Trilogy, and that of course is always the gameplay that you'll see in my videos. Angry Birds Trilogy. It's the greatest from a fidelity perspective, which again I'm trying to achieve the best visual fidelity. This game, it does that for me with all of its really cool animated backgrounds. The lighting here, just they knocked it out of the park for the Xbox 360 and PS3. And I sincerely hope one day that we can get some kind of 4K 60 remaster. That'd be super great. I know people in the modding community have been doing retexturing mods for the PC version, but those use the Wii assets. I don't want any of that. I want the Xbox 360 PS3 experience, specifically with all the mods. And luckily, we do have emulators like the RPCS3, I believe it's called, that I've used here and there, but even then, my PC isn't powerful enough to run that at 4K, and you got some visual issues. And if you try and run it at 60 frames, that really doesn't work out too well. Trust me, I've tried that. So you need to have a very specific PC configuration for that one to maybe get that to work. I'm not savvy enough when it comes to that. I'm just the guy with the Angry Birds and the bad piggies, right? But I always try and show trilogy footage when I can, but I don't like to heavily rely on Angry Bird gameplay footage like some of my fellow Angry Bird YouTuber compatriots who simply narrate over simple Angry Bird gameplay that isn't even trilogy. It's just recorded straight off their mobile device, and it looks like absolute crap, and it really doesn't make for a good video. For me, the visual aspect of a video, that's the most important thing. Otherwise, I'd be listening to a podcast. I don't want to just listen to what you have to say from an audio perspective. I want to see something. The video should complement the audio. The video shouldn't just be there so you can publish something to YouTube. It shouldn't just be Angry Birds gameplay. If I want to play Angry Birds, or if I want to watch Angry Birds, I'm just going to go open the app on my phone. Or better yet, I'm going to go on my Xbox 360 or my PS3, and I'm going to boot up the game there. Or heck, go on my PC. Do whatever. I'm not here to listen to your analysis on the latest Rovio fiasco while I look at background gameplay or watch an Angry Bird Iceberg video and all they show is gameplay with just some uncropped pictures popping up on the screen like, oh, we're talking about this, let me show a picture of it in front of just generic Angry Birds gameplay. That is not a good video to me. That does not make for interesting content. It's lazy and it's pathetic, frankly. And I have great disdain for people who make videos like that. It is so lazy. Step up your game. Do better, okay? And look at my videos as an example. I sparingly use just pure Angry Birds gameplay. And when I do use it, I'm actually talking about the gameplay itself. It's not just there as filler. Basically, if I want to put in filler, well, I wouldn't put in filler. I would always try and create something that's animated, some kind of graphic, something you can look at that's interesting and that's unique to the video and that complements the audio. Anyways, rant over.
In an interview with GamePro, Michael had explained, it has to be easy to pick up and play, but hard to master.
I agree with him.
The easy to learn part is really important.
Also,
to
rare
us.
instance where I use
If you want to
subtitles. I'm not a
screenshot a
subtitles
game,
guy. If I
you
want
know
to turn
what
on
you
the
have to do.
subtitles, I will turn on the subtitles. I don't need you to put them in the video itself. It feels so TikTok-y and Snapchat-y or Instagram-y or whatever you want to call it. Did I mention I don't like vertical video either? 16 by 9 for life, not 9 by 16. Our eyes are oriented horizontally, not vertically. Turn your damn phone screen.
But that hardly covered their development costs, and certainly wasn't saving the company from inevitable bankruptcy. Rovio had a contingency plan, though, a way to reach more apps.
Such a high-quality image. Oof, look at that, you see all the pixels.
Shilingo, an independent publisher.
This was a pretty difficult graphic to create here.
Titles in the past, and had a good relationship with Apple. Once they proved the app's staying power in more markets.
And then I like to put little memes in my video. We've got some here. Got my keelhead photoshopped into there.
2010, Apple agreed to feature Angry Birds on the front page.
Nice little recreation of the App Store. From Game of the Week, February 11th, 2010, week of.
Second ever for an iPhone game.
I love that trailer, so iconic.
42 new levels with the Mighty Hoax level pack.
Mighty Hoax.
And even released a free-to-play light version.
Highest quality light version footage. This was a difficult shot to make as well. I just want to comment on this little climbing up the chart shot, as I like to call it. You can see everything here is some kind of vector asset or a really high quality PNG, except for the 5 stars, which are actually reused throughout this entire shot, I believe. I don't believe there's any star variation if you look closely. Now, of course, this isn't supposed to be taken at face value. I don't need you to be analyzing my video frame by frame. If you do, more power to you, but here you can see a motion blur, and all these individual game tiles are actually separate assets as well, and they're actually being keyframe moving down, while the Angry Birds one is being keyframe moving up at a faster rate, and it's also being tilted at the same time. Pretty cool little nifty animation. Now, I wish it kind of bounced into place. Sometimes you'll see people using kind of cool expressions within a software like After Effects in order to achieve something like this. This was all done in Premiere Pro, just using really high quality assets. Probably was hell on my PC, but you know, we get there. That's probably a ton of layers I put into that. You should see the timeline that I created for this. It was quite wild. In the end, so many different little colors, spanning 2 hours. And this is a nifty little edit. You get Bomb smashing through here. This was quite the little ordeal here trying to create this little effect. You have to have the screen shake as he actually blasts through there to make it look like he's smashing through the screen and make it so it actually creates some kind of impact that you can see, and had to actually mask off the area where it's shattered through the screen. And it transitions to the next shot with a little bit of a warp distortion. Quite cool looking. This is the first instance of After Effects here with this number counter here. This is just a simple tutorial you can look up on YouTube. Look, I don't know how to do these things right off the bat. I can't just intuitively look at After Effects and say, oh, I know how to do a number counter. Of course, I referenced like a YouTube video to make something like that. Got a bit of a gradient effect to it. I just use a simple crop and Lumetri color to achieve something like that.
Well, on its way to becoming the most successful app of all time.
And even the background tiles here, these were reused from the Bad Piggy Bank video. I like to keep I like to reuse assets sometimes. Sometimes it's a quick way to make something that looks nice. Especially if I've only used it once before. I don't like to heavily reuse assets. I like to keep my brain moving. Everything that you see in these videos is just what I think of in my head, and I try and translate that into something visual. That's kind of the thought process. So really, these videos take so long to make, not only because the visuals take forever to make, and of course, the scripting process as well, but it's just trying to think of ideas like, how can I creatively express what I'm trying to talk about here within a visual medium? And sometimes it's just a static picture. Sometimes a static picture does the job, but half the time I'm like, okay, I feel like I can do something animated here. Do some kind of cool graphic. I like doing graphic design. I'm not a graphic design major by any means. I'm not an English major by any means. But I will say this. I will brag a little bit. I was the top English student in my high school class. They gave me the John McLaurin Award at my at my high school. It was quite cool. I should have gotten the mathematics one too. I got robbed of that for for reasons that are beyond my control. But I'm going for a mathematics minor, going for a bioengineer major. By no means is video editing really in my future, but this is a nice little hobby for me, and I have fun doing it. And if I ever needed something to fall back on, this would certainly be it.
Mighty Eagle.
Mighty Eagle. I love his business card. Look at that.
Old curmudgeon newspaper
so great.
Would prefer the title
Head of Business Operations. Head of Business Development. Ooh. No, he's Mighty Eagle. Mighty Eagle of Rovio. Come
His
on, that's this guy.
recommendation back in 2003 that
What a
led to
guy.
the formation of Rovio in the first
He
place.
told them to start a
So it's
company in
rather
03
fitting he returned
because
to
he
take
saw
the
their
Angry Birds
talent,
franchise
and he
to
saw
the next
he
level.
watched them struggle, and he saw them come back, and he's like, okay, well, now that you guys have a success, let me come in and help you guys take this whole thing to the next level. This guy, to me, this guy is probably the most important figure in the history of Angry Birds with regard to the proliferation of the brand. Especially from my perspective, we're talking about merchandise. This was the chief marketing officer of Rovio. Also, shout out to Vesterbaka here for wearing the LogoNet 3-star hoodie, which I have now. I love that hoodie. The color contrasting hoodie in there with the yellow and the red, it looks so good. As of recording, I'm trying to get the Stella, Mustache Pig, and Bomb variants, which were worn by other Rovio higher-ups at the time. So iconic. And the Singtel red, right there.
But this is where talks of spin-offs, cartoons, and perhaps even movies took place.
Ah, yes,
First and
the
foremost,
early
however, was
storyboards for
merchandise.
Angry Birds movie. Merchandise, so there's always a line of demarcation in these videos where we talk about merchandise, right? This is it.
All recognized
In the
by
background, you can
brands
see
and
Toys R Us Times
it's the
Square.
most
Rest in
effective
peace.
way to kick your revenue stream into
Greatest store on earth.
overdrive. No pun.
My Little Construction Hat Pig. If you're wondering who created that, that was created by Locky, formerly Locky's World of Plushies. Good friend of mine, fellow plush collector. He made such a great depiction of my Slenderman avatar. That's a whole story for another day. The mascot of my YouTube channel being Slenderman of all things. But what would my OC look like? I always wondered. Would it kind of be? I mean, Construction Hat Pig being my favorite Angry Bird plush for reasons that are even beyond me. How about a mashup of those two, right? We take the Construction Hat Pig and we put him in a tuxedo and we give him tentacles. Look at that. And isn't he great? I'm sure there's other ways you could configure this to try and make it look like a mashup between Slenderman and Construction Hat Pig. Make it so he doesn't have any eyes, right? That's general trope with Slenderman. No eyes, always watches. You could also make the pig white instead of green, but ultimately this is the way we went, and you can see it as the watermark in the bottom right corner of all my videos. This was a neat little animation too. This isn't necessarily a rig, but it kind of looks like a rig. It's all just PNG animation, trying to create those little blinking eyeballs with the eyelids. That was quite difficult to do,
But like most,
using
Toys doesn't
some
have the means to mass manufacture
non-uniform
true
scaling
products
there.
that are lonesome.
That's
That
pretty
isn't
cool.
The job of a game developer anyways.
That was a fun edit, the
It's
white
the
room there.
standard to license your characters out
Licensing
to a
agreement.
dedicated toy company.
Both those hands, by the way, in this shot are mine.
It's the standard to license
I wore
your
two different
characters
suits.
out to a dedicated.
I wore a black suit. That's the same suit that I wore for the Black Friday video, and this one, I believe, is the shirt I wore. It wasn't in that video because I wore a blue undershirt. I have a couple different undershirts I wear with that black suit, but the purple's one of them.
Take your ideas and turn them into reality.
We'll get to this later,
Rovio needed
indeed.
a proven partner that
Oh my
could
gosh,
do
this
the
map.
full
This is
thing.
the reason
And
why
then
I
design
got
several
After
product
Effects.
lines from the ground
Creating
up.
this little animation with this little thin airplane, oh my goodness, this took forever. I remember, this is the place where I learned how to use After Effects. Creating this with all sorts of little masks and shape layers, and using a PDF of the world map, little animation with all the birds popping up with shopping bags, labeling all the towns. This is actually based on a National Geographic map from a National Geographic Angry Bird book, all the destinations that they went to. Man, looking back on that, you don't want to do that.
For an app to have such success.
Animated chart with an article. Oh, that looks so slick, doesn't it? That was all done within Premiere Pro. And then whenever I show something from social media, I'll always show the little banner coming down from the top, the notification banner. That's something you would see if you're an Apple user. You'll recognize the way that looks, especially an old iOS user. Then you have the old Twitter font as well. I try and make it look within its time, right? Contemporary font for Twitter at the time. Contemporary Twitter app icon. And here, this was something cool I found while making the video. And this is perhaps genesis for the plushies. This was the first time Rovio ever mentioned something publicly about merchandising the characters. That was a serious question. If anybody knows a company that can make Angry Bird plush toys fast, please get in touch. And indeed, someone did. A few months later. This was February 17th, 2010. Chapter 2.
In order to proceed with this story, we have to wind the clock back to 2009, where a small New York-based toy company, Commonwealth Toy Novelty
Someone on YouTube posted a great video of just
both
nice
financially
kind
and
of stock-ish
emotionally.
footage
Founded
of
in
Manhattan from
1934,
2010.
they
That's what that
specialize
is.
in both licensed and unlicensed.
This, I mean, you would think I would have sourced all these little all these little sell sheets from within Commonwealth. We'd have all these archived, but no, I had to find all these online. A lot of them came from old Toy Fair catalogs. I actually found one for sale online from like circa 1980 something. It was in Germany of all places, but
Plush toys for children.
pretty cool to see.
But sales
You see, they did unlicensed stuff,
load
licensed
is
stuff,
just
all
exchange your
sorts of
stuffed
different
animals
goodies.
for
You
these
see more licensed
newfangled
stuff
mobile
nowadays.
devices. As
Unlicensed
typical
stuff doesn't tend to
life
sell as
they have
well.
trusted employees, the
And
past
poor
similar
Harvey
company's
Greenfield,
owner,
he
Harvey
passed away right
Greenfield,
before their
was
biggest
certainly
hit.
their biggest loss.
That is quite sad,
His
but
son Stephen, along with
we
his
had
wife,
Stephen and
Mrs.
Lisa
Seamus, came back to run
carry the
Commonwealth
load,
with
right?
hopes of revitalizing the languishing business.
So happy that I could interview Stephen throughout this whole video. What an interview this was! I spliced our little interview throughout this whole thing. So I had this little list, right? So I wrote out this whole list. I sent it to him. It had all these silly little questions. And the way I oriented this video, I didn't want this interview to be me having a conversation with him necessarily, because you've heard enough of me. If you watch this YouTube channel, you've heard me talk enough. You know the way I go about things. I want you to hear what he has to say. Just him, one-on-one with you. And I think that's probably the coolest bit of this whole video. Actually, hearing someone other than me talk about these things. And I'm so glad he's just like me, basically. He knows all about this stuff. To me, I think I know more than he does about his own company at some level, at least as it pertains to Angry Birds. But he's a nutcase just like me. He knows every little detail about these Angry Birds. He's not necessarily an Angry Birds guy. He knows of the characters. He knows, basically, he's like a surface level knowledge type guy with regard to the brand itself. But he knows all about the plushies. Obviously, working with them for well over a decade, and he's the guy. And I'm so glad he is the guy at the head of this whole operation. Of course, he's the chairman and CEO. You may call him Mr. Commonwealth. People will want to call me Mr. Commonwealth. No. I'm Mr. CWT Jr. This is Mr. Commonwealth. It was such a cool interview.
My title is chairman
Just
of the
let him
company,
talk, basically.
which sometimes
He
feels
goes on and on and
titles,
on. This
some
was like
people
2 hours.
call it president.
I'm so thankful that he took
I took the
a couple
chairman
hours out of his day.
years ago because we had a president at the time.
It was such an amazing
But
opportunity.
I've
He's
been
always
running the
busy. He's
company
always on the phone.
since
Always
I
got
came
something going
back to
on.
the company
And he took the
in
time out just for me
2009.
to answer my silly little questions, and so we could star in this video. And if you're watching, Steven,
1982 on a
hi.
full-time basis until 1995, and I left, and then I came back in 2000.
You were such a great interviewee.
Since.
Seamus, who took on the
And then
role of
Lisa,
executive vice president,
I couldn't interview Lisa. Maybe in a future video we'll get to talk to her. Of course, Steven and Lisa aren't together anymore, but she was another significant figure in the early years of this partnership between Rovio and Commonwealth.
knew they had to look for the non-obvious.
She's
if
quite famous for
Commonwealth
that
was to escape
first
its
photo
role.
that we found at the Space Egg plush.
That's where newly
See her
minted
there and from that
employee
article.
Alec Kessler suggested they sign
She was more of a visible figure with regard to the Angry Birds brand at the time. The Commonwealth and Angry Birds. She talked to some news outlets. She was in a couple of different articles, in interviews. You won't see as much as Steven around. He's kind of the behind-the-scenes guy, really. He's more under the radar. Let's just say. And Alec Kessler, he's the guy who introduced me to Steven in the first place. I am forever in debt to him for this opportunity that he gave me. And he's the guy who apparently, maybe he saw that tweet from Rovio, what an opportunity that they had. Hey, maybe this whole Angry Birds franchise, this is an up-and-coming thing. Maybe this is something we should look into.
Angry Birds, the upstart mobile game that itself saved its company from closure. And so, with both sides in search of a business partner,
Not actually
Rovio
Toy Fair
sent their
there, like
licensing
Toy Fair,
agent to meet
New
with
York.
Ms. Seamus
But
at an industry
again, that's
convention
kind
in the
of
summer of 2010.
not something that you
As
would think
both
about
sides
passively
sensed
there.
untapped potential, they signed a deal that gave them
I
a
assume it was
worldwide
these two
license for
talking.
20
I don't know.
items.
Maybe Rovio did have a
Plush,
dedicated
vinyls,
licensing
and
person.
outdoor
What do I know? They actually have a licensing agency nowadays. They're such a big company, but and this is what you're seeing on screen here is actually the original licensing agreement. You can see it was dated from July 1st, 2010 through the end of 2012. I guess they renewed it at that point. It makes sense, and you can see what kind of products they were authorized to make. Soft figure roll plush. Plush keychains with and without sound and or electronics. There's a lot of with and without, ands and ors. There's a lot of wiggle room there, basically, to allow them to create all sorts of different types of products and derivatives of of the same thing, and this even extended to outdoor products later and all sorts of nonsense and knickknacks, right? Commonwealth was kind of the all-encompassing. They got such a good deal because they were the first.
Appears to be July of 2010. This would give
They
them
really
5
made their
to
money's
6
worth on
months
that
to
license,
develop the
being the
products,
first. They
sell to
identified
retailers on
gold.
them. This would give
And then
them
here you can see this, I like to put in a little cork board in some of these videos just to convey information and kind of compile a bunch of different pictures that I think make sense. You can see some of the products that they were referencing for those early samples, the beanbag toss here, the slingshotter sample, and you can see these little, this little calendar here that I made. Quite cool. It's based on an actual Angry Bird calendar, and it's got all the holidays labeled on there as well. You can see in December here, Angry Birds Day, Christmas Eve, Christmas. You got the Rocket Rumble Chuck down there for Christmas Eve and all that. Cool. Got the eggs representing the days within the month. TNT representing the days that aren't in that month. Initial sketch of Red, I believe that was by some Commonwealth artist. I don't know who the artist of all the Commonwealth artwork was necessarily, but I believe they made everything within Adobe Illustrator, including all these, the product boards.
And of course, oodles of plush.
These are so
You,
cool
of
to see.
course, had your conventional plush toy with
Love that
comprehensive
artwork.
features
Look
and
at those.
gimmicks,
What great
with 4
illustrations.
plain size variants. Small, medium,
And you can see Red never had the darker feather spots. Just wasn't something that they were
concepts
considering.
that aim to incorporate sounds from the game, such as the wacky whammers and the slingshotters. These were early attempts to
Look
make
at
the
those
product
beaks. Reminds me of the
more
Hearts
toy-like.
plushies.
The following week, it was time
Wonder if
to
the Hearts
actually create
plushies
some of
reference
these
the
products
Commonwealth
as
samples.
beginning the back and
There's an
forth
old cell
between
sheet
Rovia's
there.
approval
You can see
team
the style numbers
and
on there. You
Commonwealth's
can see
toy team.
the
Out of this
ping pong
emerged the
rackets
first ever officially
on the side. That's
licensed
cool
Angry Bird
animation.
Plush.
They would give those out to retailers who attended Toy Fair and stuff like that. First ever Red. I know, he's got the whole squad laughing, right? And if you look really closely at this photo, you can see he's just sitting on a styrofoam cup. What a ridiculous stock photo. Quite cool. Very cool to see, right? This is a toy, and this is kind of a theme throughout this whole video. You gotta wonder, what happened to something like this? This to me, this has to be worth a couple $1,000s. This is the first Angry Bird plush. I don't know, who knows if it's just sitting at the factory still, as I'm recording, if you heard that. Ka-ching, just sold something on eBay. And we got a new tags, Angry Bird Chef Big. But anyways, this Red plush, this is the beginning. This is where it all started. And something like this needs to be put in a museum. Yeah, I don't know if this predates the Singtail plush necessarily. I don't know when they first started sampling that, but we know the Singtail plush first started appearing around late 2010. That had the whole slingshot feature built into it. And this Red surely didn't have any sound features or anything like that, but this was done up in July. So who knows when they were doing the Singtail one? I don't know. That thing made it into the U.S. for December for the Angry Birds Day celebration on December 11th, and I believe it also went to London as well, put into claw machines and all that, probably sold in Asia as well. That's a cool plush on its own. That one has a significant place in history as well, but to me, this should be it. This is by the Angry Birds plush toy manufacturer, Commonwealth. This is Commonwealth's first plush. How cool is that? It looks ridiculous, yes, but
I mean, it could have been worse. It could have been blue.
second to only blue, though. And look at this. We got this beautiful green screen of this scene from Family Guy and Brian and Stewie. This one I had to go in and keyframe because I tried to do motion tracking on this within After Effects, but it just wasn't having it. It failed to track the pixels every single time, and it looked ridiculously jank. So I went in and actually green screened it all, and luckily someone actually did make a high quality HD green screen of this particular scene, so that worked out for me. And look at that blue, it's just absolutely insane. The pupils are way too small, face is generally way too small. These ones look better, but
still look like they're taking the look people in the eyes advice a little too seriously.
what I said.
In the meantime, let's check up on the slingshotter sample.
You can hear that in the
Probably
background.
doesn't look too dull.
What the hell is even that?
I agree. What even is that? Little rubber tail?
Not entirely sure.
That's so funny.
We'll figure it out.
And at the time, I actually didn't know how it worked. When I was first editing the video, I'm like, how the heck does something like that work? And then I eventually found the demonstration picture, which you'll see later in the video.
They finally had what we would deem passable red and blue samples.
Congratulations! You did it! You made a passable sample. Good for you.
But at this point in the development process, the pattern is more important. Both longer and shorter fur samples.
Oh, they
were
look so
created to
fuzzy, don't
determine
they?
Which were suitable for
Just
production.
love to snuggle with
This
them.
is where we see the beginnings of
Or
the
more
various
aptly, put them
size
behind an
variants,
acrylic
which I
case,
can only
because,
presume
you
are
know,
the small,
they're
medium,
a significant
and
part of
large
history. We can't have a
backpack
single speck of dust
The
falling on them.
slingshot concept was still
That's what
being
we do
worked
as
on
plush
too,
collectors. We
and
don't
their
snuggle.
patterns now mirrored the more conventional plush. And that's how
And
that
yeah,
works.
that's how that works.
Neat. But unfortunately, this would be as far as they ever
I would
got.
think you'd have to put those
When
in some kind of
September rolled
elaborate
around,
box or
Angry
give
Bird
them some kind of
development
tag to
ramped back
explain
up
how that
again,
works.
but we'd
I don't know if
finally
that's
see
all that
Chucks,
intuitive.
Bombs, and Matildas. Compared to how Red and Blue started out, these were far more impressive, being nearly identical, at least in makeup.
Those were
to how
probably
they
the
came in
second samples
production.
ever made of each
Frankly,
character, to
the
be
only
fair,
inaccuracy
but they
was
started
supposed
out
to be
pretty damn
Bomb's
good.
tail. But to be fair, they likely weren't given full turnarounds of the characters.
I like the little animation of
and
Bomb
just
spinning
assumed he
around.
had one. This was also the stage where Backpack Clip development
Maybe could have done
was
that at a
truly
higher
being
frame rate,
focused on,
make it look a little bit
giving us
smoother,
some
but
potentially
there's only so many
familiar
different
looking
angles you can get at the character.
photos. Were they going to be plastic clips? Were they going to be keychains? Stay tuned to find
Only
out.
the keychains
Now
were
we have
archived.
the main 5 birds, but you cannot claim to have a complete set without the bad piggies, the characters you see in every level in the game. Are you ready to
5,000
see
points.
the first ever pig? Dating back to September 2nd,
Oh, boy.
2010, here he is.
There he is,
Beyond
indeed.
detailing and all.
Oh boy.
It's difficult to
Tiny
mess up
pupils
something
again.
So simple you'd think, but I'd like
Look
to
at all
see
the
you try
notes.
this from scratch.
Rovio just tearing the
2
thing
more
apart.
rounds of samples yielded the final-ish product, which served as a template
Looks
for
far
the other
better.
3 pigs. Helmet
And there they
pig,
are. And as far as I'm aware, these are the first shot they did of each one of the other pigs. And you can see the helmet pig all the way was always going to be the damaged version. They never considered doing an undamaged version from the start, which to me is actually quite the good thing. Just gives a little bit more diversity to the roster of pigs, but he looks pretty small compared to the others. I think the helmet accessory probably took up too much real estate of the 5-inch scale they were going for, but still looks pretty good on its own. It's just a little bit weird compared to the others, if I'm being honest. And the king pig's eyes on this sample, I wonder if they're running out of black material here and they just used purple for that. Looks funny.
mustache pig, and king pig.
It's probably the same purple they used for mustache pig and helmet pig's bruises.
Notably, the helmet pig was unique amongst the bunch, as he was based on the damage render of the character.
Well, you're right that working with licensors usually is a very intense process. And that gets more and more intense and has gotten more and more intense over the course of my career. Many, many years ago, people were much more lax. Now people are very tight. But in the case of Rovio with Angry Birds, it was a brand new company. They were a brand new
It was a different
company,
time
and
back
we
then,
were a small
indeed.
company. So when we first got into Angry Birds, there really wasn't a licensing team. It was a few people.
See,
working on the
nowadays,
company.
I wonder
So
what the
it
plush
was
toy
really
lineup would
easy.
look
We
like
would get on
if you had done it
call,
10, 15 years later, nowadays,
you know,
right?
it wasn't really
In today's
FaceTime,
social
we
media
would get
climate,
some kind of a picture, and they
there was
would
social
see
media
it,
to
we'd
some
say, "Hey,
extent
guy,
back
here,
then,
here
but
it
it's
is,
not the
here it
way
is." Say, "Hey, cool, go ahead."
like it is nowadays.
So it was really easy.
All these social media influencers
and,
and
working together
how
early
big the
on,
brand
we
has
made a couple
become
trips,
nowadays, how much more visible you
that
can
was
make
great.
these
As
things,
time went on, over the course of the
how much more
6,
competitive
7, 8
things
years,
are now.
over
I
10
just
years
think
we had a
it was the
license.
perfect set of
Then it got
circumstances
much more
to
intense,
have
and it
something
got
like this
more
happen.
specific, because they were dealing with a lot of product.
It just
They
wouldn't
were
have been the
adding more
same.
people to their
It just
team,
happened at
so
the
it
perfect
became
time,
more
and
professional,
so
if you
glad
will.
I
In
was
the
there to
beginning,
witness it
I'm
all.
not saying it was amateurish, but it was much more collaborative and it was easier.
And I'm
to
glad
do.
I still get to be a part of it.
October was set to be a big month for Commonwealth, as they were slated to attend the Dallas Toy Fair.
You know, and one more thing about that, too. You know, back then, I wish there would have been more coverage of these plushies generally online. You had some article reviews here and there. Of course, you had people essentially advertising them through plush tuber type videos where they play with them and all that, acted out different scenes. You can point to all sorts of different plush YouTubers from back then. But I really wish, like, people like EvanTube HD, he was basically my favorite YouTuber growing up as an Angry Bird merchandise aficionado. He was kind of the guy in that sector, and those videos were so well produced. I mean, look, he was kind of a pawn in that whole operation. I'm sure his parents, knew exactly what they were doing. Not to the same extent where you get child exploitation with modern day child YouTubers and the whole YouTube Kids audience. I think that was a lot more genuine there. But those videos were so great. But I wish they would have covered more of the Commonwealth plushies. You had some towards the tail end with some of the Star Wars ones. You still see those videos up today on YouTube. But just wish there would have been more coverage of the very beginning of it all. Because apparently they had ties to Commonwealth as well. Commonwealth was sending them product. They even mentioned in one of the videos that an R2-D2 was coming. They had inside information from Commonwealth about that.
attempt to sell the proposed product lineup to
And what a photo this is, by the way. This is from Dallas Toy Fair. This is just one of my all-time favorite photos that I've been given by Commonwealth. You can see all sorts of stuff in the background, of course, all sorts of samples. And those beautiful PDQs, all organized just brilliantly. That pole of backpack clips back there, this really funny pillow, and, of course, chief among it all, the foursome of jumbo plushies right up front with their orange beaks and all that. Jumbo Bomb and the red and the blues and Chuck. Just beautiful. Put a Matilda in there and we're really rolling. And look at this red. Look at those little cushions that they have on the seats. Oh, it's so good.
That were co-developed with the plushies.
Look at those PDQs.
These are referred to as PDQs.
And yes, no more display box. Call them PDQs or CDU. Counter display unit as well. That works too.
Damn quick.
Nerdy Birdie, that's me in these videos, by the way. That's my alter ego.
Frankly, if I were there on the behalf of a retailer, I wouldn't be able to resist the urge to snuggle with every last one.
See, snuggle.
And because I have video,
Ready,
I
set,
can
snuggle.
confirm
That is the
these
motto,
samples
after
were
all.
the first to receive sound chips, which you can see remnants of on the early samples with these Velcro.
Gotta wonder what
buttons.
happened to them all.
In this
Again,
batch, the Velcro
we only have
component
this
was moved
Matilda
to the
archived.
underside of each toy, which housed
But at
the
least we
sound
know
box
kind
for
of
the
how they
first
worked,
four
right? We know why the Velcro
veterans.
compartment was there. We know what the original sound unit looked like. It looked quite funny, quite rough. You can even see the
sounds
little
played
chip
were
on there,
straight
just
from the game,
taped to it,
though
super glued.
unfortunately we're not specific to each character, but we'll touch on this
Such a
later.
beautiful
As
plush.
Maximus recalls, this line was a difficult sell.
Again, look
because
at that
this whole
red.
mobile game scene was unfamiliar territory for these retailers. Nobody knew if 10 million downloads was good.
Now, in hindsight, we know that was good.
Yeah, what a big size.
And what a video this was. Steven sent this to me. This is one of the first things he sent to me. Oh, look at the stack. They took them all out of the PDQ right next to them, to the right there. Stacked them in a pyramid. That's great. You know, where's the Jumbo Matilda? Ah, I see it right there. They didn't do it. They didn't feature her in the group photo back there. Okay, they even got cutouts of the artwork sitting back there. Oh, the little collectible figurines, the first samples. Even got a Spot Bomb one. There's all the bad piggies. Look at the blocks down there too. Also, you can see to the left side of the screen there the mustache pig and helmet pig backpack clips as well, which we talk about later in the video. There they are, perfectly in frame. Right there and right there. See the Spot Bomb as well. Oh, such a shame, man. But hey, I'm not complaining. We got what we got, right?
We got pillows down here.
Following their debut at Dallas, the designs of the birds and the pigs would be finalized come late October, as their proposed launch date loomed closer.
Also, if you're wondering how I have these exact dates, I mean, a lot of these dates are sourced directly from articles and all that, but a lot of the dates I mentioned earlier, the specific July dates, all these photos that I have from Commonwealth are from that hard drive that they gave me. All these photos have their metadata preserved, which is quite nice. They're not in that WEBP format, which you see online nowadays, which just infuriates me. That is the worst format you can put a photo in these days, because it just loses that metadata. But the metadata allows you to see what exactly the device they used to take the photo, and when exactly the photo was taken, and all the settings they used on the camera that they were using. And so it's really cool to actually see and archive the date that is associated with all these samples, when exactly they were
These
made,
plushies would star in the first
when
ever
exactly they were
stock
photographed.
image.
And these stock photos. Oh, this was such a cool find. It just looks so cursed. You're so used to seeing this completely cut out. Oh, we had another sale. Hold on. See, you're just going to hear sales throughout this video. We sold a dark blue Christmas stocking. I should probably put my phone on silent. But anyways, back to the stock photos. These are so cool to see. Oh, and especially the pigs. These ones are perhaps more iconic. The bird ones, if you're familiar with shop.angrybirds.com, you'll recognize those. But the pig ones, these were used everywhere, and they're still used today. People using them for YouTube thumbnails. They're just these stock photos.
Officially began,
Oh, so good.
featuring finalized colors and patterns.
Wonder where
from
this
the
photo
original
came
5
from.
birds,
That's a good one
with
as well.
pigs to come
See the
towards
PDQ
end
in the
of
back,
year.
all the different size
Luckily,
variants that
the
they
whole
had.
retailer thing
Here's the
worked out
sample
by
red,
November,
some Mashable
as the
convention.
games numbers continued to climb.
They have the
and
Synctel
several
there,
big
too.
names in the retail world came around
Those
in
were the first
beloved
retailers:
Angry
Hot Topic,
Birds.
FYE, Toys R Us,
Whatever
and
inventory
Barnes
they
& Noble.
created clearly wasn't enough, as all was accounted for in just 2 hours. And they thought it would take weeks. Seamus recalls jumping and screaming in their office as the entire
It was a
Commonwealth staff
celebration
popped bottles of
indeed.
champagne to commemorate their success.
You can also hear the video, the music in the background. You know, it's kind of like putting a puzzle together, these videos. You kind of try and fit the pieces together, and I think the music plays a part in that. And you don't want the music to just kind of be background noise for the sake of background noise. A lot of people will do that, And to me, that just feels, again, a bit lazy, a bit tired. You see that all over YouTube, just, I put in music because, well, that's just what you do. No, if you're going to put in music, have it play a role, have it serve a purpose. And you can kind of hear that in that last segment. It's kind of celebratory, and it was lined up with the actual popping of the cork top of that champagne bottle. And while we're on the topic, I'd like to give a huge shout out to my music producer, Nezwai, who allows me to use her work in my videos. She doesn't outrightly produce anything just for these videos. There's nothing bespoke. I don't ask that of her. I don't expect that from her. But I feel like it's such a great opportunity for us to kind of collaborate in this way and showcase our work together through this medium. So as always, her work is linked in the description, and sometimes I'll put it up in the iCard in the top right corner of these videos. It's obviously really great work, I enjoy it, and it perfectly fits the style and tone that I'm trying to go for in these videos. It's kind of a perfect fit. And speaking of music, oh, it's like printing my own money. That is a Toy Story 2 reference when Al was taking pictures of the Roundup gang. And there's some Toy Story references in here as well. Also, I was talking about the goofy photos of Yaku Izalo earlier. Look at all the photos of these goofy goobers. You got Nicholas Head juggling some of the samples over here. You got him holding the giant minion pig over here. Look at Peter Vesterbacca. There's red in the cage. I mean, can you imagine that photo shoot? It just looks totally liminal if it weren't for him being in the shot. Even with him in there, it just doesn't look right. It's so good.
Since Angry Birds
Oh, and this photo in the bottom corner. Look at they're stuffing him down the down the neck of the hoodie. Look at Yako. It's so good.
And that's where unlicensed products took center stage.
Ah, yes, the bootlegs. A lot of people have appreciation for those. Homemade stuff was really prolific back then too.
Fans thought when this photo emerged into the scene.
That red is debatably the most iconic plush in this whole
September
video.
24th, 2010, multiple
Yeah, you just had to be there to understand this. And the white box is sitting in too. We probably still have that. I should look for that. It's 33250. We have a bunch of those white boxes sitting in the office in New York.
Toys in the streets of
I should look for that.
So that photo of the red.
Who knows if we still have it?
Toy in the box.
We don't have the red anymore, obviously.
That was taken by someone on.
This is such a great story too.
Of 25th Street and 6th Avenue.
Getting a photo of that street sign too. I had to source that off Google Earth.
And I needed to see some toys, and I needed to do some work with my assistant. So she took a box downstairs and was hailing a taxi cab to come up to my apartment to work with me. And someone snapped that picture and posted it. That was the first picture that was posted. It was when that picture went...
That's crazy.
What we used to call viral then, which is probably different than viral now. When that picture hit and went all across the world...
If you saw that, would you just snatch it and run?
It's funny because she was nervous and she thought maybe someone's going to try and steal it from her.
Fans were in a frenzy to find out more. They wanted to wait long as Rovio's U.S. advisor, Peter Levin, leaked the full collection just a week later.
Yeah, you see a little Commonwealth sample tag on him.
A PDQ
and those are the first ever Chuck, Bombs, and Matildas right there. They're different than the samples that we looked at earlier. Quite obviously, they look earlier. They're more in line with the red and the blue that are there, which are also early samples.
Of the first ever Chuck, Bomb, and Matilda. Geek Chick would get the next inside scoop.
Ah, yes, Shira Lazar.
Peak of the line would be uploaded to YouTube on October 13th.
All right.
This is such a great video. I love a green screen like that too. What a studio that would be. There's apparently lost media associated with this too. They apparently starred in like some kind of night show or something like that with the new Angry Bird plushies.
Hasn't been seen, I don't think, in person by any of you. It's an Angry Birds. This is like a huge.
Not entirely true. I mean, we saw photos, but this was the first time we saw them on video. Such a giant red.
It's like a plush toy.
I have another photo of her actually sitting on it. She sits on it here, but I have another cool photo. I'll put that on screen right now.
Oh, and then there's more.
Couldn't find a place to actually put it in the video. And where did this bag of samples go, right? Look at these. These are the same sample run that we saw at Dallas, and it's the also the same sample run that gave us the Matilda that I have.
They have little noises when you whack them.
A little sound chip on the bottom. That's where the whole squeeze me concept came from. It's more like whack me.
Major sneak would come just about a week
Take that one out of
later on the
context.
21st, as the first high-resolution full-color shots of the plushies emerged.
They're so
These photos
saturated.
will go on to be used on various websites as well.
Wide-angle lens,
And like
too.
the other side,
Oh my
showcase
gosh.
the birds with their placeholder colors.
Such funny stock
Note
photos.
the orange beaks and the
They're not even
saturated
cropped all that
colors.
well. You can
To
still see the
many's
white
dismay,
background.
However, retailers stayed pretty much mum on the matter of pricing and availability, leaving would-be buyers
Iconic
in the dark
photo.
with the holidays quickly
That's
approaching.
from
But
Flickr.
exactly 1 week
That one.
later, on October 28th, A tipster told TechCrunch.com that
Oh
Rovio
boy,
planned to
Toy
unveil them
Wiz.
on their website the
The
next
little
day,
family deal.
but that didn't stop another toy store from putting them up early. The store in question here was Toy Wiz, a trusted distributor run by Kenny Seamus of all people.
Kenny
who claimed
Seamus.
that the Angry Bird plush toys would be shipping in December.
Clearly
So
of
they
relation
went
to
ahead and pinned a
Lisa
price on
Seamus,
them,
right?
$14.99 each.
Got a
With
little
5
sweet deal
different
there.
8-inch birds
They get the
available,
plushies
Red,
first.
The Blues, Chuck Bomb, and Matilda. That brought the price for the full set up to around $75 before tax and shipping. The pigs would
Pretty
be
cheap,
added
all things
later,
considered.
with their
Only
pre-orders set to
$15 a
ship in
piece.
February. With all this news materializing in just a month, anticipation
Nowadays, they're
was
trying
at
to
an
charge
all-time
$25
high.
for each one
And when the set
in
officially
that Mighty
debuted
Mojo
for
run.
pre-order on
You got
October
Rovio buying a
29th
bunch
on
of stock here for their own shop.
shop. They instantly became the #1 item on consumers'
Here's the stock
holiday
photos.
wish lists. Though in their short-sightedness, Rovio dramatically underestimated demand.
How did this
with
even happen?
Customers having reported paid with the full expectation of shipment during the holiday season, only to be told that their orders would not be fulfilled until January. Customers that
This is a fun little edit. You had the little this is the Gmail icon, the old Gmail icon. I actually had the email come out of that, making that was pretty fun. Having the lid on the envelope actually raise up. And then, of course, you have the specific dating up here. This is from 14 years ago, obviously accurate to this video specifically.
unforeseen demand for Angry Bird plush toys.
And then what you'll see in a lot of YouTube videos when they do this whole typing effect, of course here I have this little blinking cursor as well to really sell it, but here I've actually gone through and I have each letter be its own separate asset. Each one of these is a separate asset. It's not a crop effect. What you'll see in some YouTube videos, and you'll even see there's actually a little blurred edge at the end. If you look really closely and you go frame by frame, you'll be able to see it. But here, no. I wanted to make this look like it's actually being typed out. And I think the effect is sold pretty well because the cursor actually, it goes well with the actual pace of the text being typed in.
We have not been able to respond promptly.
If you go frame by frame, sure, it's not going to look 100% perfect, but if you're just watching it passively, again, I think it looks pretty damn good. Pretty damn convincing. That's a great one.
When you thought you would see
You can imagine all the angry Karens replying to that one.
everything, another leak made the rounds on the internet. This one was after
And then
the
this
pre-order
is
window opened, but
totally
before
bizarre.
shipping. And this time, it was the most baffling instance
And again,
yet.
these are the things,
Although
no one
nobody
talks
did
about
think
this.
it at the time.
This is the most
This
absurd
time
thing
was
ever.
courtesy of,
Can
and
you imagine
yes,
something like this in like the
100% serious
Nintendo
here,
or Sega
YouTube
plush
user
collecting
Miss
community?
Jenna
I mean, this would be the biggest
678
story ever.
in a video entitled
There's some
Angry Bird
random
Toys
person who has a
So
bunch of
Cute
samples.
Funny.
How did that happen?
Who? What? How?
That's that's probably the most expressive I've been in a YouTube video. Who? What? How?
I don't know either.
This had to be the child of some Commonwealth employee, right? And they just happened to bring the samples home. Obviously, they returned them, unless they have identical copies of a bunch of them. We'll see in a second, they'll reappear.
Several pig samples. This rather strange red pillow.
Nice shoddy, what is this, Windows Movie Maker edit here?
A jumbo bomb with a tail. The reason I make
That kid
note
just
of
got blasted.
looking red pillow is because the exact same pillow would reappear inside this.
I sure hope those samples aren't all crusty.
For the
There's
Angry Birds
there's the red pillow. It's completely bizarre. The beak is almost two-dimensional. It's hilarious. I have another shot of this photo as well, a different angle of it where you can actually see the Matilda and Bomb jumbos. I'll put that on screen right now. And you gotta wonder what happened to this card too. Obviously, these are just vinyl stickers that they put on there just for the Angry Birds Day celebration, but
that was
quite cool. I wonder if this was just someone who worked for Commonwealth. They did up their car. We have those costumes still too.
Even if you weren't keeping up with all this,
I wish someone
nonsense,
archived one of
I'm
these
sure you weren't,
picket
don't
signs
lie.
here. Stop the
Odds are
madness.
you've seen
You can
this
see all these
infamous
Singtel
image
Reds
at
there as
some
well.
point. A nondescript wooden table, completely.
This
filled
photo,
with
people
various
tell me all the time, oh, it's
samples.
from someone
This was
sold all this on
Facebook
eBay.
on
Look at all
November
these samples.
16th
No,
by
no.
Rovio
That's from
themselves,
Rovio.
marking
Okay, don't
the
get it
first time
twisted.
They publicly acknowledged the merchandise. But enough of this tangent. The plushies were
Someone
out
just taking photos
in
of
the
their
hands
pre-orders in
over
their car there.
60,000
That's a good photo.
consumers.
Nice flicker
The
find.
initial pre-orders were only for what we now consider to be the
Toy
80s
Fair
toys,
Hong
though,
Kong there?
with no sound feature. If you wanted another size variation, you'd have to wait until 2011.
Not entirely true, as we'll find out later, but, it went well in the script, so that's what I said. Retail launch.
The two online shops we'll be monitoring closely in this video.
Ooh, so this is the
Toy Wiz
first
and
ever motion tracked
Angry Birds
shot I did for a YouTube video. So here, I actually cropped out the original image that was on Yako's computer screen here, and I had to create this asset separately. This left side of the screen scrolling through the Shop the Angry Birds page, and on the right side you can see the Toy Wiz page scrolling through Also, this image by itself is quite cool. You can see the business cards I was talking about earlier. Of course, you can see these 4 samples sitting over here, Yakuizalo over here, and of course you can see my beautifully, I mean, it's not, again, if you go by frame, you're going to see slight defects with it. There's a bit of the screen that's not taken up over here, some dead pixels. At least that's what it looks like to me. Of course, it's just a portion of my crop that didn't actually get filled in by the video here, but I think this is quite the slick little motion track. I think I just tracked the pixels at the corner of the screen, and, you know, After Effects motion tracking can be hit or miss, but here it worked. And I think it came out great.
January 2011.
Goes nice and slow.
In particular had quite the selection, including deluxe 8-inch
It's
versions
great.
of all the characters.
The original video that's on the screen
miniature
was done in
5-inch
Premiere.
birds,
I
a
exported
few
that out,
flatback
put it into
clips,
After Effects,
as
and
well as the jumbo
brought it back to
16-inch rag
Premiere.
we had seen back in September. The 5-inch toys
Only
were
$50
$12.99 each.
Only
The
13
backpack
bucks,
clips
man.
were
What?
$6.99
$7.
each, and the jumbo rag
Man,
was
I'd kill for deals like that
$49.99.
nowadays. Can you
Each
imagine?
plush came with a paper hang tag, practically identical
Oh,
to
the beautiful first ever
unrecognizable
red.
app icon.
First
The
production run,
backside
that
had
is.
Copyright information, manufacturing codes, as well as the item's
90790.
barcode. There would also be a paper
The
sewn-in
barcode.
label affixed
The style
along the
number.
back seam of the plush. Would like to point out that these early variations
No date code.
had what we now consider to be the original Angry Birds logo.
Gotta love
With
that old logo,
fine
right?
accenting
Look at
blue
that.
feathers. Also notable to point out that none of these came with
I love
sound
that,
chips, so that feature was
darker,
coming soon,
red
I
plush.
assure
It looks
you.
so good.
Jumbo variants of the other birds would be added to Toy Wiz.
Probably
in
the
first
rarest
week
plush
of
from the
February,
classic
with order
set.
shipping in June.
We'll talk about that
First
later.
order of business for Commonwealth in 2011 was finishing their tour of the
Nice
major
flicker
toy
find there with that
shows,
photo.
as they
Stephen and
attended both
Alec.
the Hong Kong and New York toy fairs with their entire lineup of
Yeah, see the New York Toy Fair here. We still have the original vector asset for the floor, as well as all the details on the wall. This poster up here. The what does this say? This is Poached Eggs or Mighty Hoax, something like that.
Angry Birds.
Just the
New York
generic
convention,
plains
which
background.
at the time was an annual
Really
event
cool.
held in February at the Jacob
Cool
K.
shot.
Prince Convention Center in Manhattan.
More cool
showcased a
shots of
handful
Toy Fair. You can see the mighty
94
eagle
plush bundles.
trapped in his little
And
cage
for those
there.
with a keen eye, you might even catch a glimpse of brand new characters.
There's a more publicly available version of that photo. Cool video. You get the raw sound. Or is this recorded on some old iPod or something like that? This was in .avi format as well.
A few more
It's
last-minute
not a
concepts
format
were
you see
thrown
every
around
day.
before the retail launch.
And funny looking
including
beak
a line of plush with
samples,
built-in
at least
speakers.
concepts anyways.
A blue was
Speakers.
illustrated for the product board,
Be cool
while
if the
two
speaker was
reds were
actually
sampled.
exposed. Of course they
are
didn't do
fully
that. It's all
functioning and
muffled
can
with
be
inside
plugged
the
into any
plush.
device via an auxiliary
Here's
cable.
my iPod. My beautiful 60, where's my iPod? I got it right next to me here. What does it say? Yeah, 64 gig. I was going to say 64 gig. That's quite a lot of storage for an iPod. I got all sorts of games on there. Including, of course, the original version of Angry Birds, which you can see playing there.
Around the final week of
Oh,
February.
and what a photo this was. I just want to point this out. $8. You see all these Gen 1 plushies here. Of course, these are Toys R Us Gen 1 for the retail launch. So they have Gen 2 hang tags, which we'll talk about this in a minute. But what a photo that
Retailers
is.
Such as Toys R Us, FYE, Barnes & Nobles, and Hot Topic.
You just
would
had to be
finally
there. You
stock
had to be
themselves
there.
with Plushies, crucially with sound for the very first time. This included.
I love my turntable. I got that off of Amazon. It was like an $80 turntable, something like that. It's called like the comics, I think,
Pig, and King Pig.
something like that.
To be clear, only the Minion Pig was distributed in this first batch.
Those
As the other
backpack clips.
three would technically come the next
And a
wave,
Pig PDQ.
even though you could already buy the 8-inch scale versions online.
That
So
was
if you
really weird. So
wanted
if you want one of the other pigs that, I believe actually all the pigs, if you want any of the pigs with a Gen 1 hang tag, you have to get the 8-inch variation from the pre-order window.
Pig,
Including the helmet
e-commerce
pig
was the
here.
way. And to be
Let's use an
completely
example.
factual, so
And yes, to be completely factual, I correct myself from earlier within the my own video just for the sake of the script here. This is actually the first batch of 5-inch plushies that made it to retail. These came at the end of 2010. This is where you get the darker fur red. None of these ever had sound. Usually were found at like stores like Hot Topic, kind of mall outlet type places. These ones are the only way you can get the Gen 1 hang tag as well as the Gen 1 sewn-in label.
some retailers.
Of course, they
did
came in
receive
that
the
really cool
2010
PDQ as well.
non-chip 5-inch birds,
Which we
and the
talked about
original
earlier.
#1 app PDQ
Oh,
in
that's so
December
great. Look at that
2010.
photo.
These would be your conventional.
And you
mall
can see
outlets
Hot Topic
today,
right here.
though
You can
they
see all the
were
t-shirts in the
exceedingly
background.
rare.
If you've ever been in a
You should
Hot
refer
Topic,
to
you'll
these
recognize
as
it.
the first ever 5-inch toys. And if you're looking for one, they are surprisingly
Yeah, no one's ever talked about this. The first ever batches of red are clearly darker, and he's got a slightly different shape. He's more oval shaped, the later ones are more circular, and clearly the red is a bit more vibrant.
Distinguishable. With that said, I consider this February batch to be the first mass retail release. Confusing rollout, I know. Get used to it. This
Reality of my
special date would
videos.
only be stocked with backpack clips, 5-inch.
This is probably the least confusing
Unlike
rollout.
the pre-orders, these plushies would receive hang tags with revised Angry Birds logo, though the sewn-in labels would continue to use the older logo for some reason.
And you'd have to think that was because they just had extra sewn-in labels manufactured and they just wanted to use up the material, right? And so they just stuck those sewn-in labels in there just for the heck of it because they had them lying around. And, you know, if you got material, might as well put it to use.
This one oddly...
And then if you live, I believe this is a shot from the UK. I think there might be other countries, a few other countries that this applies to. But if you want them with sound, with the Gen 1 sewn-in label, and with the kind of brighter red on the red plush itself, you have to source your plush from one of those countries. We didn't ever get those in the United States, but there's a few examples of them that look like this. You can see red here has the first gen hang tag as well as the first gen sewn-in label. And they have sound, and they're not from that Hot Topic batch.
Photo shows otherwise. That was the only instance I've seen of this.
Those are quite
Subsequent
rare.
Production runs would change this logo to match the one in the.
And then, of course, we get the more iconic one, which is just the generic white and black one.
Now, you might
I like
also
it. It's
seen
good.
8-inch toys.
PDQs.
carrying these, what we call them, platforms.
Retail platforms.
For
If we
whatever
already talked about
reason, you could
PDQs.
still find these with hang tags with the
Platforms.
older logo.
And yeah, they still
although
gave
the
these
box
ones
itself
the
will
older
always
hang
have the
tags
newer logo.
in some
Plushies
instances.
of this variety will always have sound. And
Not necessarily true. In the UK and for later batches, I think in Finland too, but later batches of Seasons ones, like the Seasons greeting set and Easter eggs, those didn't get sound either, despite being placed in these retail platforms. Kind of really oddball, really oddly specific circumstances where they didn't have sound, but by and large, I generally associate these with having sound, and as well as being sold at stores like Toys R Us, these big box toy stores or specialty toy stores.
are typically sold in stores like Toys R Us.
Like, I believe this here is a shot from the UK. This might be like a Smithy's or something like that, but you can see they don't have the Squeeze Me tags on these, despite being in the platforms.
In Eastern Asian markets, even the 12-inch.
And then even like I believe I've seen a photo of this. I'll put this on screen right now if I remember to do it. But these were sold in Taiwan at Costco. They have Costco stores over in Taiwan. Yes, and it's basically just a recolor, bit of a different printing style of the same exact platform, but used for the 12-inch toys. It's quite cool to see. Rare photo.
As for those factory codes I mentioned earlier,
I've only seen it with red and the pig, though.
Mean. They're certainly not meaningless. In fact, for the purposes of this video,
Oh, this was the coolest thing. No one ever talked about this prior to like 2022 when I first brought it up. I didn't even know it was the thing either. I didn't take much note of it, to be completely honest. But until it was pointed out to me by someone who works at Commonwealth, they're like, "Oh yeah, no, that's the date code. So the letter stands for the month and the number stands for the year. How cool is that?" And that helps us date our plushies. Great, and that was super helpful for creating a timeline of events
let's
here.
start with this code, which we would call.
And of course, you
the
got the
HK
factory number.
This is the factory code.
That's quite
which is
cool.
An internal code Commonwealth used
Dongguan.
to designate their factories. HK
HK
stands
12.
for Hong Kong, which is obviously where the factory is located. And the number corresponds to a specific one in that
12 is
region.
quite a low number
For example,
compared to some of the others. We
HK12
see
is
85,
factory number
98,
12,
101.
the 12th factory Commonwealth worked
You can
with
see a
in
100.
Hong Kong.
I don't think I showed that one in this video. There is an HK 100.
98th factory Commonwealth worked with.
And sometimes that date code's printed in the same exact font as all the other necessary licensing information. Sometimes it's stamped on, like that one, L10.
Followed by a number, which tell you the exact month
Usually it's
and
stamped
year
on.
your item is from. Obviously, the 10 refers to 2010. This would be an 11 for 2011.
And then you'll
12
see
for
later with some of the
2012,
silk
and so
labels, the third gen labels, they had to insert this separate sewn-in label here so they could actually put the stamp code on there. Because if they stamped the black manufacturing date onto the black label, you wouldn't be able to see it.
so forth. But the letter is where people get confused. By process of
They could have just used different
elimination,
color
this
ink,
would
but
stand
I
for
guess they
month.
figured maybe
And how are
the
you supposed
additional
to
sewn-in label was
translate it?
cheaper.
Thankfully, it's in alphabetical order.
That or
A
maybe
stands for
the
January,
stamping
B is for
wouldn't work as well with
February,
the
C is
with
for
the silk
March,
label.
D is for April. E
And I
is
can't
for
believe this.
May,
When I was
F is
compiling
for
this
June,
section here, I
G
had
is for
a
July,
plush from
H
every
is for
single
August,
month.
I is for
It was cool to show
September,
that.
J is for October, K is for November, And finally, L is for December. Intuitively, this should
That
make
L11
sense.
is probably the most
And
uncommon
based on what
one.
I've told you so far, this information should back up what
Nice
I've
store there.
said.
Okay, even
If
got
your
Nintendogs
plush does
up there.
not have this code, or it's a different code, there's a small chance it may be a sample, but more likely it's a production.
Look, everyone nowadays wants to say, "Oh, is that a sample? Is this a sample? Oh, it kind of like it's got no date code." Look, you can have all sorts of different codes in these toys, okay? There's actually another code here that I don't even mention. I talk about this Toys R Us code here. Toys R Us codes will always end with CWT. There's another code, which I believe is like an 8 or a 9-digit code, that actually corresponds to Claire's stores. So if you see a similar code, but it doesn't end with CWT, it's probably from Claire's. I'll be referencing these codes fairly often to, again, create a chronological sequence of events. Too bad the Toys R Us and Claire's ones don't actually reveal much.
On some of the labels of all of our toys, primarily so
I actually don't even know what they mean.
which factory produced it in case we use multiple factories. You know, if we only produce in one factory.
And see, look at this guy. This guy, he's got all the information.
We just started keeping
He
track
explains
years and
it
years ago.
so well,
It
so
was an internal
concise.
thing just so we'd be able to look at product fast, look at our purchase orders fast.
This is why he had to be
We
a part of
notice
this.
our internal POs. We have the
I told him
factory
that. It's
codes,
like,
so
you
we
have
tell
to
the
be a part of this
factories
video.
quickly.
This video cannot
This is
exist
what
without
we're
you.
identifying.
You told me all this information.
Now
Now
you have
tell it to the world.
codes and other coded
And hopefully
information
this video
on
does well
labels so
enough.
that
Come
in
on,
case
YouTube
of a
algorithm.
recall, you can get to know which products to recall.
Make me and Steven
Our
stars.
factory codes all predeceased that, and it was more of an internal thing. And we used the letters HK stood for Hong Kong or China factories. We had years ago we had K's and T's when we produced.
I think
products
I've seen
for
some of
Europe
those. Look,
or
look back
Taiwan
on some
or
like
Taiwan was
1970s,
TH.
1960s
So the
toys.
code, the MHB, which looks like
Oh, and this is such a
heart
nice
on
story,
all
too.
our stone and labels, was actually a family thing. So I mentioned at one point, this is a family business. My grandfather started the business. My grandfather's name was Murray. His wife's name was Betty. After they died, we put an M and a B on the bottom of every toy. And then when my dad passed away, his name was Harvey, we expanded it to have the M and the B with an H in between. So if you look carefully, it looks like MHB. Some people don't realize it's an H in between, but those three letters.
Yeah, including
my father, my
counterfeit
grandmother, and my
toy
father.
companies.
By the way, one problem we had,
Speaking of.
we have in this industry, we had with Angry Birds, is people were copying
And Toy
the
Mart.
product. They were ripping
And
off it.
Toy Plus.
And
And Sunwoo.
in some cases, they copy the
And PPW.
original MHB. I had one problem that really bothered me when Rovio let a South American company have the rights to make some products, even though I had the rights.
Toy Plus. What?
What bothered me the most about that was
They actually got the
they
MHB
gave
right.
someone else the rights while I had
To
a
be fair.
contract, but the company didn't really.
Too
have any
stupid to realize that it
manufacturing
wasn't
expertise.
actually
They
necessary.
took our samples and sent our samples to their own factory to produce the product.
And that's
They
why
were
they look so
so-
similar.
Amateurish, this particular company, they actually copied the MHB logo on
This
the
guy's such a
product
pro.
because they didn't know what it was. They just assumed it was something.
He could have
unnecessary.
lambasted these guys.
Copied it. It really got me.
He just called them amateurish.
Now, for a quick
good.
review of
Got a
the
good
plushes
lexicon.
themselves. They are the subject
Just
of
like
this
me.
video, after all. I won't
Different
call you
PDQ this time.
particularly spectacular,
I wish
and
I had the
they
header in
weren't
the back,
exactly
like I do
intended
for the
to
other
be.
one.
They
And
for
maybe I'll
sure
have that one
captured
day.
their appearance in the game and had manufacturer-friendly designs with no printing whatsoever.
The ideal box.
Simple layers of
Okay, to be
fabric
fair,
and
I wish my
sections
King Pig and
was all
Mustache
that
Pig
was
were
necessary.
Squeeze Me as
Red
well,
is an
but
excellent
they're
example
fine.
of
They're
this
really nice.
strategy, as he would clearly be the plush they produce in the highest volume. So we need to be simplistic. This could potentially explain why he's missing his darker feather spots. Otherwise, all
Never
the
had 'em.
details were there.
Or
Tan
maybe
underbelly, protruding
did,
head and tail feathers
at
in
some
game
point.
accurate quantities. and
Stay
nicely
tuned for that
embroidered
one.
Facial features. The larger variants would utilize felt sections highlighted by embroidery. As full embroidery becomes increasingly difficult and rather ugly, as surface area increases.
True,
They would be
surface
available
area.
5-inch, 8-inch, 12-inch, and 16-inch, along with the backpack.
Great
weight.
photos of some
You
of the
can
different
tell
size
Rovio
variants.
didn't scrutinize the blues as much as they should have, as you can evidently see around back. They should have 2 tail feathers, not 3.
How could
This
they
is
do
such
such a thing?
small
Plush
detail
ruined.
and hardly takes away from the
Just
plush.
awful.
You'll be looking at the front the majority
Disgrace.
of the time anyway.
Amateurish.
And again, in defense of Commonwealth,
it's great.
they likely weren't given full.
Yeah,
time
they probably didn't have that
and just
that
assumed they had
angle of the
3
character.
tail
Maybe they
feathers
did.
like
Maybe the tail just
Other
wasn't
than
there.
that, they look
Maybe it was
nice,
an oversight,
albeit
no
a
one
bit
cared.
creepy with that
Certainly
thick
Rovio
stick.
should have said
They
something
would be
about it. I
available
mean,
in
they're the ones
5-inch,
reviewing them
8-inch,
after all.
12-inch, and 16-inch, along with the backpack.
I like seeing that
The
FYE
dead stare
photo
design
in the
was
window
carried
there.
over to
That's
Chuck
cool.
as well, but his eyes are not nearly as big in proportion to his body, so it doesn't look as jarring. Unlike the others,
Oh,
Shark,
nice
of
smooth
course, is a
pan.
triangular shape,
Of course, with the help of a little bit of a warp stabilization there, but you know,
Unlike the other two,
ignore
even the
that.
smaller variants use felt eyes with embroidered accents. Unsure why they decided to use two different methods, but that's just what they did. Also, like the
Well,
blues,
I would have
Chuck
preferred
involved
embroidery
variation
because
that might
that way you don't
annoy
get
if you
the
interact
sun
with
faded
Plush
eyes. You'll see
often.
that on some
His
plushies.
white underbelly does not carry over to his underside fabric, which was either an oversight
These are just
or a
picturesque
production
shots, by the
limitation
way.
at the time.
This
He
is
would be
the
available
definitive
in
review for these
5"
guys.
8" 12" and 16" along with the backpack clip. The original
The
Bomb
backpack clips I'm
plush
showing
has
there,
always been
I do
my
have them on the
favorite,
card
but
back, but I
Commonwealth
wanted to
did such an
show the
amazing
first ever
job
ones.
right
Those
off
are
the
from the
bat. Aside
K10
from those
production
tail
run that I
feathers
got
we
with the
mentioned earlier, but
PDQ
luckily they
that I talked
snipped
about
those
earlier.
off before production began. Between his embroidered
Bomb
eyes,
with the
you'll
tail.
also find his signature glare.
Hey, they managed to
Also known as
weed
his
that one
spot,
out.
this
How come
white
they couldn't get the
embroidered
blues tail
detail
feathers
can only
corrected,
be
eh?
found on plushies
Come on,
produced from
do it for
October
Bomb, but you don't do it
2010
for the blues.
Until February 2011. At some point during the latter
And what a
months,
cool
it
story.
would
This
be
was never
removed.
explained
It's
before.
a
This is
perfect
the first
example
ever
of how
official
things
explanation
were
for
in the
this.
beginning.
The white spot.
The bomb, in the very early days, the toys we made had a white dot on the forehead. I don't know whether everyone is aware of that. We made the dot. We put the dot on because the artwork we had showed a dot, and we had gotten some approval by some of the people in the team, and we went into production. And then I would say it was sometime 6, 8 months later, we had just gotten the product out in the marketplace. We made our first trip over to Finland, and we were sitting in a meeting, and a guy came into the meeting who was introduced to us as the original creator of the game.
Obviously,
His
Jaakko
name is
Iisalo.
at this point.
I don't know how this guy recollects this type
He
shit.
wasn't really involved in the process. And maybe
It's
we
so
were kind
good.
of one
He's
step
like,
further.
you know,
He was
I
in
don't
the
remember
office
everything.
meeting.
I'm like,
He was in the
sure you
first
don't.
approval meeting.
Yeah,
So
this
he
guy's
came
like,
in,
he's
looked at
literally an
the dot,
encyclopedia
like,
for this
he said,
shit.
Why is there a white dot?
Yeah, just like
And we're
me.
What do you mean, why is there a dot? That's the
It's like
artwork.
looking into a
There's
mirror,
no
man.
dot. And he came over and showed us his artwork. Apparently,
Down to the
dot
sexy
was a
eyebrows.
reflection in some of the artwork that had appeared, and we all
Well,
thought,
we look like
nobody
Angry Birds,
missed
don't we, with
what
our
called
eyebrows?
that. So that's sort of how the process went, and that's actually the explanation for why that dot exists on those first early runs of products.
The spot
So good.
variant would only be available in 5" and 8" as it was produced before they introduced the larger sizes and the backpack clip.
True.
The revised version would be
I
sold
wouldn't tell
in
why.
all sizes.
At least not
Matilda,
intentionally.
if you discount the original Bomb, I think is the best
Unlike
of the original
other
bunch.
Angry Bird
She has a
YouTubers.
unique egg shape, along with all of her facial details and
Yeah, Matilda's so
accurately shaped
good.
feathers.
This is just
She
the
even has a
perfect Matilda
dome-shaped
plush.
beak.
Hey, when I
Now,
try and
some
collect
of
these
you might
plushies, of
say
course,
she
you
would
gotta
be
get the
even
first
better
ones they
if you
made.
make her crack
They
an
look
egg just like in the
absolutely
game.
exquisite.
And to that I'd say
Just get a little bit more
they
wonky
had
over
that
the
in
years.
mind. Makes the plush look
I guess this
wonky
one
from pretty
included.
much every angle, but
Though obviously this one has a reason
how
for it,
cool
with that
is
little
that?
egg under there.
She would be available in 5", 8", 12" and 16", along with the backpack clip. The backpack clip, for whatever reason,
I have it on
was
the card
omitted
back
from
now.
most
I got it from
retail
Portugal.
assortments. Did they not think she was worthy? Was it a shipping issue? Sound chips for the
Who
birds
knows?
played one of 3 sounds from the game. The blues battle cry?
If I'm being honest here, my plushie sound chips don't actually work. This audio actually comes from another plush that does work. I just put it over this and tried to match my my hand movement to the audio
This was
itself.
the same in every bird, as
Pretty
unique
slick,
sound
innit?
chips would never be introduced for this assortment.
Of course, you'll never
The
know,
minion pig,
unless of
like
course you watch
Red,
this
in terms
video.
of their iconicity, did not have any extravagant details, and it's not like you need that. It's a perfect plush in nearly every respect, as it exudes that
I know, he's so dopey
and
looking,
innocent
isn't he?
vibe we came to
It's
know
so
from the
good.
game. Felt eyes, extruded snout, off-center ears.
Oh, what great
but no
photos, too.
tail. You can pretend
Just
the
a perfect
labels the
f-stop
tail
used for
now.
each and every one of
He
these,
would be
right?
Available in 5", 8", 12" and 16", along with the backpack clip.
This one's
Common
on a card
Pig,
back.
as mentioned, is the only character represented in his damaged appearance. That makes this plush rather special, though I'm sure you would have liked to have seen what an uninjured one would look like.
Well,
Why
luckily
they
we know
decided to
now.
pull this act with Helmet Pig and Helmet Pig alone is anybody's guess.
Too bad
Though
not
I would
pre-chrome.
assume the art they were provided was of the injured
Yeah, there he is.
the plush
The
itself
vector.
is perhaps most detailed of the lot, with all sorts of embroidered details on his face and for the cracks on his helmet accessory. There's
No,
even
it's
a
so
cutout
good.
to represent the whole present.
I wish he had
planet.
ears, though.
He is anything but a modified minion pig. Good fun. And for those who have removed
Speaking
the
of.
helmet, well, you know, he would be available in 5".
Just
8",
a
12"
big
and
green oval.
16". A backpack clip.
There's
was
the backpack
planned
clip
and
again.
could be seen
Talked
at the
about that
Dallas
earlier.
Toy Fair, but he did not make it to production.
Grainy ass
Just like
photo.
Helmet
I wish
Pig,
we had a high
Mustache
quality
Pig
stock
has his own
pic.
distinct pattern, although he's not injured. He's got embroidered eye bags.
Would have been nice if
penis-shaped
we saw it at
nostrils,
Hong
and
Kong
a
like we
felt
did for this
section
guy.
representing his iconic stash. He would be available in 5-inch, 8-inch, 12-inch, and 16-inch. A backpack clip
There he
was
is.
planned and could be seen at the Hong Kong Toy
Beautiful
Fair,
on the card
but
back.
again, he did not
Yeah,
make it
even
to
Mike Gillhead
production.
uses one as an
To the
actual
untrained
backpack clip.
eye,
That's
King
great.
Pig may just appear to be a standard minion pig, but with a crown. But he too. had
Controversial
some
take, I know. I actually do
detail
like
that
King
even
Pig with those
Commonwealth's own
weird,
factories have a
the
propensity
weird
to
eyeballs that
miss.
they gave
The
him.
reason you might
Circular
find
ones
an-
objectively
what
look
some
better,
people
though,
refer to
on the
as an
Minion
error,
Kings.
or a toy that might look a little bit different out there. Maybe a King Pig would have the king's
So if you have a
crown
factory
on
error,
the
this
wrong
explains it
pig,
quite well.
on a mustache pig or something along those lines. It's because factories would possibly make mistake. If you've got thousands of pieces going down a line, maybe one from the next line and the next table over got mixed in and somebody didn't realize it. They sewed the crown on and they said, okay, nobody realized it. Or maybe they realized it and said, it's not a big deal, stick it in there because there's so many going down the line. These are only toys that are a couple of dollars, $10, what have you. They're not. We are an unusual company. We have many inspectors working in our factories.
Yeah, tooting his own
watching
horn there.
factories, making sure the quality is right. We want to make sure the sewing is done right. If there are parts they want.
Oh
cut
yes,
off,
we're such a great
and
company.
generally
Our
make sure
quality
the
control. No,
quality is
in all
consistent.
honesty though, their quality control is
But
quite
people
great.
miss
You
it.
rarely, if ever,
Sometimes it
see
happens,
a
if you miss
defective
it.
plush.
You
And really, they're
want
quite
to see
consistent.
it,
It's amazing
sure
that these
it's
things
not
are done by
crooked,
hand.
But sometimes
They're so
things happen.
consistent.
Usually we pick up those kinds of things. We'll do a general inspection. We might take up 25, 30 toys, and if one is defective,
That's a
we'll
good job by
reject
them.
it and make people rework the lot. But that would be looking for holes in toys and seams that are off.
Not
If
necessarily
the
a
crown
minion
was on
King
the wrong
Pig.
toy,
Only
somebody
us plush
probably
enthusiasts
wouldn't
would actually
notice
notice
it, and,
something like
you've got
that.
something that's out there.
Oh,
Same thing happens.
There's
with
no
the
random
wordsmith.
kid in
You hear
China
about
who's
coins
noticing
being
that one. I'm
misspelled
sorry.
or slightly off. They go down the
It's a good thing
line,
for
they're
us.
still good.
Of course, we
And
get some cool
therefore,
errors.
You have something out there that ends up being a unique collector's piece.
He
Exactly.
has irregular shaped eyeballs rather than circular ones, which you can sort of understand when taking a look at
See?
the original
Uh-huh.
artwork. But any other
in
angle
the style
clearly
guide.
shows that this was just because he has a bulbous
But of course, in
snout.
the cutscene, you
His
can see it's
nostril
circular.
embroidery is also slightly different.
They tried.
Though, of course, what sets him apart from his peasants is his shiny gold crown, stitched to the top of his head off-center. The smaller toys receive this one-sided
nice paper in there.
accessory.
Always like seeing that.
Though at some point
Tissue
during
paper.
production, the larger sizes
Yes, the double-layered one. It's so nice. Oh, I wish the 5-inch got that. Oh,
Interestingly, if you have a larger variation without sound, you still get the rubbish one.
new and back.
Yes,
Commonwealth
even the
collection.
16-inch. And even if yours did have sound but was an early release, you still wouldn't get the upgrade, making the
And that double-layered
quite the
crown,
luxury.
that's quite the luxury
The
in
King
it.
would be available in 5-inch, 8-inch, 12-inch, and 16-inch, along with the backpack clip. As to not make things awkward, the pigs of course got their own unique sound chip. To nobody's surprise, this was the pig's euphonous laughter from when you fail a level.
This was the same trick I pulled with the birds. My pig does not actually have a functioning sound chip. That'd be ideal if it did. It does not. Okay, now we get on to the shorter chapters. We've gotten
The
through
reason
the
why you see
bulk of
all
the
these
beginning.
size variations
Variation
because
is the spice of price.
Commonwealth wanted off.
Also, this is a
The
cool thing. Let me
reason why you
rewind
see
right
all
here.
these size variations
going
is
too
because
fast for
the
me.
price-
How cool is this? This is a green screen text asset here, and it goes through there. You can see, the graininess right here. This one wasn't done in After Effects, so it's not continually rasterized.
Commonwealth
You
wanted
can always
off
tell
their
that.
products across
You can see it goes to this kind of size chart here. This is kind of reminiscent of I believe it's in the Learn to Draw Angry Bird book. They have a size chart that kind of looks like this, but look at that. That's quite cool. See the backpack clip, and it goes up to the jumbo.
wide range of prices.
I thought that was a
Range
neat
from level
graphic.
5-inch
Even the little
for
price stickers.
$10 to the special occasion 16-inch for $50
Oh,
to $60.
finding that font too for the price
It was
stickers, that
around
wasn't
this
easy.
time, however, that they experimented with other size variations as samples.
Man, I had to hunt for a bunch of
with
different
one
fonts
even making
in
it to
here.
production
Went on some
briefly.
sketchy
From the
websites here and there.
6-inch, 7-inch,
Some Commonwealth
9-inch,
collection stuff there, the
10-inch,
size development
11-inch,
samples.
Even the 14-inch.
Oh, they're lovely, aren't they?
6.5-inch variations would make it to retail.
These
at the
are really
beginning of
weird,
run.
the Kmart
They
ones.
were done once and can be identified by an additional barcode affixed by a sewn-in label, and were never produced again.
To some, they might be
Was
quite
a step
collectible.
Too far, perhaps.
People like to
Price
get
bracket
those
that didn't need to
really
be filled.
precise
These were
size
sold at
variants of the
Kmart
characters to
stores
kind
in
of
the
scale
latter
them
half
to
of
be
2011.
in line with the game,
So a
right?
little barcode
Look at that
tag
Kmart
and
inside
view
that
as their
mall.
signature
That's
touch.
great.
So when it
Blue
comes
light
to what
special.
size to make
Get a
the
blue light
products,
special on my Commonwealth
specifically
plushies.
the Angry Birds, we sort of have a bit of a template. We knew we wanted to be in that 5-inch range. We knew we wanted to have another 8-inch range, and then 12s and the bigger ones. And the reason for that is all about price points. You know, it's essentially retail price points. You have an idea, and you know maybe you want to have a $10 toy, a $15 toy, or a $20 toy because you know where the market's going to be. You don't want to be too close. You want to spread things out. So most of the toy companies, the plush toy companies, sort of have it at gauge nowadays. There are a lot of blind bag products that are $4.99 or $5.99. So you sort of have that set up.
Blind
We
bags.
set it up with Angry Birds early on. We did the 5s and the 8s because we wanted 2 price points. And then we wanted a couple bigger ones.
Imagine these
We knew
plushies in blind bags.
The bulk of the product would be in that 5 and the 8-inch size, so most of the characters got made in those. But when we get to the bigger sizes, you knew that people weren't going to be able to spend $20, $30, $40, even more for every single character. You're not going to get everybody collecting. You might get some special collectors wanting it. So you limit it to the ones that you think are the most popular. So the bigger I went, the least I had. I mean, if I were going to make a 4-foot size, it would always be Red because he was the most iconic. And you figure that most people would want Red. Or maybe it would be
I wonder how they
something
determine
along
these things.
lines like
You
that.
really think they knew
Same
what
thing
characters were
happened. We had
popular within the
some
fandom?
other extensions.
Yeah, I guess they had sales records that maybe indicated
Same
that, but
thing. We might make 5 or all 6.
guess that's where you
characters
put a
in the
different
5
style
size,
number on
all
each
6
one and
characters in the
see
8
which ones
size.
were the best selling, right?
The next sizes, we cut back to the ones that we thought were the most desired.
A lot of sets share
We might have
barcodes,
a
though,
few
so
floating around
sometimes
of
it's
all
kind of
the
hard to tell.
characters, But you know, the white bird, for example, would rarely make it. to
Oh,
the bigger
Matilda
sizes
getting-
because we
getting
knew
slighted
that was
here.
The least popular. Now,
Damn.
the collector's market, you know, 10 years later, it's a whole different world.
See,
That's
Steven
the
knows.
reason
He
why
knows
we
about the
buy one
collector
more
market.
white bird because we didn't
Come
have
on.
that many out there.
He's not ignorant. Alright, next chapter. Yep, boxes and bundles. You can see that little graphic there showed all the different characters that can come in the 4-pack. That's fun.
Fair 2011.
It's time to talk about those Sony boxes we saw earlier, right? You can see the sample 4-pack there, too. They were gonna have sound.
You're on your merry way. However, these early boxes
Slightly
were
different
not
packaging.
exactly easy to acquire.
Proud owner
In
of,
fact, essentially
I
nobody
believe,
owns
the
them.
only
Not
remaining
because they've
Sony
thrown the
Ericsson
box
5-pack.
away, which I'm sure plays a minor role in their extinction today. But there's little
The
to no
funny-
documentation
funny
even
backside with
existing
the
outside
absurd
of these
printing.
Toy Fair photos. You'll find one, and I mean one.
Also, with
documenting
these
the
5-packs as well, you'll notice it. Sometimes Bomb will have the spot, sometimes he won't have the spot, sometimes they'll have hang tags, sometimes they won't have hang tags, sometimes they'll have Gen 2 hang tags, sometimes the plush orientation will be slightly different. There's a couple different variations to the Sony Ericsson pack, and I wonder if this was just a hodgepodge, basically, of whatever 4-inch toys they could get. I wonder if it was just the boxes they were given, and maybe the toys were separate, and they just kind of threw them in there.
pack
So
and
obscure,
work
how would we ever
a
know?
well-known eBay archiving site. Heck, if you didn't know any better, you'd be right.
I mean, mine isn't even fully original. The plushies within mine, I had to source all of them.
Figuring out what
2 of them
exactly
are
these things
character
were was
option
certainly no
imports.
easy feat.
I believe the
We at
Chuck
least
is
had
just
some
a
clues to
standard
work
4-inch
off.
mini that we got
The
over here in the
single pack,
States.
Double pack, and 5-pack were all adorned with a Sony Ericsson logo, which
A
was
little
Sony's
Xperia
mobile
there.
phone brand at the time.
Playing Angry Birds
Seems
Trilogy,
like a
of course
natural
not possible,
partnership
but,
for what ultimately
we
is a
like to
mobile
imagine,
phone
right?
game. So perhaps these were related to a Sony mobile phone promotion. Indeed, that's
Yes,
what they were for.
that little check mark would
Sony
not
funded
render
the
unless
terms
I
for the
put this video at
promotion.
4K, by the
You're
way.
not gonna
Don't know
find it
why.
by quick Google, that's for
Angry
sure.
Birds,
Thankfully,
Sony
you
Ericsson.
don't have to, as I got the promotion
I forget how we found this
details
article. I
in
think it was
right
related to
away.
those
You'll realize why these
the
are
stock
so
photos in
rare.
there,
These
those
were
renders.
given away as a gift with purchase of Sony Xperia models.
That's such a
in Hong
2010s
Kong, of
article.
all
I guess
places.
2011 in this
Based
case,
on
right?
the model you bought, you'd receive one of 2 box sets: the single pack and the double pack. This section here.
So this
directly
graphic
states,
coming
and
up
I
here,
quote,
this
"Buying
is
an
from
X10
the
HD
Angry
will
Birds
get you a
official
box
guide,
with 2
one of the
products,
best pieces of
a
Angry Birds
bird and a
literature you can
pig,
buy.
while buying an X8, X10 Mini Pro, X10 Mini,
If you take the
Vivaz, or
time and actually
Vivaz
pause it,
Pro,
I think this
will
looks
get
pretty
you
cool.
A box with 1 product, a bird or a pig.
Tells you exactly
The
what you get.
5-pack, however, was apparently a Facebook giveaway, where participants picked their favorite Angry Birds style.
Favorite Angry Birds style? I'm pretty sure. I left it ambiguous and open-ended here. You know, I'm just directly translating. It's probably a poor translation on Google's part if you just use the built-in website translator that they have on Chrome. But style, I believe, actually refers to the specific plush. So you pick your favorite plush toy: Red, the Blues, Chuck, etc. Right?
In order to enter the sweepstakes. Nowhere does it state there were multiple winners, though there could have been. Regardless, this makes this box set perhaps the rarest piece of officially licensed merchandise we will ever look at.
True.
This article was published
I
on
wouldn't lie.
February 26,
Not intentionally, at
2011.
least.
So presumably that's approximately when the promotion began.
If I had a
We
nickel
may
for every time I
never
said that,
all
I'd
the
have 2
answers,
nickels.
But at least we know where they came
Which isn't
from.
much, but it's
And
odd that
for
I said
those
it
who have
twice.
them in hand like me, the box indicates they were not for retail sale. And hey,
Indeed.
wait a minute, those plushies do not look like the 5-inch ones.
I love all the little
The
sound
other
effects I
packs
put in
have
this
them,
video.
but why
I
do
did an
these
extra
look
pass on
different?
this one.
Allow me to explain. A 6'4"
I want this video to last a
was
test of
initially
time, right?
sold in limited numbers here in the US.
Fidelity-wise, sound
It was more
effects-wise,
readily available
music-wise,
in the UK
audio-wise.
and other European countries. These
great.
slotted exactly between the 5-inch toys.
I'm
and
madly
the
in
3-inch
love. This is my
backpack
favorite piece of
clips.
art I've
It
ever
often
made.
came with sound. These were sold
Look at those 4-inch
individually,
ones.
but are often associated with multi-packs, and that is because they would be bundled in
Oh,
the 4-packs.
beautiful, beautiful 4-packs.
Unlike
If
the
you don't
other
have a
Sony
4-pack,
boxes, these can
get
be
one.
purchased at retail. They were supposed to come in 2 different variants, but there are 3 because of some UK shenanigans. Officially, there
You
is
can't
the
be normal
first variant,
character?
which
You
contained
can't?
a 4-inch red, Matilda, Bomb, and Minion Pig. The second variant carried a 4-inch red, the Blues, Chuck, and King Pig. This allowed you to get
So
every character
2011.
Commonwealth offered in 4-inch, including King Pig, who was exclusive to the 4-pack.
Indeed he
Helmet
was.
Pig and Mustache Pig were once again
They were gonna make
shot,
these
though
too. You can
samples
see they
were
actually have
made at some
4chan hang
point.
tags.
These were intended to be a
Planned later.
consumer-friendly way of acquiring full-scale plushies
They're quite
of the
nice.
characters at a lower price point. So the 4-inch size was a good fit, though sound chips had to be cut. For the UK, Commonwealth's distribution partner, Character Options, imported
Ah, we started to see the
variants
little
that came with
distributor
Red,
graphics in the
Blues,
bottom
Chuck,
left
and
there.
Minion Pig.
Bought up a couple of
I
those.
take a character didn't want to
There's the
import
character
2 different
options
styles
label.
of 4-packs, so this acted as a pseudo best of 4-pack. The 4-pack.
Oh, I love this transition. So, a lot of the
That was a
transitions are
4-pack.
actually using keyframing
So
and
this
motion
acted as a
blurs and all
pseudo
that.
best
This
of.
one is just pure camera work right here. You pivot the camera really quickly and you kind of get that really cool shutter speed going on there, and you motion it and you try and use reverse footage here. So this shot is being played in reverse. So I started out with the camera facing towards the multi-packs here, so that way you can get it framed all nice, and then you quickly push the camera the other way, and you do it in such a direction where it's actually going to look linear if you play this thing in reverse and attach it to the previous clip. I think it's a nifty little editing trick. I learned that from my digital video teacher, Miss Mativia.
The
Shout out
4-pack
to you.
was not the only multi-pack sold at retail, however. In fact, it pales in comparison to the others, which are far more obscure and arguably more desirable.
It's like
There
the
was
one thing I
also a
learned from digital
3-pack
video.
sold, supposedly exclusive to Barnes & Noble stores, but in actuality, that wasn't the case.
Yeah,
This
you can
pack
find
came
some
with a
photos of
4-inch
those not
red,
actually at
Chuck,
Barnes &
and
Noble's,
Bomb,
blah, 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 blah.
all with sound. These next 2 buck the trend of the
What a cool
4-inch
pack.
minis, though, as they came with the more conventional
Ah, the
5-inch
2-packs. No one talks about those.
extremely obscure 2-pack
They're
was
quite
also
cool.
sold in
They later got
French
reskinned
stores,
into the
which, as you will
Ammo
recall,
Winter
was Brogia's
2-pack.
home country and was distributed by Ammo Toys for that market.
Ammo Toys,
But the
shout out
coolest
to you
pack of
guys.
all was the limited edition 9-pack.
They're probably my
also
favorite,
known as the Battle
international
Pack, which came with
distributor.
all 9 plushies from the original set.
And the best
This was
multi-pack,
supposed to be
the
an
Battle
Sears
Pack.
Force exclusive. For those that don't know, that's a famous toy store in New York, but was later sold in the Times Square Toys R Us and in
Times Square
Russia.
Toys R Us, that's gonna come up a lot.
Presumably distributed by
Wonder where it was
Commonwealth
sold in
Russian
Russia.
partner General Freight. Now, there was also plans to release a 3-pack with the 5-inch
Oh,
toys
look
as
at this
well.
toy fair. I believe this is Hong
Presumably
Kong
also
again.
for the Finnish market, but that one never made it to production.
Damn, a bigger 3-pack. Looks just like the other 3-pack, but just a little bit bigger, right? Alright, around the world. Man, cranking right
I
through.
brought up distributors for
Oh, here's
first
the
time
map
today,
again. This is
and
the
all
same
of
map
them
PDF we
seems
talked
to
about
work
earlier.
best from the
This one was
perspective of
also
the
done in
end
After
consumer.
Effects.
For a
These little
collector, they
pins
make
to
our
show
lives
you
unnecessarily
the
difficult.
distributors that operated in those
Commonwealth
markets.
designate markets outside of the U.S. to other toy
Red Planet
companies.
Group up there. You got
Since
Clue
each
down
one of these
south,
companies already
Tesco,
has
Oh
the
Boy,
infrastructure
Character,
set up in their
Sambo.
country to market and sell these toys,
Oh boy.
it's best to leave that work to them and split the profits. Here's a comprehensive list of every distributor in the country they operate in.
This one. This is the list. I'm sure there's others too that I don't have documented. I think we always tend to find more one-offs that made like special edition promotional items here and there. Look at that list. That is absurd.
As we have
Only I
discussed,
could have a
these
list like that.
Distributors would receive exclusive products for their region, and for us completionists, we have to be aware of
With
what
the
this
Benny Hill
entails.
theme as well.
Adding to the
Love that.
insanity of it all,
Always wanted to use
some
that somewhere.
countries had multiple distributors.
Ammo
such as
Toy shout out
Finland.
again.
We already touched on Ammo Toy.
Hey, there's the
which
Ammo
serves
Toy,
some
Gen 1
cities,
plushies.
but there
With
was
the,
also
Gen 2
Rover
hang tags.
themselves who operate in others. That, and they presided over nearly all the European
Ah, the
Amber
Espana
retail
store.
stores, aka the greatest works of art in the history of the human race.
Indeed.
Bovia
Second to this
sold
video, at
exclusive
least.
variants of the backpack clips that came with color match clips. If you couldn't tell before, for production, Commonwealth swapped the clip.
To me, I actually do like the color contrasting clips. I think they work for some reason, but
the blues and Chuck.
for those who
Whether
prefer the
this
color
was for
matched,
aesthetic purposes or not,
the
is
Rovio
unknown.
imports exist.
What we do know is that they corrected this only for Rovio imports. In a small handful of US releases, but that's besides the point.
The Flip the
Rovio
Bird shirt.
imports were not sold on
Love
a
that.
cardback either, which is something you'd often see on the North American releases. This isn't to say hang tags are Rovio exclusive, as they were sold that way in all markets alongside the carded versions. But don't expect to find a color match clip with a carded backer.
True.
It's somewhat unusual nowadays for one company to have the distribution rights to a plush toy or even a branded plush toy all over the world or in many, many markets. Some of the really big companies might, if they create something, if Mattel or Spin Master or Hasbro create their own product, they might have the rights. But a lot of times you might have different companies in different marketplaces having the rights. In the case of Angry Birds, nobody knew what Angry Birds was when we first got involved in June, I think May or June of 2010. So we got the worldwide rights because nobody knew what it was.
And they got it for a
value of
steal.
it. Hell, the value of Angry Birds a year after we were there was 100 times worth the
Exactly.
license. So we got the worldwide rights. Now the question was, as the thing began to explode, was what the best way? It was better for us to use distributors throughout the world who
I
knew the
love
local markets,
seeing
knew every retailer in
country-specific
every country, and that's
imports.
why we would sell
Love
through
seeing those
these
translated press ear tags and
we
all
would
that.
work
That's
on
so
less
cool.
profit,
All
they
the
would work on
additional
less
sewn-in
profit, so
labels that they
together,
did for the countries.
prices still worked. It's a fairly common practice for that to happen.
So lovely.
And every country, we'd work with retailers. I've been in business a long time. We had a lot of friends who were in the business, people we've done business with
Yep.
before. Although in the case of Angry Birds, I think we ended up in about 60 different countries.
Small toy world.
So I was telling you that there's some countries we'd never sold into. But it's a small toy world. We know each other. People have reputations. And I would call up some of my friends and tell them, hey, there's a brand new thing we've got. They wouldn't even know it's popular yet. And I could call somebody.
No, they just go along
in
with it. Hey,
XYZ
they got
country and
trust.
say, "I
They
got
trust each
this
other, right?"
thing. It's going to be phenomenal. You could call up or let me send you in some product, blah, blah, blah. Typically,
That's
then
so
each
cool.
distributor would figure out what they want to carry in their market, depending upon what kind of stores they have, what kind of price points.
Yep, and that's where
sometimes they
some
would
people
carry
have disdain
everything,
for their
sometimes they would
distributors
carry
because
lesser
they were
products.
clearly out of
Maybe
touch
one
with what
guy
the
would want
collectors
the
actually
winter
wanted.
assortment, one guy might not want the winter
Not importing the
assortment,
correct toys.
and they would show it to their customers ahead of time, get a feel for what.
Come on, I don't just want Red and the Pig. I want all the seasons ones, right?
Go from there.
Another instance of a regional exclusive product could be found
This is
in
the
the
old,
UK, once again as an import from Character. Bean-filled
It's the old
variations of
switcheroo
Jumbo
here.
plushies
Apple.
appeared out of nowhere. And while they can be considered a completely different product than the plush toys, they have a strong
little power-up
resemblance
effect.
to them that's
Look at
difficult
the
to
Pickwick.
ignore. There is little
Get
to
those
no
outta here.
documentation of the set. Only
The
decent
okey
photos
doke.
we have are courtesy of fellow plush collector Ewan Plush Studios. There were
Sorry,
limited
Ewan, if I
release
crushed your
similar
hopes and
beanbags
dreams of
sold
having
at
some
World
obscure
Puck Shop in
Commonwealth
the
plush.
UK
I
and
am
Birds Land.
sincerely
These
sorry.
were imported by another company and have a slightly different
They're still
pattern.
cool.
In the
They're
interest of not
probably some of the
pondering
coolest
too
bootlegs I've
long,
seen for
I'll
sure.
cut to the chase.
A
Let
little
this be
crusty
a
on that
lesson.
blue there, though.
Do not be deceived by counterfeits. Though these may appear to be yet another obscure regional exclusive,
They did a damn
those
good
with
job,
keen eye will
but
notice that the
that-
MHB signature
that
is not
M-B,
actually an
man,
MHB.
come on.
It's an M.
What are we doing?
Right there, dead giveaway. That would not
Busted.
be on an
That's in the
official
MythBusters
and
font.
apparently
Another example
you've
of some
gotta be an
obscure
ultra
font I
for
had to try and
smaller
track down.
variants as well. Just find the fabric loop and you're
I
all
probably
set.
got dozens of
Whoever the
TTF files
bootlegger
sitting on my
here was
PC now.
Clearly wasn't as clever as they thought. Though you
Never gonna
have
use
to
them ever
hand it to
again.
them. They
Ill-tempered
almost got
birds.
away with it.
A lot of people talk about knockoffs and counterfeits in the industry.
My
own
favorite
personal
bootlegs, by the way,
feeling
ill-tempered
in
birds.
Stuffed animals. I consider a knockoff
The Geico
to be
commercial,
something
too, that's a good
sort
one.
of looks like.
That wasn't Geico, that was
product,
State
whereas
Farm,
counterfeit
right?
is someone
Yeah,
actually
State Farm.
trying to pass it off as being identical. So if I were selling a stuffed animal that was, let's say it was a can of Coke.
Had a
and
dig for that,
somebody then came
Coke
out
can
with a
plush
can
there.
of
That's cool.
Diet Right Cola, I would say it's a knockoff. They're doing something.
I like his
similar, but they
definition
know
of
they're having a
knockoff and
successful
counterfeit.
plush can. Whereas a counterfeit would be someone making the
I mean,
same
his
design
perspective is
as
probably objectively
We've
correct. I mean,
experienced both.
you know,
We had
he works
two
in this
people that
industry.
Came out with all kinds of other flying creatures that looked like
Remember
different
those?
kinds of birds, and they were calling them Angry Birds. You'd see them all over the stores.
Yeah.
You see them in the street corners.
see those at the
That I would
carnivals
count
all
them
the
a
time.
knockoff. You know, sometimes you can stop them, sometimes you can't. Counterfeit's a whole different thing. There were counterfeits all over New York City. You see guys selling them in the street corners all the time.
If you've ever been to New York, you
I
know
mean,
exactly
who's
what
really
he's
doing
talking
that?
about.
And I would get really angry, but there's just so much that you can do. But there was one story I got a phone call one day from Rovio.
I'd like to think kids
early
can
on the first year or two,
tell the
telling
difference
us
between a
that-
bootleg and the official
that,
thing, but,
some
you
stuff
know,
was stopped at the
nowadays,
port
I
in
don't know.
England, and the quality of our toys were horrible. They were really upset that the toys were terrible. There was smudging on the tags. The seams were bad. Wasn't the quality, and they were really upset on the phone. And I got really upset. So I immediately called up the person who runs my office in Hong Kong, which oversaw all the production. And I was really getting very upset with them. Like, how could we let this thing happen? Blah blah blah. And I jumped the gun because
I'd like to
within
be
about 3 or
privy
4
to that
hours,
conversation
I was
there.
getting pictures from Rovio of what was found at the pier. Well, it turned out we didn't make the product. It was somebody had counterfeited the product. And the reason we figured it out, there were 2 sizes of toys in this container. And when we looked at pictures, the same barcode was on both. So whoever counterfeited the toys didn't bother to make 2 separate tags like we did. And by putting the same tag on the 2 different size toys, I knew right away it wasn't us because my people were too good at it. So I had egg in my face. I had to apologize, of course, guys who worked for me. But we learned a valuable lesson. And we were fortunate. And it turned out when we went further, we figured out who did the shipping. We figured out who the person receiving it was, and it was not people that we knew. So it was pretty clear it was counterfeit. But it's a big problem, counterfeiting, in this industry. There's one law firm that Rovio was introduced to by us at the time
Here's,
many years ago.
I
They were
believe
the
that's
ones going
Rovio's
after
China
all the
office there.
Counterfeits over all the amusement parks that were bringing in counterfeit stuff. And this
Yeah,
law firm
Rovio had a
did
different
great job.
perspective when it came to counterfeits and bootlegs and
over
stuff.
the
They kind of
years and
embraced that
for
stuff.
many,
They
many
tried to
different
work
brands.
with these people who were
Around
making
the world,
bootlegs
you'll
and all
find
sorts of
countless
stuff because
lookalikes
they
trying
just
to
saw it
cash in
as
the
brand
Commonwealth
awareness,
Angry
basically.
Birds, some of which are officially
So look at
licensed
PPW stuff. Their
incredibly.
stuff's really
These
good.
other
I mean, sure,
brands
it's
and
like
bootlegs are
copies of
outside of the
Commonwealth
scope
stuff
of
to
this
some
video,
extent,
though.
but it's still really
Around
good.
July 2011, the circular red squeeze me tag that sat atop the plushie's foreheads
People in
would be
China don't
changed
care.
to say press here, which I suppose was true. After all,
Yes,
Tom
of course
couldn't
that was
squeeze
true.
the
It's you
whole
don't
plush
squeeze
in
the whole
order to
toy.
make
You just
sound.
press on the
A simple
forehead.
tap
Come
on the
on.
forehead region would suffice. The sound chips used for production were
You ever
quite
see a sound chip?
small,
That's what it looks
ones
like.
used in the sample.
I think they changed
They
it a
still
little bit
had
here and there. I've
44
seen a couple different
batteries,
designs
but
for
much
the
like the
actual
brick
unit,
open
the
plush
plastic case that it's in,
seems,
but
they were
I believe the
practically
actual
non-replaceable.
sound chip
Horrible
itself is
reality for
consistent amongst all of
preservation, as
them.
it is extremely uncommon for a plush with
There's reuse
sound
footage
in
there.
perfect
Rare
working
instance of
order
that. You're going to
today.
get that in
This
a
isn't
2-hour
problem for
video here and there.
collectors who have the characters without chips, but that begs the question: why were there
I get this
variations
question
where
all the
sound
time.
wasn't
I'm
included?
surprised I can only
So the
find one
use of
comment that
sound
actually
in toys
said
is
that
a really
verbatim.
Interesting discussion. I
And that was
always
it.
believed that we wanted to do things that were better.
And this is
I felt that the toys
absurd,
that
what he
sound
says here.
important would be important
At least with
toys,
regard
so
to
we wanted
Rovio.
push quickly to make sure that our toys had sound in it. But you have to be cognizant of price points. Some retailers wanted lower price points.
True.
This wasn't the case with us, but some people now put things in the dollar stores. Some people things in Walmart or a Target. You might want to go without sound in the cheaper stores because it's a lot more money. and
Makes
with
sense.
Sound in some others, but in my case, Angry Birds, we want everything to be with sound.
Of course.
However, Rovio, who
Are
wanted
stupid.
the product first for their online stores and online being a new thing, they thought that not having sound was more true to the characters for the toys.
I
So
just
they insisted
total
on all of their products,
dumbassery.
and they bought a lot from us to then resell on their own.
What the
They
fuck
didn't
are they
want sound
thinking?
there, so we had a huge volume.
Oh, it's
huge
more
chunk
true to the
of this
characters.
quantity went out
My
early on
ass. It's
without
more.
sound.
What?
I thought it was a mistake. But
Yes.
everything still
Yes, it was a
people
mistake.
Didn't care.
Every
through the
plush should
market
have
today,
sound.
people
Would have
want
been nice if
sound.
they had
So
replaceable
it's
sound
always
chips or replaceable
better to
batteries
have
for the
sound.
sound chips, but
Sound
that's
you
neither
can
here
fix
nor,
it
nor,
with
nor there.
well,
It's
so
just
in some cases you
nice
might
to
work
have it.
without sound early on.
The
and then
fuck,
add sound
Rovio?
A couple of months later.
Ah.
That sometimes happens in production. And we're looking now back 10, 15 years later on everything. Other things that I've done in the past also, I might have the bigger
Rare
sizes
Rovio
without
L from
sound
back
because it
then. Of
wasn't
course,
relevant.
Rovio Ls are pretty common
Or
nowadays,
might
but
sometimes
back
do
then,
small sizes
that was
and
a
put
rare
sound
one.
in to keep them even cheaper. We've got to do keychains without sound because you don't want to put the extra price in there. You want to keep a keychain under a
Which
certain
makes
price.
sense.
So you might see the really small ones or really big ones might not have sound because they might not necessarily be necessary.
Necessarily be necessary. Quote that one. Ah, the Intel promo. No one has ever talked about this one before. Chile has got all sorts of interesting Angry Bird merchandise in their country's history. We'll talk a little bit more about them later.
Provider Intel. If you signed up for a
Would
subscription
love one of
plan
these
of any
boxes.
variety
We actually do
starting
have one of
July
these boxes in
25th
storage somewhere.
until
We gotta go
August
get it out,
31st,
but
you'd receive a
it's just
special
got a red in
edition
it.
box with
Be
one
cool
of
to have
five
an example of
characters
each one though.
inside.
Look at those. They're so
Blues,
cute.
Chuck,
Oh, they look just
Bob,
like
and
the
Minnie.
bigger
I
multi
find it
packs.
neat that the boxes, aside from the obligatory
Which I say
Intel
here.
logo, were styled just like the other multi-packs, maintaining consistency.
Wonder if they had
across the
sound.
line.
They don't look like it, but you never know. Hal and Terrence, Chapter 9. Sitting in
As we have
the
discussed,
Danger
the
Above
original
balloon
wave of
raft.
9 plushies officially debuted in December 2010, with a later retail release in March 2011. If
Just
you
a
happen to
peak
be
website
playing the
aesthetic
game
there.
around July and were looking to purchase all the playable characters, well, that wouldn't exactly be possible. When we last discussed the game itself,
back to the
there might be
game.
hopes
It's
of
been a
the
minute,
latest
right?
Update. And that was way back in February 2010. Rovio wanted to keep players
This is
engaged
a
with
nice
the
little edit here.
game, and
This
what
is not
better way to
motion
do
tracked, by
that
the way.
than
This
by
is all done in
introducing even
Premiere.
more levels.
Go find the
This
original
time,
video of
however,
that.
they
Yako's
really
just
needed
throwing
to shake up the
Singtel Reds at
scenery
this
as they felt the environments in
university
the first two stages
presentation.
became
It's
rather
awesome.
repetitive. Same went for the bird roster. Most
This
players
is a neat
were
little
familiar
edit
with
here.
The same 5 birds: reds, blues.
This
duck, bombs,
was
and
just
Matildas.
an absolute shit show when it came to creating the mask for that. Oh my god. I love the burst in the background too, how it's color coordinated. That's such a cool looking shot. Again, just pause my videos sometimes and just look and see all the detail that goes into the shots. Just pause and look. It amazes me sometimes that I do these things. It's really not even that complicated, but you don't understand how much work goes into that, especially in a 2 hour, 10 minute, and 21 second video. Every little second counts. Nothing here is ignored. Every detail
Adding
was
some
thought
new
about.
characters would be the perfect way
I
to
wanted
keep
this to be
things
the most perfect
Out of
video
this
ever.
more
You got Hal going
adventure
across the
above
screen.
and a big
You'll see
set
that
of
throughout the
features.
video. I actually try and do a transition with each one of the original characters throughout the whole video. I forget if I actually did. I did with Bubbles. I think I did it with Stella too. Yeah. Yeah, I did it with all the characters. Even the Mighty Eagle, I think I did it for, to some extent.
April and
But you'll see a
July
transition for each one of the
2010
characters.
respectively. In
I believe it
Danger
goes in
Above,
flock
players
order,
take to
too.
the skies to defeat the bad piggies once again. This
you'll see
time with
Terrence
the
coming
help
up
of
here.
everyone's favorite boomerang toucan, Hal. The big setup on the
I
other
like that
hand
photo of
ditched
Hal.
nearly all the old characters in favor of just Hal and his best friend, the Big Brother bird.
Big Brother's
Or
always watching. Get a
Terrence, as we come to
1984
know.
reference in here.
But for the most part, these
Read
levels
that book
served
for,
as an
AP
elaborate
English
showcase of
literature.
Terrence as he attempts to rescue the flock. and
Back to
destroy
Miss
the
Elmier's
pig's
class.
reconstruction attempts. The
There's some
dynamic
high school
duo of Hal and
shout-outs
Terrence
in this
quickly
video.
became fan favorites, and it would have been a crime against humanity if they didn't receive a plush of their own.
True.
As we saw at
Crime
Toy
against
Fair,
humanity.
Commonwealth was already on the
Damn.
case with their initial
I'm
samples
serious.
of Hal and Terrence hidden behind the displays.
That's a nice
Even
little
if you weren't
find.
keeping
All
track of every
10
last
pixels of
Toy
them.
Fair pic, you might have even seen Rovio's own post about the
Yeah, and then
sample
Rovio
plush
got
on
overly
their Facebook
excited.
page. They just couldn't
Gotta wonder if
contain
that's sitting in their
excitement,
merchandise archive.
Development would continue well into
Hey, look at this
2011,
goofy goober.
but they
Yeah, look at
last
that goofy
appeared on
goober.
Toy Wiz in August and shopped at Angry Birds
Oh,
in
there,
September.
goofy
With each
goober,
one being
yeah.
around $15.99 for the 5-inch, depending on where you got it. They were slightly more expensive than the first wave, which, as we discussed, were priced around $12.99.
Again, look at those
If
prices.
You wanted a larger size, they also
You wouldn't
came
get that in
8-inch,
today's inflation
12-inch,
economy.
and 16-inch as usual. Well, actually, according to the listing on Shop
Well,
Angry Birds,
actually,
technically, Terrence was
actually,
offered in
that's me in the
5.5
moment.
inch and 8.5-inch. Makes sense.
No one
given
would
this
ever
was
notice
the
this or care,
biggest bird.
but I do.
When you put these side by side,
The
with
biggest bird.
original
He
set,
indeed is.
It becomes clear that these were a notable step up in quality.
They
This
are.
could
I
have
mean,
been
really,
a
look at
result
them.
of
They are
Commonwealth honing
way
their
higher
craft,
quality than the
but
original
I would
set.
guess this was the result of Rovio actually building out a brand licensing team that held products to a higher standard.
Yeah, nice presentation.
Terrence featured his
And
dark
see, there's the
feather
Terrence going
spots,
across.
which was a characteristic. Clearly
shakes the
lacking
screen,
in
too.
red.
He's so big.
His underbelly feathers were also well detailed, melding into his red feathers.
Again,
to
that's
match
all
his
done with
in-game
keyframing.
appearance. And if you look at his forehead, you
It's
can
not as
see
easy
he
as you
even
think.
included his wrinkles. Hal, meanwhile, had an especially unique feature.
And it's
with
not that
his
it's
opening
difficult, it's just
beak,
tedious,
which
really.
allowed you to recreate his boomerang ability from the game.
It's daunting,
The yellow
though. I mean, I
feathers
knew this
surrounding
video
his
would be
beak
2
were also
hours.
a nice
Once I was
touch,
done with the
again,
script was
matching
like
his in-game
40 or
appearance.
50 pages long.
Unfortunately, the specialized
That's
beak
from
only
the,
be
the
available
Singapore
for
cable
the
car
5-inch
ride again.
variation, as the larger size variations featured a closed beak. For
Yeah,
reasons
nice
that are
platforms
not
again.
clear to me. When they were developing Hal, they made larger variations with the opening beak. So did they not?
Yeah, I
think
didn't mention this in actually in the voiceover, but fun fact, many early samples had the head and tail feathers swapped around. Look at this Hal here. Look at the tail feathers. Those are the head feathers. And look at the head feathers. Those are the tail feathers. That's great. And that's actually noted on a document that
We'll never know.
Rovio
After
annotated.
this design for the
Maybe I'll
character
show that if I
lasted
remember to put it in
long,
here.
as in December 2011, the HAL Plush should become the first to receive
I'm gonna have to go
major
back through this whole
revision
thing and actually
in accordance
analyze
with
what I
the
said,
Chromie
didn't I?
design in-game. This
To try and
design
remember these
includes a
damn
more
things.
calm disposition in the 5-inch
We'll see how
version,
that
now
goes.
sold exclusively with a sealed beak too. This happened to line up with the release of the HAL and Terrence backpack clips.
Look at that,
which is
Terrence
why you
double
don't see a
tagged.
HAL with the
It's a
pre-chrome
sample, of
design,
course.
although samples were made to nobody's surprise. Oddly, some factories did not get the memo apparently, or if they
This
did,
would
they
happen.
only read part of
Again,
the email.
you know,
The older
it's a
design of
$10
HAL would
toy.
continue to be
Big deal.
produced, but with the sealed
It's actually
beak
that's
and
a
new
Claire's one right there.
This tweener HAL would not last long, although his existence forced us completionists to
I think
have
that's a
3 of the
Canadian
characters.
Claire's based on the fact that it actually has the currency translated into CAD on the tag, but well, you know, what do I know? Mighty Eagle.
For as memorable as HAL and
The
Terrence
coolest
were,
jumbo
by the
plush
end of
ever.
2010, an all-new
Well,
character
that or
was
the Mighty
Thunder
Dragon.
Thunder
I don't know. Take
in
your
a
pick.
rather magnanimous way. In December 2010, what was essentially a
Oh,
built-in
and this was such a
sheet
good
would be
find.
implemented as an
Finding the
in-app
original
purchase.
presentation for the Mighty Eagle coming up right here. Just listen to the crowd. It's amazing.
You're presented with a chance to buy
Okay, yeah, you know, Matilda goes over the structure. Uh-huh. This is Mike Eelhead speaking, by the way.
Mighty Eagle, you're taken into the quick purchase flow of the Ovi store, and the Mighty Eagle feature is then quickly
The Ovi
added
store.
to the game. You're then free to use.
Soul finish.
You're then free to use the Mighty Eagle
Dramatic pause.
to solve the level.
Listen to the crowd. Listen. It's perfect. And they all erupt into applause. It's so great. Truly a silver
This had been a
bullet.
highly anticipated feature for several months at that point, as with a one-time 99-cent purchase, you could obliterate every level in the game.
So the Mighty
Indeed.
Eagle was always a very interesting character.
And look at Steven. You see him
Play the
smirking.
game,
He likes the
comes in
Mighty
and
Eagle.
just
I know he
completely
does.
Wipes the whole board clean. So we wanted to make the Mighty Eagle plush toy a really unique character, sort of symbolic with the
Mine, by the
presence
way,
they
is a
had in
Sallow
the game.
Toys Eagle.
And that was the reason. I don't know whether it was my idea, somebody else's. You know, we said
I
let's
never got the
just
original
make
one.
it really big, and let's just
never
make
saw
it
them in
really
stores.
Expensive, really hard to get.
Never went to FYE.
And it was an
Wish I
idea that
did.
just kind of stuck. And we
Could have
thought
bought it
it
off
would
the
work,
Shop
and
at
I
Angry
think
Birds
it
website.
actually
Never
did.
thought of that.
We never had a Mighty Eagle
There he is.
character available in a
That's
more
mine,
moderate
the
price
little
point
5-inch one.
until the movie came out. In which case we did have that because it's a different feeling back then.
Adorable. Matt Fur.
And that was the reason. And I know now in the last year or two, I guess somebody else has been offering.
It's somebody else.
Smaller Eagle.
Yeah.
The reason that we never did it was we just felt it was something
AKA us.
magnificent about having just as
Mighty
big,
Mighty
big
Mojo,
size.
Mighty Eagle is super
We have
cool
a
too.
couple of them. I guess they were
If you don't
all
have the
different
original,
sizes.
that's
We
the
have
one
a
to
couple that
get.
are even bigger.
As of
We were
recording,
trying
I
to
think
figure
they
out
still
what the
sell
right
them.
size was because it was just so big.
Yeah, they made some bigger ones.
Match price
Officially, it's
point.
18 inch.
So that's
They did some
exactly what
20 inch,
did.
22 inch,
Alongside HAL and
slightly
Terrence,
bigger.
The Mighty Eagle
You know,
will be
they were
released
trying to figure it out.
exclusively in 18-inch, both online and in select retailers.
Nice lighting effect there.
Though if you recall, the early 2011 toy
These
fair
things
displayed
shouldn't
a
go unnoticed.
small-scale eagle, which thankfully was preserved. A 10-inch eagle was also made along the way.
Oh,
but
that looks
heard,
perfect to me.
Commonwealth wanted
The
Mighty
big Eagle's
Plush
too
to
big.
echo
His
aura
beak
from the
sags a
game.
little bit too much
For
because there's so much
most,
stuffing
he
in
will
there.
instantly
The
become
10-inch
biggest
Eagle and the
plush in
5-inch Eagle
collection.
really work.
And that's exactly what it was supposed to be. Some
They
may
just
even
had that
force
shape.
to a moment with
That
the
one looks
sound
really
chip,
good too, the one with
which
the sound
will be
chip.
located in its topmost feathers.
That one's really, really rare. That's the one I ultimately want. World of Walmart.
I've brought
See that
up
tower
all
there?
sorts of
Yeah.
retailers
Oh,
today
and I
to
love
carry-
this. This was one of my favorite edits throughout the whole thing. This deserves a pause right here. Look at all these stores. Okay, you can recognize the logos, right? You got Justice, Buffet Mart. That one may not be instantly recognizable, but that's Kmart, Buffet Mart, Kmart. Get it? And Bacon's and Noble, Barnes and Noble, FYE, Fry Your Eggs, Fry's Electronics, Fried Eggs Electronics. Swiner's at Spencer's,
here all day,
Build-A-Boar
but it's been
Pigstruction,
long.
Build-A-Bear Workshop, Eggs Are Ours, Hog
name
Topic,
of that
Egg Claire's,
that
Egg Mart.
chance
Oh, it's so
would certainly
good.
be one
And
of
of
the
course,
few
this is all
features that would
located in
come
the Piggy Island Plaza.
mind.
In the background is is an animated background from Danger Above, the big city, right?
Right?
Oh, that's so
The
good.
single biggest retailer.
So
in
happy
all
with
the
that.
US. Of course, they eventually came
Walmart
around
was
on
huge, by the way.
Angry
It's
Birds,
surprising
and
that
in
the
a big
toys didn't
way,
get there
too,
immediately.
as they joined Kmart in buying these massive towers packed full of plushies.
But when they did, they got
the
that.
sidekick stuff with backpack clips for good measure. In truth, I would have brought up Walmart earlier, but behind the scenes, their overly competitive tactics created issues for Commonwealth's relationships with other retailers. Their solution?
Yeah, that was the
Make
issue.
the toys slightly bigger. The consumer will never know, unless of course they watch this video.
So the
That's
reason
another
that
one.
We made the
I said
toys
that one
we
twice.
sold into Walmart bigger than the other toys that we had been doing by a little bit. Walmart
This is
was
so
the
silly
first
that they had to do
mass
this.
market retailer we put the product
It
into.
makes sense though when he explains it though.
Prior to that, we've been selling it.
See, when you first hear it, it just
mostly
doesn't make
to
any sense.
mom and
Why would
pop
they make the
stores,
toy slightly
corner
bigger?
candy store, corner
Of course, you would never know. And really, we never did know.
Everyone's got different price points, and the average retail price, for example, was a $10 retail price, and we didn't want Walmart
So
to
cheap.
come in and be buying a toy and selling it so much cheaper, and be at $8. We thought that would upset the marketplace and what have you. So we gave Walmart
You're probably
a bigger
right.
toy at a more expensive price that Walmart could still sell it cheaper like they do normally, but it wouldn't be over the $10 price. So we were giving a smaller toy to the mom's.
That's in
bigger,
Commonwealth's
smaller
old
stores, and
old
a bigger
office
toy
there.
to the
That
bigger
photo,
stores.
the Walmart tower.
Not that much bigger, but big enough. But at least we could charge a higher price.
Just want a nice
Everybody
high quality
would be
photo of that. We have a bunch of
That's
archival
right,
pics like
instead of
that.
selling the
That's from
conventional
I believe the
5-inch
factory.
toys,
The factory
we sold
sample of a dump bin.
5.75
It's
inch
great.
and 8.75-inch toys.
There it is
so
in an
they could
actual
still be
Walmart.
priced in line with all the other retailers.
Like how it's just left on the
If you're
pallet.
the
They didn't
lookout for one of
bother.
these toys and cannot
They had
tell
bins
based
like
on
this
what's
too,
alone,
smaller dump
look for the
bins.
date code to be printed in
This
the
one I
exact
find
same
funny. They
font
got
as
all
the
th-
copyright
all the plushies
information
got
on the
Gen
Sony
3 tags,
label.
but
At
the
least vast
PDQ
majority
is a
of
Gen
these
2.
Slightly larger toys
That happens
fall into
sometimes,
that
you know?
category. Stamp codes are often D11.
Yeah, these are the common
D12s,
stamp
or
codes for Walmart
I12s.
plushies. If you got
So
one of
be on the
these,
lookout
it's a
for
good chance it's a
those. They
Walmart,
can have
especially if it
sound
looks
or
awkward.
not, depending on the
You can just
production
tell. I mean,
line.
put a 5
And
inch
if you were
next to the
curious, here's a
5.75.
comparison between the
You can
5-inch
clearly
and
see
the
there's a difference.
5.75-inch red.
And again,
Notice
some
how the
people might like that. You
5.75
got plenty
inch
of
is just a
options
little
if you're
bit
looking
taller.
for really oddly specific sizes. The Asian Challenge. I always wanted an opportunity to talk about this.
In collaboration
This is such a
with
cool little
Finnair,
event.
the largest airliner in Finland.
I say
and the
little. Look at
renowned
that plane.
Singapore
Oh my
Changi
gosh.
Airport,
I've always
we
wanted the
launched
scale
the
model of
Angry
that.
Asian Challenge.
Thin
During
air.
the first
It's
few
great.
weeks of September, a worldwide online search commenced to find the biggest Angry Bird fans. In order to compete abroad in an Angry Bird branded Airbus on a flight from Helsinki to Singapore. Applications
Saying that
were
line
sent
was
in
not
by
easy.
hundreds
That was a
of
run-on
thousands,
sentence there.
But ultimately, only 8 people were selected.
Sometimes
to
you don't
compete
notice
for
that.
the
I'm the type to
title of
eliminate
number
the
one
breaths
Angry Birds
between
fan.
sentences in my
Around 10
videos.
journalists
It takes
were
forever,
also
but I
invited
think
to
it
board
ultimately
and
pays
document
off.
the event, which took place on September 20th.
I've always wanted one of those
During the
Moon
flight,
Festival shirts, by the
passengers
way.
were
Those
given
things glow in the
tablets
dark.
as
Those are
progress
awesome.
furthest in what was billed
Look at
as
this
the
flight.
longest and highest Angry Bird flight.
I would have loved to
Over
be a
10,000
videographer
feet
on
in
this
the
one.
air. This journey was no run-of-the-mill snore either, as the whole plane was decked out with Angry Birds, including music from the game, customized announcements, special cabin
I
crew
want those cabin crew
uniforms,
uniforms.
special
Those are
meals,
awesome.
and as you probably
The
been waiting for me
napkins,
to say,
just the memorabilia
Commonwealth
from that event.
plushies.
It's so cool.
What makes me call this event out in
Again, just a
particular
moment in
is
history
this
you had to
enormous,
be
and I
there.
mean enormous red plush.
And the return of the Big
Considerably
Red.
larger than the 16
Wait a
inch we
minute,
talked about
that's a
earlier.
BMW Z4,
Officially, this
just
red
sticking
is
out in
known
the
as the
passenger seat. That's
36
great.
inch, which
Of course, they had to get it
accordingly made in
convertible. Looks
extremely
even more
limited
absurd.
quantities for essentially promotional use only. Though you can find evidence of it
That
being
is in the
sold
Ammo
stores
Toy
as
Store
well.
in Finland.
However,
That's
even
great.
This
Giant
was not
red.
as large as they would come, as Commonwealth would even make one-off 48-inch reds for the same purpose. You do not want to know what I've been through today. Finding photos of these in action is a gem. Actual human being, for scale.
You know, a lot of YouTubers will include themselves in the video, like an actual video of them interacting with whatever they're talking about, or just them talking to you on the camera. I didn't really do that in this video. This is one of the rare shots where you get me in the shot. And, of course, it had to be done in order for you to actually see the magnitude of how big this red plush is. I'm about 5'4", 5'5", and I mean, this red plush is absolutely absurdly huge. And, you know, this thing is just it's a skin. I keep it as a skin. I had to stuff this thing completely full of blankets, pillows, and towels. I wasn't going to go out and go buy just tons of stuffing for it. That'd be completely absurd. I mean, what would I do with all that? So, I mean, you can see it's a little lumpy looking, but you get the idea, right? It's just huge. Absolutely massive. Can you imagine owning such a thing? I mean, just having it around completely stuffed all the time? Of course, I can imagine owning it because I do, but it's a skin. I don't do anything with it. It's not on display or anything like that. And here's a normal red.
Here's a normal red.
I'm even wearing red. Red, red, red.
Whether it's from the Asian Challenge, a press event, or even a retail store, these were about the coolest plushies one could
Look at
possibly
Yako.
witness.
Just chilling.
As for the Asian Challenge,
Like how the red
it
is
was
just
basically
absurdly
one last
massive. It
publicity
towers over the
stunt
eagle that was in the
got low
background
brownie
there.
points with Changi Airport.
Yeah, Changi
So
Airport
the
reference
winner
to
of the
another
challenge
video.
will be decided via a photo competition involving the plushies that came aboard. Whoever's photo got the most likes on socials
those shirts
was
again.
the winner.
Great photo. Cool event. I wish I could have been a part of that. Swaddle designs. This is something that no one's ever
July
talked about before.
2011, Rovio inked a deal with
It's a
baby
cool
apparel
render there.
company Swaddle Designs
Wonder if that's a
to release
Photoshop
small
or something
collection of
officially
Angry Bird
that
themed
Rovio gave to
bodysuits.
Swaddle
Before I
just
get
for
ahead of
this.
myself here, you're probably
Seen
wondering
eggs in
what
the
this has
nest
got to do with
in
Commonwealth.
cutscene style.
Well, as Swaddle was developing their own product line, they thought it'd be fun to bundle 4-inch plushies alongside their own products. They had red, the blues.
I
duck,
secretly
and
want a
pink
collection of some of this
attire.
stuff. There's
They
Peter
wanted to
Vesterbacca.
inventory and package the plush versions of those
Oh, and those
characters
iconic
with
stock
respective
photos.
products.
Ever wonder why they
and
use
as far
Commonwealth?
as
Well,
Commonwealth
here's the
provided
answer.
some toys for them to use in website photos. And they even sent some products for their pre-orders, but Swaddle's ultimate idea never came to fruition. Partly because they wanted the characters to have unique
Oh,
facial
aren't they
expressions
cute?
to appeal to a younger
Come on.
demographic. Though
Tell me you
Commonwealth
wouldn't want
wasn't
that.
willing to do that
I
for
still
such
want that,
small
and I'm not a
game.
baby.
Now, doing alternate
Okay, maybe to
facial
some extent I
expressions as
am, but,
one-off
you know, come on.
samples, that's
Also,
different
this is
question.
absurd. Do
Now,
you
I
think
can
this is
neither
a
confirm
Photoshop
nor
or is this
debunk the
legit?
authenticity of this
I don't see a
photo, but it
reason
would
for
appear
them
as
to
if some
Photoshop
jumbos
this
of
photo.
red, the blues, and bomb
And the blues always look
sampled
weird
with
when you
slightly
try and
different
give them
facial
an angry
expressions.
expression.
This
They don't have
photo
eyebrows,
comes from
right?
Rovio HQ, which has always been a treasure trove of unique and interesting
One day
merchandise.
I'll go there and
That
I'll make a
gives us some
video from their
credence, though it could
merchandise
easily be an ad
archive.
for socials.
Mark my words, okay? It's gonna happen. We are gonna find what's in there. This was one of the biggest mysteries too, right here. These official hangers.
Now here's a line of products
let's
that
listen.
I can't offer an explanation for. Take a look at these. Backpack clips? No, not quite. 3-inch plushies with no clip? No, there's
Almost
a black
bootleg-ish,
hanger attached
right?
to the top, quite obviously. Okay, so they must be counterfeits. Hangers are always a staple of those kinds of things. Nope, wrong again. So then there's sample hangers. Wrong again, they have production codes, and have been seen out in the wild as far north as Canada with Red Planet distributor tags. What are they? I don't know, but they exist. I can offer a better explanation.
Yeah,
for
since
these
I made this
suction
video, there was
hangers,
another one that came up for
which
sale
were
from Canada
presumably
as
done
well.
around the same
So-
time. These are 100% samples, unlike the hangers, which could be either
Yeah,
or
just
both.
backpack clip variants.
Howdy, Editor
Oh.
Maximus here.
Yeah, and then while I was editing the video, I did a cool shot. I've seen
covered
that
this
someone
time.
do that before, where they actually
So after
pull the camera out from
scouring
the
for
editing
hours
software
on
to
Flickr, yes,
try
I
and make it
am
look like a cool
in
cut. There's
serious
no
need of help.
digital editing there at all. That's just a pure,
This image,
pure photography
thing
and
out.
videography skills there. That's cool.
posted by Mo Chandler.
And then shout out to
of
Mo
Angry
Chandler,
Birds
actually
Invaded
documenting these
Walmart.
damn things. What a legend.
Posted on November 4th,
I
2011.
think I ramble on here for a
Only
little bit.
99 views. That one fave is probably my own.
It is my own.
Check this out. These are the hangers.
I would love a
Check out
wide
what's
shot
on
of
the
whatever kind of background,
hang tag
kind of
says Red
store display that they're on.
Planet
It looks
You know
cardboard.
it
They
is
got little white
Canada.
pegs that they're hanging from.
So that explains why
Looks cool.
one of the only
Gotta wonder
known
why they did them,
public
though.
examples of
It's
the
like any
hanger
point?
has the Red Planet.
Why not just do backpack
distributor
clips?
tush
Who the hell's gonna
tags.
use a hanger?
So how about that? You can see another red over there.
I wonder what they
Menu
call
pig,
them officially.
red
Dangler?
in the
Hanger?
foreground.
What do I know?
See some other character down there, but thank goodness it says Walmart, and thank goodness we can see the back of the hang tag. Otherwise,
Again,
I'd
only
still
I
be
would notice
questioning
these
where
damn
these
things.
originated from, but here you go. Proof they were released in Canada. Maybe another country here and there. I don't
Sorry
know,
to
but
disappoint you sample
Walmart,
owners. At
Canada.
least what you thought were
That's pretty
samples.
sick.
They're not. Ooh, the claw. Another Toy Story reference. Animated claw
I
machine
would
there.
like to circle back to the.
By the way, that
concept-
little claw arm is actually the claw arm from Angry Birds Space. Made that one from scratch. I think it looks pretty cool.
I would like to circle
Again,
back to the
just
concept
pause the
of
video
distributors,
sometimes, and
but this
you'll be
time
surprised
a
what you see.
domestic one. Now, you might ask why Commonwealth would
There's
even
some cool
have a
pegs for you.
distributor for the United States.
The goofy
That doesn't
stuffed
make any
toys.
sense. Well, if you've been collecting since around late 2011,
Wouldn't it be
you
cool
probably
just to
noticed
have a
that they
claw
had to bring
machine
up claw
full of Angry Bird
machines.
plushies,
Around
whether
the
good stuff or
world, the
not,
amusement industry is the #1
or
avenue
something
by
like
which
that,
the average
carnival
consumer
stand.
acquires plush toys. If you've been to a local arcade,
Yet again,
an annual
you just
carnival, or
had to
maybe
be
even a
there.
theme park, you've seen the abundance of plush toys they have as prizes, both licensed and non-licensed. And as Commonwealth wanted to put their toys in as many places as they could, the amusement world was the way
Shout
to
out
go.
to Frosty
But
Snow
because
Bro
they
for
need
the
to
claw
make
machine
so
footage.
many to fill out the prize
Legend,
walls and
archivist.
claw machines you're probably envisioning, there was simply no way they could churn out product at the same volume.
Look at
and
this lady.
quality as
She managed to get a bunch of different
Hell,
retail
they didn't wanna
plushies,
deal with
all
the
Gen
hectic
1.
world of getting their inventory
Didn't
in the
cheap
hands
out
of
and
these
buy the
vendors.
claw machine
That's
ones
where
later.
Good Stuff Toys, the
Cool
biggest
shot.
name in the amusement space, came into play. Same shtick was done with White House Leisure for European markets.
So one thing that a lot of people don't realize that many different brands.
And Steven in this segment, he is a little full of shit.
You
I'm
might
going to
have
say that.
different companies selling the same.
I'll point out where I
brand
think he's
of
full of
plush
shit.
Toys, but there are different marketplaces. We have very distinct markets where we've got what we call the mass market: Walmart,
Yeah, true.
Target, one
Go
type
on.
of a store. Then you've got the specialty markets, you have the local candy store. But then you've got a whole area where a lot of
Shout
stuffed
out to the
animals are
local
sold,
candy
which is
store.
in the amusement area. People like Dave and Buster's, or it might be arcades in New Jersey, or the amusement parks you might see all over the country. And you could have different companies having the licensing rights to sell the same brand in the different places because the products are really quite different. And the pricing structures are quite different. Usually the amusement area tends to get poorer quality.
Yep.
There were a lot of brands that won't even sell into the amusement because they feel that their toys or characters are being made to look bad if they're being sold in that
And that's
marketplace.
more than fair.
I happen to not agree with that.
That's fine.
And our philosophy has been to try to sell the same higher quality product into those markets.
So do that.
So in the case of
Look, Good Stuff Toy and White House Leisure, they're not bad,
Two
it's just-
companies, Good Stuff being in America, White House Leisure being in Europe.
They're not retail.
We were using
Once
them
you go
as a
retail,
distributor,
you
but
can't
we
go
made
back.
sure that they carried the right quality product, the top quality product.
At least
there
as best
in
as they
every
could do,
case.
sure.
That's been a strategy that many.
I think there's a bit of
licensing companies actually are
massaging of the
happy
truth
with
there.
using
They're not
the right product into those
quite,
places.
quite on the level
Some
of
people
retail.
poor
Not
quality,
even close, in my opinion, but
don't-
they tried.
We get away with it.
Production of these toys began as far back as April 2011, and at that point they only produced the original 5 birds, plus the Minion Pig. Later,
Nice little
production
assortment there.
runs would bring the other pigs, as well as
The incredibly
commentators
rare
from the amusement
Seal B
world.
cow as a
While
good
they
stuff
were
there.
objectively lower quality, being made in bottom-rung factories
And
such as
bottom rung.
BD, FY,
That was a low
HK
blow.
102, they still brought these characters into the
HK
hands
100
of
too.
millions of consumers who would have otherwise
That's a
never
less
bought the
common one, though.
retail
I think you usually see that on
These
White House
variants
Leader.
will never have sound chips for obvious reasons, and will have additional sewn-in labels showing all the information we just discussed. Plushies made for these purposes would also be produced in irregular dimensions, such as 6.5 inch.
Yeah, if you get
10 inch,
another
and
instance
some
where you can get a
crazy
kind of an
oversized
oddball
one-offs,
size,
such as
including
the
this
60
one.
inch made specially for the 2011 IAAPA
You thought the
convention,
48 inch
which
one was big.
incredibly is somehow even bigger than the
Look at that
retail
one, just
48.
towers over human beings. That's great. Gotta wonder where that one ended up. Oh, okay. We're gonna do this on the spot here for this chapter. The oddballs and the celebrities. So this is something I want to do. So let me open my Translate app here. I don't speak Finnish. I'm trying to work on it. Okay, at least trying to understand it. But I'm gonna translate this for Get Live. So this says, okay, have you really translated this into Finnish? Too much effort was put into this video. Ha ha. That's good. And of course, you got Red wearing his tuxedo talking to Conan. That's good. And you got the city backdrop, reminiscent of the actual
Given
studio for the
success
Conan
of
O'Brien
products
show.
Thus far, Commonwealth was always looking to try
Nice
something
shot.
new, as practically anything they came up with was bound to be a hot seller.
Cool storefront.
Though of course, they cannot just do anything they please, as they must obtain approval from Rovio for each and every product they sell. It goes without saying that you can
Oh
just go
yes,
out there and create
and
your
these
own
are the
characters
as
and
people
market
call them,
them
what
as
the
a
pitch
big-
birds at this point. These are the original characters that Commonwealth had done up by some anonymous artist. It's not that I'm trying to obscure who it was. I literally don't know who made these.
That
I'd
was
like to
never
know,
going to
again,
happen.
with all the
It
artwork
wasn't
that
flagged.
was made, but here they all are.
Of trying, though,
They were
as
originally
did
done on
create some
paper, and then they
characters
were
of their
translated
own,
to
and
digital
lobbied for
using, I
recolors of
assume,
existing
Adobe
characters.
Illustrator.
That's where samples
They're really
like
nice
Pink
looking.
Bucket,
They're so goofy looking, aren't they?
never going to happen.
I think I put my favorite ones up front, but they're all really good. You get the peacock and kind of the I like the cube-shaped one, flamingo.
Lack of trying though, as they did create some.
There's even
characters
one
of
that's
their
like a
own.
stork. You know,
A
the
lot
stork
of
delivering the
recolors of
baby and all that.
existing characters. That's where samples.
great.
like
There's one
Pink
that's like
Bomb
a
and Tumor Truck
UFO,
came from.
a
Maybe
abduction
less so
bird.
in Chuck's case, that might have been just
Kinda
a sick
alien
joke,
type.
But Bob,
Yeah, Tumor Chuck and Pink
they
Bob, they're
legitimately
great.
consider producing different colors for shits and gigs because they.
And I gotta tell you, they're not the only ones that are like that
the
either.
Same reasons why this group exists. Presumably
talk
owned
about
by
those in the
Yaku
future.
Izalo himself. Can I call them color tests? Because where were these colors used? Legitimately, somebody tell me if they know.
So
Yeah, I can't call them color tests. That's
in the
what people have called them in the
development
past.
process,
They
we-
didn't
we
use
were
those colors
always
anywhere
looking
else.
to add more and more characters. We knew that the more characters there were, the
They're
more
just fun.
collectability there might be out there early on. In fact, within the first 6 months, once the character in the Angry Birds got really
It might
hot,
be fabric
we
tests.
even created our own birds. We had an artist do it just
Who knows?
because I wanted.
You see, there's the
birds to
stork
be
there.
out
You can see that.
Naturally, the licensors don't want you to create their own birds. They want it all to be approved by them.
Of course.
That's what happens. But we're always
But can you
playing
imagine?
around and trying different things. So we might say, listen, the bomb is great. Let's go make the bomb in 3 more colors. Let's go make the red bird in a couple different colors. Let's make these characters look a little bit different.
Some people
because
might frown
maybe
upon
we'll be
that. That's
able to
lazy
get
and all. And
something else put
what are you gonna
across.
do?
So we
It's
would
collectability of the product's
experiment
important,
with
right?
that and show the guys at Rovio what we were talking about. That's sometimes why people might see the red bird out there with a little bow tie, or a girl with a bow. We were just trying different things because we were trying to make them a little bit more toy oriented, not just the characters in the game oriented. And so to that extent, we've got a bunch of things that are floating around that have been made up just to see what they would look like. Because we had a factory with design room going, 24 hours a day for weeks and weeks on end. So any crazy idea we could come up with, we would try. And if we got one, it would pay for itself and be all the worthwhile. Now they're all over the place. And we would do the same thing with different sizes. We would try different materials. Occasionally, we might try materials that might be more water repellent to put something like a bathtub toy.
And that's
We
where we
might
talk about
try
like the
some
dog toy
toys,
type ones. They
that
kind of
might
use
be
like a
in
towel type
a light
fur.
cotton material, like a terry cloth, like a bathtub toy, things
Yeah.
along those lines. So there's all these little things floating around that we just kept trying and trying new things. That happens when you got something really, really hot. In 2024, as we're sitting here today, and you go back in the last couple of years.
And so we talk about Squishmallows. They're the biggest plush on the market as of recording.
They were doing the same thing. Once they began to see that the moon was where they were reaching for,
They're doing more and more licensed stuff nowadays too. So
And sometimes if you got a character that's not a licensed
I think if they did Angry Birds, it'd be quite a big hit with the fans. I don't know if I'd necessarily be into it, but
I were out there and I had bought the wrong material for a different toy. Now I'm sitting with 1,000 yards of material. I could make 5,000 toys from it. Why not use the material instead of throwing it away? Because nobody cares. What's another Squishmallow that's a little bit off brown or a little solid brown? Different with Angry Birds. I could do it with an off red, but that's why you might see different ones, different colors floating around.
Speaking of Izalo,
there's another
he can
instance
really
of the music
receive his own
actually
one-off
being
plush.
tailored to the visuals
Now,
there.
It's not like it was a
There's the
humanoid
Yaku Izalo
abomination,
bird,
no,
recently
no.
discovered.
This plush was actually based on his in-universe
Wanted to throw that
depiction
in
from
there.
the announcement of Angry Birds Chrome.
I
This
need
also
Peter
implies
Vesterbacka
that
to
Serdar
show me
and
his.
Vesterbacka
He's
plushes
got one
exist
too.
And hopefully they'll surface one day. Those 3 were more than deserving of the honor. Though they
They're
would
cool
not be
looking,
the
aren't
only
they?
celebrities to receive
They're
their
great.
own
They
one-off
capture their
plush,
their
and
persona so
certainly were
well.
the least famous.
Green
The reason
Day.
that we created some other characters.
Maybe in the future I'll make a
Some
specific
characters
video
like
about
Conan,
the Angry Birds
Bird,
Friends characters.
Green Day,
There they are.
and a couple of
Ah,
others.
they're so good.
There was
Look at
something
their
going
hair.
on at the time. I don't remember what the specifics, but there was
So
something
absurd,
going on
off
at
the
time.
wall.
It might have been Conan was happy with liked the product a lot.
And
and
gotta
would
love the
feature
Conan
it,
plush,
so
though admittedly it does
one
look a
for
little
him
funny, doesn't it?
For when he's going to feature Angry Birds on the show. 'Cause
I'm
remember, he's a
shocked the
marketing
celebrities
guru.
never actually got the
Now,
plushes
Angry Birds
themselves.
now has its
It seems
major
that every single
success.
one of these just ended up with
When you're in front of
Rovio
it,
or
you don't know what
went
it's
into
gonna be, and you
some
want people
storage
talking
with
about it,
Commonwealth or
because
something
you
like
get
that.
the
Or ended up in the
characters
hands of someone completely random.
Conan O'Brien
Which
show
we'll see
back
with
then.
Green Day in a
That's
second here.
big, that's a big lift. It really helps a lot. So to make up a character and make him excited about it makes sense for everybody. The same with
Hey, wouldn't it be cool if he actually showed the plush on
That's why we
TV?
made some of those.
Oh,
And it's fairly
shame that never
easy for
happened.
us. It was easy for us back at the time because we had a great design room, cranking out some great stuff. So we were asked to do that, and that's why we do it. And the same thing happened with the ice character.
And, you know, when you get the budget to do that, you know, they had infinite budget. Angry Birds, I mean, come on, that was a moneymaker.
In Finland, yeah.
That's the only time I said
There are
something. I'm like,
others,
give me a
too,
right
such
in
as
it.
Slash, for obvious reasons.
Slash!
That one is
We gotta
still
go find him.
undocumented, though.
As of recording, we
Hopefully
still
by
haven't
the time
found
we
him.
get around to an Angry Birds
I just
space
want an image.
documentary,
I wanna
I'll be
know.
able to show it to you.
It's a fascination
And
of mine.
one last thing regarding the Green Day one-offs. You would assume that the members of the band would have them, more like in the case of the Conan Bird, that Rovio at least does. But in perhaps the wildest turn of events, even more baffling than that 2010 kid we looked at earlier,
I don't know,
this
hard to beat
kid,
that
who we
2010
call
kid.
Sammy R. appears
Sammy
to
R,
be
though's got a
Joe
convincing argument.
Armstrong pig. And if you're not convinced,
Crusty
click
ass
the link in the
collection.
video
I
for
feel
that.
awful.
How? Why? And Rovio featured this on their Twitter page? Really?
Yeah,
There has to be
really.
some kind of relation here, right? This can.
And why is the image inverted?
This also calls into question the whereabouts.
If
of
anyone
the
knows
two.
anything
They're too
about
well
this,
done
please
to
let me
ever
know.
see the light of
This
day.
is just an
Just hope
absurd
they're in better
mystery.
hands than Billy. Yeah, I'm cringing looking at this kid's collection. Man. Yikes, bro.
Yikes, bro, indeed. That's one of the only hard cuts to black throughout the whole video. I thought it fit there. 2012's rebrand.
Angry Birds has cemented itself
Oh, I
as a
think here we have
pop
another
culture
instance of
icon.
After Effects
In
coming in.
March, on
Oh, I had to
Angry Birds
recreate this
at
shot. This is the
retail,
download
the
milestone
app surpassed
recreation.
100 million
I had to
downloads, and had two
painstakingly
different
go
spin-off
through
titles.
and recreate this. I had to make a star system in the back. That is not a video. That is actually using vector graphics within After Effects. That using, I believe, shape layers and some kind of particle effects. That same thing goes for the asteroids that are going about. I think that uses the particle world effect within After Effects. And you can see how it works a little bit if you look really closely. But again, if you're watching it passively, you're not going to notice that.
Was all but wrapped
And you can
up.
see all sorts of different vector assets. Sometimes red moves a little too slow, but I mean, once you've gone through and edited this thing, it's really hard to go back and actually change some things. These asteroids that actually go over the screen here, the one that's kind of out of focus, that one is actually done within Premiere. That one was added in post. And you can see the little kind of different colored bits of the galaxy as well. What were those done with? Those are blurred shape layers, which are just kind of blobs, but they look kind of cool. And you can see every time red hits a pig that it explodes and it shows some text that's exactly how it was shown in the milestone download videos that Rovio used to post on their YouTube channel. And then of course it ends with Rovio Entertainment, which is the whole point. And then I leave it to Peter Vesterbacke to explain the whole rebrand in July 2011.
Brand.
Building
So
an
we're
entertainment
exposing more
brand.
of the Angry Birds story, not only through the games, but we're doing that through the short animation.
He kind of bumbles
that,
through
you
this
know,
one a
you can
little bit.
access through the game, but you can access
This
also
again was
through-
done with After
we
Effects,
made,
that little number
bunch
counter
of
in the
videos.
bottom.
There's,
It's so slick, isn't it?
110
Come on, look at
million
that.
plus views,
You can't tell me that
of
isn't
those
slick.
videos, and they're telling,
It's so
target
small.
by
It's the
introducing
small
new
details
characters.
that
And
really
again,
make a
we
video
don't
like
view
this.
that as something
That's why I'm
that
so
is just
proud of
there
this. And
to promote the
Man,
game or the
YouTube,
games, but it's
please.
actually those
let the
videos
small creator
are,
have his day.
there to kind of like stand
Put this community on the
and be
map.
kind of like of value in their own right. Again, games.
I don't know if there's another
same thing
YouTube
goes
video
for
on the
the
platform that
toys
has this
we're
much effort
creating,
put into it.
board games
Certainly
that
there's
we're
ones that
making.
probably
They
have
all
greater
have to
production
fit
value. I
with
acknowledge
the
that.
Angry Birds world.
But those
And
were done on huge budgets. Those
that's
are done on
something
huge
that's very
teams.
important.
This is one guy with his little PC
So yeah,
and his little
it's
Angry
all
Bird
about,
sitting in
you
his
know,
room.
Mobile games. For us, it's really it's part of.
Throw me a bone, would you?
This whole.
I'd like to interview
kind of
Peter one day.
thing called Angry
Seems like a fascinating
This should be
individual.
reflected in the company's name, no longer just a mobile game developer. They were now
better or
Rovio
worse.
Entertainment, a grown-up organization.
Another instance of the
Now with
music
their own
actually being
headquarters
tailored to
in
the
Helsinki,
visuals. That's
Finland.
great.
When we realized we had a big hit on our hands with Angry Birds, we looked at
A
companies that had
celebratory
gone
Angry Birds
before us,
tunes,
especially
melody,
in the
it's so
mobile
good.
game sector, where we were at that time very firmly. Head told CNBC.com. We saw that most gaming companies had then immediately
So
tried to make
gangster.
another
Look at the
hit
wall
game.
there.
and we realized that it very rarely
I want that
works.
poster there, too.
Rather,
Join the
we
flock,
started
that
to look
says.
at what we could do around Angry Birds.
Ah,
and
the
if
Angry
there was
Birds
a way
Rio
that we could
poster.
build this into an entertainment franchise, he added. Their headcount increased
beautiful.
from a mere
Ah, look at the
28
staff.
to 224.
There's even a hockey bird at
They
the bottom
sought to
there.
capitalize on the popularity of the brand, acquiring Combo Animation, and licensing
Combo
out the
Animation
brand to
shop.
create over 40,000 individual pieces of merchandise.
Licensing
And they
Expo.
never would
Those
have
are cool
achieved
events
those
to look back on.
milestones
Hey,
without
there's more
Combo,
of the
who continued to be
3-star
at the forefront of
Logonet
consumer
hoodies.
products.
Angry Birds
And go back to
was first an
to
iPhone
this
app.
segment
We
here.
went to #1 everywhere, and when that happened, we had designed the game in a way that we could expand on it to take it everywhere to all other gaming platforms, but also that it would be such a brand that we could extend beyond gaming also. So then, as time went on and the game still remained very popular, we started expanding to animations, to consumer products, and now we have about 1/3 of our staff is actually working.
Where
on
did the
games, and
budget
rest
go?
are working on something completely different.
For
Never do anything like
2012,
that these
Rovio
days.
attempted to shift the brand
Yeah, there's the
image,
vector version of
as
the
brand's
splash
presentation
screen.
prior had been what you might call childish. Many look back upon that era of the brand with fond
It is a bit
nostalgia,
silly,
though you have to
kind of the
admit,
aesthetic
these
of the brand
boxes
back
and
then.
tags lack professionalism. Heck, you can point to something as simple as the resolution of the tag art.
I know, if you look
It
really
is
closely at
difficult
the
to
hang
see in
tag
person,
artwork,
but
it's
with
so
the benefit
grainy.
of having the original art files,
And it's not
you
because
can
of the
plainly
printing
see that
process
the art
either.
they
It's
used
just how it
lacked the
is.
fidelity
They didn't
you
have a
would
vector
see.
asset for the
These
app icon.
assets are plainly
They had it
ripped
for the
straight
logo.
from the game. Perhaps upscaled by artists here and there, but now with the requisite budget and staff, it was time they created a true brand identity. Now, if you ordered an Angry Bird plush online or walked into your retail store, you'd find the same toys as last year, but now with red and black.
Red and
streamlined
black is-
branding. Nearly every
It's
product that
a
was
pretty
carried
clean
over
look
into
for the
new
brand, isn't
year
it?
would be updated to fit within this new
It makes sense,
style.
Red kind of being the
new
main
name
character
tags
and
are
all
now
that.
circular with a silhouette of the iconic Poche's background.
Just obviously it wouldn't
painted
last very long.
front.
There's a slick little
Sewn-in labels
gleam
were
at
now
it there.
primarily black too, and
I
are
like that.
essentially the inverse of what we had previously. What a lot of people don't bring up with these is the backside, which now actually used the official typeface for the Angry Birds brand, and now reflected the fact that Rovio was an entertainment corporation.
You know, really the Entertainment Corporation bit, that was actually something that would feature on Gen 2 tags as well, following July 2011. It's not all that common to see, though. It's usually more associate that with the Gen 3 tags. And these ones are also printed on silk labels, so that way they can make the label black without having to print on the white label. I guess this was cheaper to do it this way, and to print white on it. Also, my video has dropped resolution. Come on, give me 4K, 2160.
Pretty Damn Quicks, retail platforms, and the 4-packs would all be revised with new artwork, although the templates for the most part remained identical. Production of these products would go into effect in late 2011, and wouldn't arrive on the shelves at retailers until March or April, which coincidentally
And we get our
lined up
little
with the debut of a new
Moo
plush,
Man.
Bubbles.
I'll say it.
On October 21st, 2011, one of the franchise's many spin-offs, Angry Birds Seasons,
Had to boot up the old PlayStation for this one.
Theme level pack called Halloween.
I wish I had the
What made this
DLC
update
for
special
Xbox
were the
360.
levels
Maybe one day
themselves,
I'll
but the character that made his franchise
jailbreak
debut
my Xbox, but
will be
we'll see
known
how
to
that
be
goes.
Bubbles. He would
It's a little
later
scary to
arrive
do.
in the original title and the birthday party update on December.
That was a
11th,
pretty slick edit. Hey,
2011.
look, come on. Hey, throw me a bone here, would you?
On the
Look at all the feathers bouncing around. That's also done with the particle world effect, I'm pretty sure, within After Effects.
birthday
And notice how Bubbles spins, like how he does in the game when he deflates,
Party.
and he uses that the non-uniform scaling effect as well. But where he ends up, he actually ends up in the position that Bubbles is falling out of the sky in this
on
shot.
December 11th,
I think that's pretty
2011.
slick.
It was during this time that Commonwealth began initial development on the Little Mimu Man.
Now look at
There
those
was a
samples. Those are so
last-second
silly.
design change, as some of you will know.
Go ahead, Glow
and then
Bird.
They made the
Yeah.
eyes too big, the beak too wide.
Funny name, innit?
But eventually,
Has
they
someone's
got
finger
there
on the
right
camera
as
there.
The year wrapped up, and because of Bubbles' inflation ability, they figured they'd make two different plushies. One representing his conventional
It's such a good
state,
idea.
and one
Come on.
representing his
Can you imagine a
popular
world where
state.
we didn't have both?
Production began in January 2012.
So iconic.
Meaning he debuted on Toy Wiz
Also,
and
I
shot
love
Angry
this little
Birds, and
advertisement
a few
here.
months later
Be
in
cool
April.
or go
The normal
wild.
Bubbles was priced at $13.99 for the 5-inch variation.
I love that little sound effect.
It was also
I source a lot of the
available
sound
in
effects from a
more
website called
sparingly.
freesound.org.
The inflated bubble started
Never
at
used it.
$16.99
It's
for the
great.
8-inch variation,
So many
and was
cool
also
little
sold
sound
in
effects that
12
people have
inch and
uploaded over the
16 inch.
decades.
Neither were sold in each and every
Great
size
resource
variation,
for those
which
who are
logically
looking for
made
free
sense
sound
if you
effects.
played the game.
Shout out to all
Like
those
Hal
creators.
and Terrence, the Bubble Splush was a notable step up from the initial wave, as he featured a curved beak and some goofy head feathers. The inflated version was unlike anything we had seen before, being a huge round ball with puffy cheeks and a shrunken face, topped off by a
I always
silly
debated whether I
tongue-stitched
want the
loop.
8-inch retail
He,
or
along
the
with
smallest
Hal
White
and
House Leisure
Terrence,
I can
would
get.
create what we've come to know as the classic set
I like that
Wave
Russian
2.
PDQ, that looks
Retailers
great.
were shipped full cases of these, though they could also be found in various other assortments, including Good Stuff and White House.
There they are on the
Leisure
claw
cases.
machine. Bottom right,
Interestingly,
barely see
White
it.
House distributed a 5-inch
I think that's the
inflated
one I
version,
ultimately want, is the
which
true
remains the only
5-inch White House
official way
Leisure.
to acquire that
It's very rare,
plushie on
though.
that
It's
scale.
hard to differentiate between the 6.5-inch and the 5-inch. And, quality control isn't always great, so sometimes you get ones that are even smaller, sometimes you get ones that are slightly bigger.
Misconception that Hal's redesign came in 2012. Though the reason why
Yep,
someone
the
assumed
Chrome
that
Hal
is
was
because
originally
they figured
released in
these
Gen
three
2.
were
Well, you know
redone
what?
in one fell swoop. In fact, if I polled most collectors on when exactly these changes occurred, the time period would fall much later than when they actually were made. The Blues
True.
and Chuck, who, as I pointed out,
I get
were
this
two
all
of
the
the
time.
most
People
flawed
think
plushies
these
of the original
redesigns
set,
came in
were given
Gen 4.
facelifts in April 2012.
It's Gen 3.
Presumably at the behest of
Although my
Rocco.
Chuck is a
The
Gen 4.
Blues now
I
have
kind of want a Gen
two
3
tail
one, but
feathers instead
I
of
do like
three,
mine. Mine is a
and
Salad
Chuck's
Toys one.
underbelly was revised to make it look complete.
He's kind of cool.
Although pattern techniques are maintained across.
Oh, I
variants,
love
the
this shot
dead
where you
stare
just
would be ousted
adjust
in
the
favor of these
the
cross-eye
focal length.
designs.
That's great.
An open beak version of the
Open
Blues
beak
was also
blue.
sampled during this stage, which potentially
He's great
could have been
looking, isn't he?
sold as
He looks a little
different
big
style,
to me.
but
He's
sadly,
the same
when
size as
made
that
to
Walmart King
production,
Pig there, which is a
would have given some
5.75.
much-needed variety
I
to
think
those
those are
who like
all
to collect the
5.75
triplets.
now that I'm looking at them.
Because these came after the initial boom of merchandise production, some of the oddball size variants.
I think this
can
was
be
a section I
tricky to
added in
come by.
later,
We'll
after
touch
I was
upon
initially done with the
forge
edit.
moves later,
I'm like,
though I
maybe I
will
should
speak
talk
on
about
the
these
jumbo
redesign
variants.
alternate size
Good luck
variations a
finding
little bit
these
more.
guys,
Because
as
you just
they were
never
almost
see them.
exclusively sold as amusement variants. As of today, we don't have much evidence for them even
They do
existing,
exist as retails,
especially the
but,
retail
I mean, man,
variants.
you'd
Backpack
be
clips
hard-pressed
are
to find a
similarly
photo of
difficult
one.
to find, especially if you want them on a card. And oddly, only the Blues would be sold as a color match finish variant.
Feel free to correct
No
me in the
evidence for a
future if
Chuck
you
has ever
find something that
surfaced.
disputes that, but
Just like
I have
how
only
you can
seen
find later
the color match
releases
clip
that
on
still
the
use
blue.
the old patterns.
And
We'll
look at
just
that's
leave
from
it February
February 2014,
for
that
some
Ammo Toy
randomness.
import
But
there.
we'll touch more on that later. Speaking of production errors, this generation also gifted us
And then
the mustache
some
pig
people have
without
called
eye
that one
bags.
albino
He must have
mustache.
been a real looker in Toys R Us back then. Would you have bought it over the regular one?
It is a Toys R Us. I mean, presumably there's got to be another one, right? I doubt that's the only one that exists. Dollar Store Hijinks. You could even see on that chapter graphic there that I removed the facial markings on red and made the blues look more like a dead stare.
Certainly be familiar with if you live here in the States to release budget assortments of the 5.
That is your prototypical
As we've
Dollar General.
established, when
It's
stores
exactly what
want
you
to sell
picture.
a
The
full-scale
old-ass
plush at a lower
Dodge
price
Grand
point,
Caravan sitting out
Commonwealth
front.
would typically sell them a toy without sound or maybe even a 4-inch. For Dollar General, Commonwealth pulled the same shtick they had done in the past by selling them toys without sound. But in this instance, they took it one step further. Instead of giving
I think you
them
can tell in
shaggier
this
fur
shot
we
that
normally
it's actually
associate
in
with the
reverse.
plushies made in
You can
5-inch,
see
they
the
gave them
movement
a
of my hand is a
shorter
little
minky
too...
coat, making them a distinct
how should I say? It's a little too sudden there when the plushies actually land on the table. I only do the footage in reverse so actually I can line up the shot the way I want. It's hard to do because it's hard to do when you're actually working with a camera and not with your phone. It's hard to see the display. I'm sure there's ways I can work around that, but I don't know. I'm not the most ergonomic guy when it comes to my videography.
Have to assume there's a Minion Pig too, but it would be virtually
I need those two with
indistinguishable.
all the tags. And I'll find them one day. That's one of the only chapter cards that's different. The chapter numbers on the pencil, if
In
you look
July
really closely.
2012, Rovio had
And there's
once
the
again
style
shaped
guide.
up the brand
That's another
by
After
handing
Effects
the licensees
edit right
implemented
there.
changes laid out in their latest issue of brand guidelines. Out with the red and black aesthetic.
Oh, look at that
the much
slick
more
transition.
fitting
Come
blue
on.
and white.
Eh.
Red and
Come
black
on.
was perhaps a bit too
I know.
edgy for
I'm pretty
a brand
good, aren't I?
Angry Birds, and didn't communicate the message they intended to send. As quickly as it arrived, it was out. And
Look
so
at that
began
store.
what we collectors call the
It
fourth
goes
generation,
further than the
as this was
photo
the fourth
reaches.
major
It's so
packaging
good.
design change.
That one's great too. Look at
Hand
Toys R
tags
Us
were now
there. Oh.
rectangular, retaining the
Now it's
silhouette
time
of
to talk about
poached
Stella.
eggs, But now with the color you
I like the
associate
4th-gen
with
tags.
it,
I think
Sony
they're a
labels
nice look
reverted
for the
back
brand.
to
It's,
being
again, but
primarily
it's just a
white,
clean
but
look.
the logo would stay
I think
white
we all
still.
prefer kind of
All
that
products on the
Gen
market
2
would undergo the
and Gen 1
change,
type
with some
era
older products slated to
as
return
the
under this new
updated
style,
9-pack.
such
That'd be
as
cool
the
to
obscure
own.
multi-packs.
We got that in storage somewhere.
Unfortunately,
We need to get
none
that
of them
thing
will
out.
be put back into production, only being seen at Toy Fair 2013.
And there it is.
So the
Probably the
reason
only one
that we
ever
see
made.
different hang tag colorations and styles and different sewn labels over the course of the years that we had the Angry Birds line was that Rovio would be changing the look of the brand a couple of different times, and we would just go along with it. So there was the original tag artwork, and as the brand became more sophisticated and as it began to grow up, they would try different things for whatever the reason. So you'd
Facts.
see that color palette would be put across all their licensed products, not just ours. We were just one, so it might be in the T-shirt packaging. It might be on,
As Sam Spratt
underwear,
t-shirts.
on towels,
So good.
anything else that you might see, you'd see that.
Can't
same
believe
kind
they
of
put those
tagging,
on
and we would
t-shirts.
just make a rolling change or a running change.
But yeah, Rovio did
Either
commission the
way along with
artwork. It
And
is
they were
official
on the
artwork.
forefront
It's great.
of their licensing programs, and so they would ask us to do it, and we would do that.
On August
Can I have those on a hang tag?
2012, Angry Birds Seasons received an
Yeah, talk
update
about Seasons again.
consisting of
I love the
20
back to
radar
school
theme
update.
levels
Have I ever talked
and
about how
episode
much I
called
love
Back to
Angry Birds
School.
Seasons?
Levels were decked out with back
I
to
think
school
it's by
gear,
far
such
my
as
favorite Angry Birds
textbooks,
game. Maybe one day I'll
pencils,
do
apples,
a
and
video
dunce
dedicated
caps.
to
However,
the
like
different
the
episodes in the
Halloween
games.
update, this episode's significance is
Of course,
so
I'm more
related
about the
to debut
merchandise,
of
but
a new flock member,
I think
who
Seasons
we
is
know
great
to
for
be
merchandising.
Stella.
You get all sorts of different
Stella's
variants that
plush
came out of that.
counterpart was
And
developed
Stella's
as
great.
far back
Stella's
as
such a
April
great character. She was
2012,
perfect for that
allowing
update.
Commonwealth to release the toy to coincide with the update.
We needed a character like
Unlike
her.
characters we have seen in the past, multiple different Stella
Hashtag girl
expressions
power,
were
am I
not only
right?
considered, but fully sampled
I
as
love this
well.
edit. This was done in
The
After
three
Effects as
debated
well.
over were
You get the
the
wiggle
happy
effect.
face,
I like the wiggle
the
effect for
angry
the
face,
the
and
bubbles
of course
floating
the
there.
one they settled on, the side.
And I like how she pops the bubbles
Now,
using her
everyone's
little
going to have their
loud
own
lecture
opinion
pointer there.
as to which one they should have done. I'd personally argue that none of them were the correct
What a
one.
trio.
The two Princess Leia plushies served as a fine
There's the
example
quartet.
of how she should have been produced. But I must admit, having different facial expressions
See, wouldn't it be
is
great if they
certainly
offered this
fun,
for each and every
but it would be
character?
better if
You just could pick
and
your
choose
favorite
the one
facial
you
expression or
prefer.
collect them all.
Despite the
Like I
early
have here.
Stellas being produced as far back as May 2012, she would not be released until November. Toy Wiz and Shop at Angry Birds posted her up for about $15.99 for the
Again,
final
another great ad
iteration.
right there.
And like characters we had seen before,
And
was
here's
offered
the
in various other
Sam
sizes.
t-shirts again.
She, along with Bubbles, would also receive backpack clips in extremely limited quantities. This assortment
Okay,
is
so
known
this
as
right
the
here,
infamous Mix
I actually
A,
have something
which
to
was
add to this.
distributed towards the end of the calendar year.
We're talking about this Mix A, this
Documentation limited, though we do know for sure
92237,
they were
was
sold
it?
in
The
US and
27A?
Canada, likely making the cartridge versions
This
North American
assortment,
exclusive.
I say it's North American exclusive. Okay, we have evidence that it showed up in Canada. There was newly discovered evidence.
Good old Stella.
Let me pause right here. There was newly discovered evidence that they actually made it to South America as well. If you go on like Peru Facebook Marketplace, you'll find a bunch of these. And I'm pretty sure it's overflow of inventory coming out of Chile. The Chilean distributor was a company called Clue. And I maybe want to do a whole video talking about them in the future. If not, I'll just integrate some of their oddball imports into some other videos. But they imported some of the most oddball, oddly specific backpack clips I've ever seen. They are the only country that imported the Monster Terrence backpack clip from Angry Birds Space on the card. They got the Angry Birds Star Wars Wave 2 backpack clips. They're one of 3 countries that got those. And apparently, they're one of I guess if you count South America and North America as a whole, they made it so South America was the second continent that got this mix. Apparently, Clue imported this Mix A. It's really cool to see, actually. And I have some photos and probably looking at them right now. Super cool. Super cool that we found that. And I wonder if there's any other countries that got them too. There might be.
Which again came with a hang tag.
We're always discovering new stuff, am I right?
American release. In all
Though good luck,
fairness to Commonwealth,
good luck
the
getting them
Star
out of
Wars
South
we
America,
get
am
was
I right?
true
I
to
mean,
design
have
of
you
the
ever tried
shows,
importing something from
featuring
there?
her distinctive long tail and head feathers.
Usually doesn't go
as
well.
as nailing that signature side-eye facial expression.
Wasn't always that
Out
way.
of sheer technicality, she is not considered.
I like the
part of
Stella
Wave
plush.
2.
And some people shit
She
on
would
it.
never actually be added
Come
to the
on,
Hal,
that's great.
Terrence Bubbles PDQ,
Especially when you
showed
position
earlier.
those head feathers right.
Instead, Commonwealth released her within randomly
And look at that
sorted batches
store.
of plushies and as a standalone item.
Again, you see those
If you happen to
logo
find
net
the
hoodies
plush
there.
at retail around early 2013, you might have been able to find the obscure Stella tag.
Oh, and the
variation.
Stella tag.
Instead
that
of
was a
the
copy and
typical
paste
light
of the
blue
Bad
rectangle
Piggies
you'd
tag as well.
expect, you'd find a bright pink one in its place.
There's a
The
version
Stella
that would just
plastered
Ross
front
on
and
it.
center.
It's got the same
Entire
burst.
PDQs were planned at
She had
some
kind of like a
point, and
diamond
even shown
aesthetic,
off
though.
at
She was
Toy
always
Fair
associated with diamonds for
2013,
some reason.
but
They even
for
named
everyone's
her
collectible
soft drink flavor
collection,
after
they
that.
never made it to
You see that on the
production.
box art there of the canceled PDQ. Oh, and this is my favorite of the chapter cards. Look at this. I try and integrate all the different little experimental toys into this one shot here, or at least some of them. You got the gift box set here with the flap opening. It's actually the original artwork with all that. It's high quality, and you can see the shaker inside. I believe it moves. Yeah, it actually shakes too. It says Toy Fair 2013. It's highlighted, so it pops off the back a little bit. It's underlined. It's so good. Again, just detail you don't think about. And again, okay, so this was all done. I believe this was partly done in After Effects, but I think the majority of this was done in Premiere. I believe the 2013 sign here, this was keyed out in After Effects. Might have been Premiere Pro. It was one of them. And then got all the characters here who are animated. Animated. They actually move. The blues bounce up and down. And you got the hearts coming off of Matilda. This is based on, I believe, something that came from Facebook. This was based on some kind of Facebook post. You can even see those little feathers falling. Oh, it's so great. See, Red actually spins and bounces. And all of them use the non-uniform scaling effect on them as well to just make them look a little bit more expressive. Of course, Terrence doesn't move, but that is so good. And you can even see like little bits of puffs of smoke coming off a bomb. He's about to explode. He's angry. No, it's so great.
But not before we appreciate
And then we
the
rewind
vintage
through all the
evil
best of 2012.
year of
Look at all that.
2012.
Oh, and this is really cool too. This is based on a Fifth Son t-shirt. I had a vector asset from one of those, and I changed the text to say 2012. It's in a gradient. Looks really cool.
Awesome.
And you can see in the background, this was done in After Effects as well. This moving glimmer on Laser Chuck's visor on his face.
Angry Bird games
So that's based on a trailer for Angry Birds Space. This whole aspect right here, this whole trench run from the Death Star, had all the vector assets that I got from Commonwealth here. You got the X-Wing. You got Luke flying off of here with his battle cry. And he's blasting all the TIE fighters with his lightsaber. Look at that. $1.7 billion, and that's in the background. You can see the X-Wing with all the characters on it is moving around. That uses the wiggle effect. And I think it's the same with the TIE fighters as well. They use the wiggle effect. That's how they look like that.
Total revenue was up 100.
And then here, this one was incredibly difficult to do as well. This one was done using, I believe, masks. This might have been like a mask shape layer type effect, where I used keyframing to follow the path of a mask or a shape layer in order to get Ross's little vehicle here to move and jump off the side of the cliff here, which is also a vector asset. Oh, it's so many little things here. And again, the whole number count up thing, that was done in After Effects. But then you can see here, this was done, I believe this was keyed out in Premiere Pro, because it's not rasterized. And we're zooming in on the Bad Piggy Bank, money, and we got a little allusion to Friends. And all of these are allusions to the best aspects of 2012. We started out with space. This is a reuse of the star system I made earlier.
With nearly 300
In the background here, behind the whole trench.
Total revenue was up 101%.
So we got space, we got Star Wars, we got Bad Piggies, and then we finish off with Friends. Those are the four most iconic games from 2012, right?
Attributed to the merchandise.
Which is partly why I think 2012 is the defining year for the Angry Birds franchise.
Commonwealth.
Look at that, and the crown falls on them, and then it glimmers.
In fact, they themselves sold
How cool is that? And it makes a little ding sound, a little bell sound.
In fact,
so
they
cool.
themselves sold over $400 million worth of Angry Birds.
$400 million
compared to 2011.
There's the podium.
And this was at a time where the plush industry was on the outs. According to a contemporary source, in 2011,
This is one of those
US sales of
Seamus
plush
articles
toys
I
fell 21%
alluded to earlier.
To 1.3 billion, which might sound like a lot, but that was actually
21% drop of sales. Look, they're still profiting 1. I guess they brought in $1.3 billion dollars, but also look at this photo of Steven. Come on. Isn't that what everyone dreams of?
Hence all the new game releases throughout the year, and all the wild collaborations that had transpired. It was inevitable 2013 would live in its shadow, but sales continued to stay strong into the new year. Toy Fair 2013 showcased.
Yep, and then 2013 was more of an experimental year.
Early 2010
They kind of had their lineup established, and maybe looking to add a few extra products here and there. And this is what they came up with.
The same toys we came to know, but had
I love the little pop
battery-powered
sounds.
motors inside that allowed the characters to, well, shake.
This is absurd. Look at these little things. I can't believe they still work. Honestly, I'm afraid to use them because I don't want to drain the battery. The battery's going to die eventually. There will come a day where they're just not going to work, so I guess I might as well record them on the cleanest white background I can to preserve them. Someone looking back on this video 50 years from now can see them in 4K.
The larger ones were around 6.5 inch and were
It's too bad we don't have one of the larger ones, though. At least we have them in the Star Wars form, but we don't have any of the classic ones.
With no clip attachment and a small retractable pull string that
They're so
activated
cute.
the feature. Unlike the larger
I'd like to see the
ones,
Bubbles one.
unfortunately, their batteries were non-replaceable. Beanies were yet another concept.
Oh,
that
the
took
beanies.
4-inch
They're really
wheels
satisfying to
and
hold.
made them into hand-sized weighted bags. All the main birds were sampled. But
If you've
of the
ever had a
4
beanie
pigs,
type plush, you
only
know
the
exactly
mini
what I'm
pig
talking
made the
about.
cut,
And it works really well for
7/10.
Angry Birds because
They've
these
got
are
a
so
nice
high
feel to
quality.
them for the
That's
most
what I love
part,
about the
especially
Commonwealth
the ones
plushies.
with
Part of the reason I
sample
love them so
tags.
much.
They've
So
got a
high
little more
quality.
heft. I also find their splash screen mock-up tag and the one that says collect them all to be a curious decision. Though
The pig
perhaps
doesn't have
most
any tag for some
curiously,
reason.
A set of 6
Don't know why.
scale plushies were put on display, eerily reminiscent
Nice
of
minion
those sold at
kingfisher.
Chinese McDonald's locations in 2012. If you observe them with little scrutiny, you probably would assume they were those McDonald's plush hangers. These were different though, as the character assortment was slightly tweaked with the blues instead of Hal, and were notably
That makes
not
sense to me.
hangers. Commonwealth saw what Creative did with those Happy Meal toys, and sought to bring
This
the
is
concept
absurd,
over
by the
here
way,
to the
that they
States,
did
in
this.
a rare instance where a U.S. company ripped off a Chinese one.
You
These were to be
never
called
see
the
that.
gift box
Okay, I won't say
set,
you
with the
never
Archie
see that,
character
but
plastered
it's quite
all over a
rare.
small box with a door, which housed the plush inside. None of these would make it into production.
And the only
but
one
showed
that has
Commonwealth still
survived
had the
is
ambition
this
to come
one
up with
Chuck
new,
who was sitting on
debatably
top of
creative
all the
lines.
boxes back at Toy
So
Fair.
the shaker products and others. That
And amazingly,
featured
Steven remembers
products
some of
were
this
all things
stuff.
that
It's
we
great.
were experimenting with to come
And you
up
can
with
only imagine
featured
all the different plush
which
toys he's
totally
worked with
revolutionary.
in the time since.
So the shakers.
It's amazing.
We wanted the characters to move. I mean, the characters in the game, they move. So anything we could figure out the way to move. So
It's one of the
vibrating
many
mechanisms,
memes.
walking mechanisms, other kind of things. That I say walking mechanisms, different kind of mechanisms that could go inside.
They do
the toy
walk,
That might simulate some
to
of
be
the
fair.
actions of the characters. We thought would be great because we're always looking to have different pieces. And they might have been for collectors back then. But when I say collector, it might be different than the true collector that appears now 10, 15 years later. But we knew there were always people that would have wanted more expensive products, more featured product, and that's why we would try to do things. You see that in other brands as well. There are brands I've done in my career where we had the regular characters, but I'd make certain ones talk, or maybe the arms would move, and that would have a little bit more featureization to it. And that's what the shakers and things like that actually were a result of. But we were able to create many more things than we actually had a market for, because there's just so many slots that these retailers would give us. And remember, the early days was
Yeah, it's
before
definitely
we
different
had all this
nowadays.
stuff
You
on
can
the
offer all this stuff
in
on
the
Amazon
world of
nowadays. Just
today,
put it up there and,
every
you know,
single one of
make a
these
small
characters
amount.
that I created that Rovio would have approved, we would have had selling in our own store or on Amazon in a store that we
Yep.
would manage. At least we would have everything out there. But back then, if I had to go to Toys R Us,
So
there
again,
was just so
I'd like
much
you to
space
think
they could
about
give
how
me.
things would be different
So many
nowadays
things
had
that
this
we could
stuff
carry
just been
that would
a
make
few years
sense. So
later.
that would be a natural limiting factor back then.
What they didn't show at Toy Fair that year.
This
was
is a
the
rare
next
reused
wave of
asset. This one's ripped straight from the
As I
Rio
alluded to
video, just because it's kind of
earlier,
the same
all the
point that I'm
character
talking about
designs were
with
revised
these
near the end of
chrome,
2010.
pre-chrome,
These
redesigned.
are known as the Chrome designs. The name owes its origins to the browser-based PC game that came out.
I thought it was
in
cool. That's based on
2011.
some kind of
But in
neon
reality,
t-shirt, I believe.
The designs first debuted
This old
in-game
graphic
in
here,
Angry Birds
where
Rio.
the characters
It's
glow
more
with the
noticeable
outlines.
in some characters than others,
I
but
think that
nowhere
looks
was
pretty
it
cool,
more
doesn't it?
evident than with the bad piggies.
That one was done in
There are
After
reasons why we
Effects.
refer to these as the Chrome designs, as Rio doesn't exactly have pigs, at least in the traditional sense.
Yeah, it's got balloons.
Though if you're looking at the franchise overall, you'll find them being used as far back as the Season's Greetings animation.
The history of the
And that
Chrome
was all the way
designs
back
is
in 2010.
one that
So
needs
you'd
to be
think the
studied.
plushies would be
Let's
based
just say
on the
that.
latest
And I'm not the
designs.
person to do that.
Evidently, that was not the case. This wasn't a big deal necessarily, given that the design changes weren't drastic, and the plushies weren't exactly inaccurate, but at some point you like to see them make the change. The question was, would it be worth
Oh,
overhauling
boy.
the plushies for minimal gain?
Look at that Terrence just
Starting
hanging up in the
late
rafters.
2012 and into January 2013,
Oh,
Commonwealth
man.
would try their hand at sampling
We
the
missed
Chrome
out.
legs. And after a
We
couple
so
of rounds,
missed out.
they had a
Look at that
set
mustache
could
pig, it's
potentially
great.
pass for production. That would be as far as they ever got, sadly. Amongst all the unreleased items.
I mean,
that
look,
we
you know,
looked
a lot of
at
people do
today,
prefer the
this, to
pre-chrome
me, was the
designs. I
biggest
just,
miss. These finalized
man,
designs
it'd be
were a
nice to have
major
both, let's just say
improvement over
that.
the originals. especially if they carried over the golden crown for King Pig. If a license were to ever return to Commonwealth somehow, some
The
way,
proportions are
I'd
just
personally
so
lobby
much
for
better
to
on
finally
these.
make it out. What they did do, however,
And then
was
this
make
was
the
weird,
5-inch
too.
helmet pig slightly larger for Gen 4.
Yeah, it's a story I don't want
want
to get into now.
Overdue. And then they
It just looks
sold
way
it.
better.
In
Slightly
fact,
bigger.
they completely
That's how it should have been.
discontinued the 5-inch helmet pig for Gen 4.
That might have been the one they were
8-inch
going to
will live
put in
on,
that
but
9-pack.
not this guy. Wonder why? It should be apparent by now that Commonwealth was always devising new ways to feature the Angry Birds characters, no matter how off the wall the concept was. Often, these would never make it past the conceptual stage.
You should
unlike
pause the
Toy
video
for
and look at some of
Ozzy's
these
we couldn't
concepts.
ever
Again, there's so
far.
many concepts
But
they're
what about
throwing
those
around.
ideas
I
that
probably don't
remain
even
for long in
encapsulate everything in
development?
this one
The
video
set
that
of
they
May
were thinking about.
2013 product
I mean, not
photos,
everything's
which
archived. They
Ryan
just
put
come up with these
together
things. Some of it's
after
just
Toy
said
Fair,
by word of mouth.
showcases perhaps
Not,
the most
it's not
eclectic
necessarily
set of
put into a
ideas we've
document.
seen yet. A bird
But look at some of
launcher
these,
that happens to be a net and not a slingshot.
It would have been better if it
Supposedly,
was a
going to
slingshot,
feature
admittedly.
sounds and was fit for a mini-scale plush, perhaps a 4-inch mini.
Head feathers
An
looking weird on that
actual
one.
inflatable bubbles plush. This gets
No,
the
boy.
full 3
See, this would
stars
satisfy
at
those people with
points.
those weird
I'd be
inflation
curious to
fetishes.
see how that would work. A light projector so you could gaze up upon your ceiling and admire your favorite mobile game characters in some blocks. Actually, a
That
really
would have been
neat
kind of
toy.
cool. I think that'd be
Reminds me
something
of a
I would be
projector
into if I were a
turtle
kid.
plush I adored as a kid. A light up plush.
I guess if you made the light light enough
Good
and
luck
you
making transparent
made the fur thin
Commonwealth.
enough, you could
And
get that to
then there's
work.
this pair of pop-up plushies, embodying those rubber cap toys we've all messed with at some point. Like Steven said,
those are
if
pretty
they can
goofy,
make the
aren't they?
characters move, that was a win in their book. A fun set
I don't
of
know. It's probably
concepts to be
these
sure,
products were a
though
little
none of it actually
past their
exists as far
time. Let's
as I
just say
know.
that. They should have came up with those probably back 2011, 2012 or something like that. European oddities. There's a whole section here that got cut from the video for corruption purposes. Let's just say that.
As the popularity of the Angry Birds franchise began to plateau,
A lot of my files got
year over
corrupted
year
after I did
numbers
an
spread
initial
out
export, and we actually
stagnation,
discovered
but that isn't
something
to say
after I made the
absolutely
video.
Nothing was happening.
It's a cool
Commonwealth
graphic.
finally returned to the well of promotions.
But I'll
this
talk about
time
that when the
partnering
time
with the
comes.
Serbian-based Del Hassi's group.
This
Those
Del
two separate
Hassi's promotion, this has to be one of the most obscure things that I discuss in this video. How would you ever know about something like
Owns the
this?
supermarket chain Maxi, who would
Unless
host
you
both
experience it, of
promotions,
course.
with similar redemption policies to that of Tesco stores when they had TCC. The first promotion began on December 14th, 2012. And
I love
ran
that
all
little
the way
poster.
through March
Isn't that great?
2013. The same promotion
can even
would
see the little
return
stickers.
starting August
Oh.
16th, 2013, and ran up until October 13th. Because Maxi required so many toys, Commonwealth decided to produce them cheaper, pulling the same stunt they did with the dollar stores in the US. The plushies available through this promotion marked the return of the
Why can't you just be normal, Commonwealth?
with no sound chips this time either. What makes this promotion especially notable,
Totally
however,
absurd.
were the exclusive matte furs that were available. Hal and Stella, who were not included in the dollar store assortments, were given away as a part of this promotion. Hal would remain the only exclusive one, however, as the Stella would later be sold as part of the Hogs and Kisses set, released at Target stores in 2014. This makes him quite the rare piece,
Well,
despite being a lower quality
well,
variant. Till
well.
size would have a
Okay, let me talk about this real quick. So I'm going to put in a section here that I wanted to add into the video once we discovered this information, but there was this whole Belgian distributor situation that we recently discovered that was related to the whole matte fur situation. So let me go ahead and play that, and then we'll continue the director's commentary. Hold up, there's been some newly discovered information since I put this all together. A few collectors have come forward with their examples of these European matte furs, but the tags that have been shown do not match the Serbian variants. Which obviously begs the question, where do these come from? Unlike other import tags, there's no identifying information printed anywhere, front or back. After some digging, I found that these are distinctive to the Belgian distributor Simba Toys, who, fun fact, had multi-language booklet tags. Gen 2, Gen 3, and Gen 4. Obviously because they don't have their own language and are sandwiched between the Netherlands, Germany, and France. They must have carried a matte fur assortment at some point. Maybe they were promotional, maybe they were retail. We don't know. My best guess is that they're somehow related to this Aldi promotion, which did offer a few of the characters that had matte variants. The photo I have here, though, doesn't account for everything, and clearly does not show matte fur. But anyways, transgression aside, back to the script. Okay, you back? Yeah, I think so. Okay.
Another
Let's continue
promotion
on.
in late 2014.
How
But
weird
this
is
time
that?
it was for their
Belgian
Indonesian
distributor
chain,
with
Super
matte fur
Rio.
plushies.
According to their flyer, the plushies available this time were fluffy fur with sound. Though, as the promotion is super obscure, we don't have a complete list as to what was available.
Anybody in
and
Indonesia?
confirmation of what they look
Come on,
like.
help us
You
out.
have to assume there was something
Let
else
us know.
about them, considering this was late into 2014. Did they
Those are
use the
definitely
older
unique
design of
stock
blue?
photos, so
Was it
I'd like to
old
think that's what
stock?
they actually
A
got,
fresh
is what's
batch?
pictured there.
Well, perhaps
Those are
never
Gen
know.
3, right?
4-packs also made their triumphant return in 2013, but not for the United States. Character once again
Oh
ordered
boy,
the
come on.
bundle to
You know,
be sold
speaking
in the
of
English market,
companies being
but this
normal,
time
why
with
can't you
4K
guys be
box
normal,
art
huh,
and
character?
updated designs of the Blues and Chuck. And if it weren't for my discerning eye, I wouldn't be able to tell you about an Estonian exclusive variant of the
Oh
4-pack
boy,
that
and then
was also sold
Karapoic
in Gen
poo.
4.
Oh,
Oddly,
God.
this one had an assortment that we had never
These
seen
guys.
before, containing Bomb, King Pig, and presumably Red and Matilda.
Just ruining
This
Angry
one
Bird
was
plush
imported
lore
by
with their
Estonian
absurd
toy shop
assortments that they
Karapoic
imported.
Poo, which translates to Winnie the
Yeah,
Pooh
you can see
for
Matilda
us
over
English
there.
speakers. In my
Hey, there's my
non-US
list again.
distributors I put up earlier, there's a chance you saw a second
Come on, I had to put that in
distributor
twice.
who you may not exactly associate with toys. Puffin Books. They are one of the
Ding,
top
ding.
children's publishers in
I
all of
love the
Britain.
sound effects.
And
Come
as
on.
you can imagine, they had their fair share of
Somebody,
independent
give me
books
some
at the
props
time,
here.
one of which was a book adaptation of the Wreck the Halls animation.
Shout out
which
to,
could be found at the
Puffin
good
Books,
old
by the way.
Commonwealth. A 4-inch mini red, to be exact.
Made some of the
I
best
mentioned
Angry
this
Bird
instance
literature
of the
out there.
Plush bundle and not the Toons DVD sets or the Lumine kits.
Throw
because
this one
was
in
a
there.
product that
I don't know
Commonwealth
if the
actually
book
endorsed
itself is all that
themselves.
good. I'd rather watch
Those
the little
other products
animation,
happened
but
to use Commonwealth plushies, but weren't deemed
plush
a
is
part of
nice.
the official collection. In the last European
Yeah, I don't count those little
comes courtesy
promotional,
of the UK again. This
whatever
time
you
in the
call
fall
it.
of the 80s
Those companies
retail
clearly
platform.
bought plushies
How
off
did
of
they make
Commonwealth and
these
just
unique,
bundled
you
them
may
with
ask?
whatever
Well,
product
these
they
were
were
given a
selling.
backplate for some
Unless
reason.
Commonwealth actually
Was this to make
manufactured the
toy
box
look more
itself, as
extravagant
well
than
as
it
the product
actually
that came
was?
with it,
A common
I'm not
method of
buying it.
presenting a toy in the UK? Not entirely sure.
Those are weird. Almost looks like the plush is sitting in a chair or some shit. Accidents will happen.
Okay, I tell a lie.
I love the
This
music
part
in the
is
background
actually
here.
the last of the European oddities, but will get its own chapter because of the sheer magnitude of its oddity. The Polish distributor for Angry Bird products was a company called EP,
Which is
and
apparently
they've been a
pronounced
partner of
EP?
Commonwealth for many
Something like that.
years. Their
I don't know.
2013
Look,
line
it's
products
EP.
had a
It's clearly
unique
spelled
quirk,
EP.
as they were given plushies with
That's how an
second-gen
American would say it.
tags. And
I'm
not just hang tags
America.
either, this applied to the Sony labels
Yeah.
as well. I don't know how or why this blender was made, why that art was still
Commonwealth,
floating
why
around
can't
2
you be
years
normal?
after the fact,
Character
or
options,
how
why can't
nobody
you
had
be normal?
noticed. But this is
EPA,
probably
why
one of
can't
those
you guys be
instances where
normal?
they said,
Hmm?
We do not care.
And
but
Mike
if you
Tomlin.
want a Bubbles, Stella, or updated
We
Blue
do
or
not
Chuck with
care.
the older style tags, this is your
That's basically how
opportunity.
it is.
A similar situation went down here in the U.S. with Toys R Us. One
Yep,
row
even the
assortment
US
of
was plagued by
backpack
it.
were sold on second-gen cards.
To be fair,
I have
I'm not
2 of these
complaining.
myself,
They're
though
kinda
you would
cool to
only
have.
ever know if you kept
Makes
them
it
on
so
the
the
original
Hal and
cover.
Terrence backpack clips are slightly more common on the second-gen card backs. Enter the Amazon, which is a reference to the Amazon soft drink
Commonwealth
can
would
there.
continue production
There's
of
the
classic
wall of
plushies
reds
up
again.
through 2014, where production
The
for
height of
retail at
production.
last
That's probably
ceased.
mid-2011
The
or something like
license was
that.
not
It's
up, as they were
unbelievable.
supposedly signed up through 2017. So
Thank goodness
what
they
were
took
to
photos
do
of
in
these
the
things.
meantime? The
What a
Angry
great
Birds
storefront,
movie
by the way. I
was
just
on
want to acknowledge this. What was this, like corner toy store or something like that? Look at the look at the storefront here. It's got the little high score and score text hanging up there. It's got the birds flying and dangling off these little fishing lines. And look at the whole store situation in there. It's fantastic. It's full of Commonwealth stuff too. Oh, and it's even got the grass up front and the building materials that act as podiums for the plushies.
So what were they to
We
do
need
in the
we need
meantime?
these props,
The
man.
Angry
Come on.
Birds movie was on the horizon, though there would still be
I guess
demand
even if
for
I
those
had them, I
classic
probably wouldn't have
plushies
space
sold
for
in
them.
every
But
part of the decade.
yeah, I
With the
find
rise
space.
of
Okay.
e-commerce sites
That
like
becomes my
Angry Birds,
furniture.
Toywiz, and now most significantly Amazon, this allowed them to continue selling the toys when retailers had soured on the brand, and make just enough to satisfy their market demand. They even launched their own website where they could sell
This
the
is an
toys
absurd
directly.
story.
The first post-retail production run began in May 2015, where the
I
classic
can't
plushies
believe
would
they got
return,
away with
this
this.
time being e-commerce exclusive. They would be produced to look exactly like the ones sold in 2012.
Well,
and
if you're
2015,
advertising
even
everything
retaining
as
the
just
same
dead stock,
copyright
who's ever gonna
information
know,
on the
right?
tags. But of course, with our knowledge
E15.
of production codes, we can tell
There's
them
probably a lot of
apart.
people out there who
The
have
second
these and
act
have
was
no
some of
idea.
That hiccups, however,
And that's kind of the whole
especially when
point,
you
isn't it?
closely inspect the pigs. Somehow, the 5-inch variation.
Hey, though, the
now
pigs
the
are quite
shaggy
collectible, aren't
fur
they?
formerly
They're totally
reserved for the
different. You can
birds and the
totally
larger
tell.
pig variations. I suppose they thought the 5-inch pigs with a longer cut looked awkward back in 2010, but here they didn't even bother. The Minion King Pig.
Oh, and the
returned as
Minion King Pig.
which was a mistake, actually cropping up towards the tail end of 2013.
And go back to him again.
For the next time Russian assortments.
Great
But for
assortment,
some
but you're
reason,
missing
it
a
was
couple of
only on the
characters there,
8-inch
eh?
variation in
Next
both
time.
instances. Although they were no longer doing monthly production
Here's a nice
runs,
I-12
they were
production
still
run.
selling
Those
enough
are not the
toys to
Walmart
justify
ones, by the
making
way.
more and more
Those
a
have
year.
HK12
Well into 2017,
factory
no
codes on them.
less. But you would figure they would
My King
cease
Pig's a
altogether in
D17.
2018 when the gig was up.
That's
But
pretty late.
incredibly, they continued. Now under a phony name to disguise themselves as some general wholesaler with old stock.
I thought this was fitting.
Sallow Toys.
This is often a meme template we use around here. I think we did this with Mighty Mojo as well.
Oh, wait a minute.
It was only for a few select characters, such as Bomb and the Mighty Eagle, but the fact they kept going behind
Those are the ones I've
back
seen
was
anyways.
astonishing.
I've also seen it on a
There
golf
are
club
Bombs
cover.
and Eagles from as late as November 2018.
This bomb,
for crying out loud.
this bomb right here, this one that I have pictured, this is actually sitting in the Commonwealth office. We have a couple toys just from all sorts of different licenses that they've had over the years. And the bomb that we have is this K18 Sallow Toys bomb. He's got all the tags and everything. It's just kind of a weird example to have.
Bombs and Eagles from as late as November.
That's great, though. I got some good
2018
photos
for
of it.
crying out loud. And Bomb didn't even have
Yep,
the
there it
correct
is.
sound chip tag. In 2019, Amazon
And then
imposed stricter seller guidelines that would have
it came
forced
to an
Commonwealth
end.
to show evidence of a license. And as you'd expect, they didn't want to go through that trouble. Thus ended an era after nearly an entire decade.
And so, I would go over this whole ending segment here. I talk kind of at length. This is kind of an unscripted segment. I always plan to do something like this
Not
at the end of
the
this video, where I just kind of give my final thoughts. Because this is just, it's such an important video to me. And I sincerely hope that this video, it leaves an impact on people. It brings awareness to how just absurd collecting these things is, how crazy their history is. You're just not going to see something like this with any other collectible. It's baffling to me that this is how it has to be. I have to make a 2-hour video, 2 hours, 10 minutes, and 21 seconds to explain the history of just 9 toys. It's incredible. And it's just information. It's non-stop. There is not a dry moment in this video, not a dead moment. It's incredible. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but in this particular circumstance, if you're seeing this video and you've given it a cursory watch, it's just, or if you happen to watch this director's commentary, this gets recommended to you, and you haven't seen the whole video, first of all, go watch the whole video, but please share it with your friends, promote it in any way you can. I would really appreciate it. I'm really not asking for all that much. I just want people to see the full extent of how much I care about these things. And this certainly isn't the only video that I'll make in this style. Not to this degree, this 2 hour, 10 minute, and 21 second ordeal, but there's other videos on the channel that go into the same amount of detail, although they're a bit more abbreviated, a bit more bite-sized than this. 20 minutes is by no means bite-sized, and in the case of Star Wars 2, that's like an hour long. That's not bite-sized either, but hopefully a video like this kind of, it sits with people. This should leave an impact on the larger YouTube community, not just our little community. So this was a lot of fun. It's the first director's commentary I've ever done, and maybe I'll do in the future, but no promises there. So I guess it's time to wrap it up, right? So I guess if you have any comments, questions, or complaints, you can leave them down in the comment section below, or if you happen to be watching this as a bonus feature on your Angry Birds Plush documentary DVD. Mail in, I guess. Yeah, well, I don't know what to tell you. Anyways, any comments, questions, or complaints, leave them, blah, 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 blah. And with that, I say, peace out. Yeah?